Hi everyone, please subscribe to my channel. Blood Immortal. See playlist for other chapters and novels. Join now our Telegram channel now and enjoy exclusive early access. t.me/blood_immortal_official. I do not translate the novels. Credits goes to original translator and author of the novel. I only make it as an audiobook so it would be easier to just listen while doing other things. Credits goes to the author of the novel. I convert stories to audiobook for mental health, for multitasking purpose, for accessibility and time saving. Listening to audiobook is also beneficial for people who have disability. It improves our listening skills and improve our English comprehension, vocabulary and other things. So, thank you for listening. Thank you and thank you very much for your support. Chapter 121 Surprised. 3 days later, they came to the depths of the island again. The vast snow-capped mountain is full of yin, and one can imagine how unfathomable the devil's skill is, but Kiki is not afraid, and screams angrily in front of the snow-capped mountain with the ice palace hidden in the belly of the mountain. At the same time, its imprisonment directly removes the gate of the snow-capped mountain. The dark wind blew violently, and a burst of dark mist rushed out, which looked extraordinarily scary in the cold snow-capped mountains. Yan Qingcheng's face was not very good-looking. She did not expect that Xiao Chen would dare to provoke the devil on his own initiative. He is really a lunatic. When the dark mist cleared, the devil came out. His pale face was more angry than before. He asked in surprise, "I heard the roar of the Dragon King, why didn't you leave?" "I missed the divine ship, and I want to know more about the king's ship from you." Xiao Chen directly explained the purpose of coming. But Kiki looked at the devil angrily, as if she wanted to pounce on it. "So that's the case." He didn't answer Xiao Chen, but first smiled at KK and said, "Everything is going well. If it's fast, it will take 2 months. If it is slow, I will return the sacred tree to you, much faster than expected. I will do what I said, and I will definitely repay you in the future." KK nodded angrily. After greeting Kiki, the devil turned around and said to Xiao Chen, "I have a way to summon the king's ship, but I'm afraid that you can't bear the attack of ghosts on the holy ship." "Is it so serious?" By instinct, Xiao Chen knew that riding on the king's ship seemed to be risky, far less safe than riding on the ancestral dragon god's ship. Yes, because it was not prepared for people. The king's ship is also called the ghost ship, and part of the king's remnant soul is sealed on it. Ordinary living people riding on it, if they don't have the corresponding sacred weapon, they may die. Yan Qingcheng has gradually understood what's going on, excited and frightened at the same time, thinking that the king's ship may be very strange and terrifying. Isn't it okay to have Kiki's holy tree? It probably won't work, and it may conflict. It's better to find a sacred object that is feminine, rather than one that is full of vitality. Where are we going to find this? Xiao Chen couldn't help feeling embarrassed. Dead City. When the devil mentioned this name, he was also very unnatural, as if he had a taboo. Xiao Chen immediately shook his head. With his cultivation level, it was already a miracle that he survived last time. How could he seek his own death again? The devil looked at Xiao Chen and said, "Well, you can wait for 3 to 5 years, I can take you out of Long Island together, and I can keep you safe on the king's ship." 3 to 5 years? The time is too long. Didn't you say that the dead breath will fade away within a few months? Xiao Chen asked puzzled. All I can say is that I don't need to use the holy tree anymore, but it doesn't mean that my meritorious deeds are complete. You need to wait a long time. Xiao Chen was silent for a while. Is it really going to be trapped on Long Island for several years? He wanted to help Kiki get back the sacred tree and leave here immediately. He really didn't want to stay on the deserted island anymore. Is there really no other way? I said that you only need to find a female sacred object. It's just that this kind of thing can only be found in the Dead City. If I knew it earlier, I should have brought that shroud out of the Dead City. Xiao Chen couldn't help but think of the blood-soaked cloth that he got when he killed the evil spirits in the Dead City. Shroud. The devil's eyes lit up, and he asked, "What's going on?" Xiao Chen recounted the situation that day in detail, and the devil sneered, "Can such a shroud be considered a holy object? At most, it was soaked in the blood of a powerful god. How can it be considered a holy object? However, after you said this, it reminded me of one thing. There are some stone inscriptions on the island. It seems that there is such a female holy object at the base of the god tablet in Jundao." "What holy object?" Yan Qingcheng asked. She really wanted to leave here immediately. "Shroud," replied the devil. "It's a shroud again, what's the difference?" Xiao Chen asked. "It's a female sacred object that drives God crazy, because its origin is too great." The devil said slowly. This made Yan Qingcheng even more curious, and now she is no longer afraid of the devil, and asked, "How big is the background?" It is said that it is the shroud of the Swearin clan. As soon as the devil said this, Xiao Chen was stunned and tongue-tied. After a long time, he said, "How is this possible? The ancestor god Swearin has passed away." Yan Qingcheng also shook his head and said, "It's absolutely impossible. It is rumored that the ancestor god Swearin is haunting the southern wilderness of the Longevity continent. Although he has disappeared for endless years, he is absolutely impossible to die. No one can kill him." The devil shook his head and said, "I don't know the truth. These are just the legends and records on Long Island. However, even if there is the shroud of the Swearin family at the base of the stele, you can't get it, because even I can't get close to it, unless there are holy artifacts like the Buddha's body and the golden halberd to open the way." Hearing the golden halberd, Kiki's big eyes widened, and she babbled helplessly and frustratedly. It had already got it, but disappeared inexplicably. After leaving the snow mountain, Xiao Chen, Yan Qingcheng and the three skeletons came to the Sea of Bones again. Looking at the tall sacred monument, they were helpless. Because they can't go deep into the foundation of the divine tablet at all. The evil spirit is pervasive there, smashing all the tangible qualities that come close. "Yan Qingcheng, maybe we will never be able to leave this island for the rest of our lives. We can't believe everything the devil says, who knows if he can take us away from here." "I don't believe in the devil's words either," Yan Qingcheng responded. "In case we are trapped on Long Island forever, the marriage issue can be resolved, but it's still too lonely." Xiao Chen sighed. "Go to hell." Yan Qingcheng ignored Xiao Chen and walked away coquettishly. Now there are only the two of them left on Longdao. Yan Qingcheng is no longer worried about being killed, but he is a little worried that Xiao Chen will have bad thoughts. In fact, Xiao Chen is a very normal man who also has emotions and desires, but right now he is struggling to escape from Long Island, so he is not as bad as Yan Qingcheng thinks. If there is, it must be when you no longer worry about survival. King Qin Guang, King Yan Luo, and King Reincarnation are at peace with each other, and they are quietly practicing near the Sea of Bones. Xiao Chen takes KK to investigate nearby every day, looking for solutions. The same is true for Yan Qingcheng most of the time. Half a month later, when Xiao Chen went to the mountains to hunt wild game, he unexpectedly met that stubborn and lonely little dragon again. It was still the same as when we met in the past, with scars all over the body, but this time there was no fatal injury. And its unicorn has grown a short section, shining milky white light, very magical. Xiao Chen was surprised to find that Xiaolong's strength seemed to be much stronger than before, and it seemed that it could really improve its own strength in battle. Maybe it can slowly transform, make itself stronger, and become the strongest under the Dragon King. The little stubborn dragon met again. "This time you are not in a mess." Xiao Chen took out the heart of Snow Lotus and gave it a piece, which made Kiki a little dissatisfied, and babbled a few times, because this time the little dragon did not have a fatal injury, so there was no need to waste the delicious food it hadn't had time to enjoy. The dark brown little dragon quietly ate the Snow Lotus heart, and then did not leave immediately, looking at the kind-hearted man and beast in front of him with some curiosity. After all, Xiao Chen had already saved it several times, although it thought that no one else needed to save it at all. "Little stupid dragon, you are so embarrassed when you fight with people every time. I really don't know why you are so aggressive. Hey, it would be great if you were a dragon king. Go to the sacred mountain of your dragon clan and steal the horn of the ancestral dragon for me." Well, it's really whimsical. Even the Dragon King may not have touched that thing. Hearing that Xiao Chen wanted to steal the ancestral dragon's horn, the dark brown little dragon immediately showed vigilant eyes, and stared at him like a villain. Xiao Chen was amused by this little guy's expression. Speaking of which, this little dragon is also very spiritual, and can fully understand his words. But at this time, what surprised Xiao Chen was that KK actually muttered to little stupid dragon, as if they were talking. What surprised Xiao Chen even more was that the black-brown Shalong also babbled a few times. The voice was very immature, similar to KK, and seemed to be responding to KK. Faint, can the two little ones communicate? Xiao Chen was a little unbelievable. Not long after, the dark brown little dragon turned around and walked away. It seemed to be very fast, indeed much stronger than before. "KK, what did you say to it just now?" "Yeah," Kiki pointed in the direction of Guai. "Did you tell it about our difficulties?" "Yeah," the little snow-white beast nodded vigorously. At sunset, Xiao Chen was grilling meat near the Sea of Bones. After so many days, KK's chubby belly finally dissipated a bit, and it was finally able to enjoy delicious food. At this moment, a young dragon shadow appeared in the dead forest. The dark brown little dragon came here and quickly appeared in front of Xiao Chen. "Come on, little stubborn dragon, let me treat you to something delicious." Xiao Chen greeted, but then he froze for a moment. The little stubborn dragon had something in its mouth. It was only more than 1 meter long, and the object was dragged far behind. "No way, no way," Xiao Chen cried out in surprise. Chapter 122 Nine Nether Heavens. Because what Xiaolong brought was actually cloth, the kind of black-red that had been soaked in blood. "Don't you want to tell me that this is the shroud of the Suiran clan?" Xiao Chen looked at the little dragon in disbelief. This is indeed an unbelievable thing. Whether it is the shroud of the ancestor god Suiran or not, it is already miraculous that Xiaolong can find such a shroud. Kiki has already chatted with Xiaolong while enjoying the delicious food. Xiao Chen looked carefully at the black cloth in his hand. It seemed that it was indeed an ancient relic that had gone through endless years, and it gave people an aura of infinite time. Unlike the one in the dead city last time, this piece of cloth didn't have any evil and cold aura. It felt like it was just an ancient relic, and there was nothing special about it. Yan Qingcheng also came over when she heard Xiao Chen's exclamation, and opened her mouth in surprise after seeing the shroud. The two little beasts are enjoying the barbecue, and the little stubborn dragon seems to have never eaten cooked food, so he is no longer stubborn at this moment, eating with relish and at the same time responding to Kiki's babbling. Finally, KK pointed to Xiao Chen's sacred monument, then pointed to the shroud, and finally pointed to the direction of the sacred mountain of the dragon clan. "You mean that this shroud was originally at the sacred monument, and then it was taken to the holy mountain by the dragon clan?" Xiao Chen asked in surprise. Kiki nodded, and then pointed to the stubborn and aloof little dragon. "It means that the little stubborn dragon told it." Xiao Chen and Yan Qingcheng looked at each other in blank dismay, and then shouted at the same time, "This is really an unexpected result." This made the two little beasts look at each other in blank dismay, and then began to bury their heads in their mouths. "Hey, you two, save some for me, I haven't eaten yet," Xiao Chen said to the two beasts while looking at the shroud. As a result, the two little beasts ignored it and ate harder. When Xiao Chen appeared in the snow-capped mountains again, the devil couldn't believe his eyes when he looked at the shroud, and said excitedly, "It seems, it's true. I can feel the smell of holy blood. Even if this isn't the shroud of Suiran, it probably belongs to Lao Tzu, Buddha and others. Is this still comparable?" Xiao Chen was speechless for a while. The devil said, "Okay, those who want to leave Dragon Island should concentrate on refining this shroud every day, and then they will not lose their souls when they take the king's ship." "How to sacrifice with the mind?" Yan Qingcheng asked earnestly. Compared with Xiao Chen's cultivation level, she has never sacrificed any magic weapon or sacred object, so she doesn't understand it at all. "It's just to put your spiritual thoughts into the shroud and imagine being one with it. You go, I won't need the little holy tree in 2 months, and I will return it to you at that time, and help you summon the king's ship." "You really helped us summon the king's ship, so what will you do in the future? How will you leave?" The devil laughed and said, "Whether it's the ancestral dragon ship or the king's ship, after completing the mission, they will automatically return to the Forbidden Sea. The important thing is to have the ability to summon them." 2 months passed in a flash. Xiao Chen and Yan Qingcheng focused on refining the shroud of the ancestral gods every day without distraction, while KK and the 3 skeletons were also forced by Xiao Chen to stare at the shroud for a while every day. Finally came the day when the devil came out, and the ghostly aura that reappeared was indeed gone, as if he had really become a normal person, but his face was still pale. The happiest thing is KK, the little holy tree was lost and recovered, and the little snow-white beast rolled around in the snow mountain excitedly. "I will repay you well in the future." The devil smiled at KK. Then, he brought Xiao Chen and the others to the beach like lightning. "Summoning the king's ship is quite troublesome. It will take about 7 days. You have to wait patiently." After saying these words, the devil began to scratch on the beach, engraving mysterious and unpredictable patterns on the sand, and then took out dozens of broken ancient flags and inserted them in the key parts of those patterns. In an instant, gusts of wind suddenly blew up between the sky and the earth, followed by dark clouds and thunder. There are also bloody waves surging among the dark clouds in the sky. The scene is indescribably strange and terrifying, and this is just the beginning. In a trance, Xiao Chen once again felt the scene of the dead city emerging that day. The sky and the earth were filled with dark energy, and the billowing black clouds surged violently, as if they were about to overwhelm the earth, and bloody lights shone from time to time. The tragic evil spirit filled the sky and the earth, as if the end of the world was coming. Are devils really only demigods? Xiao Chen was full of doubts, he didn't really believe it. The devil has been out of trouble for endless ages, is it true that he has not taken a step? Although Long Island was sealed, he might have found some way to increase his strength, otherwise how could he have created such a terrifying scene? Yan Qingcheng also had doubts in her heart, and she was even more afraid of the strength of the devil. In the devil cloud where people could not be seen clearly within a few meters, she looked in awe at the devil in front of her who was forming in formation alone on the golden beach. The three skeletons are very calm, but the occasional light of souls flickering in their skulls shows that they seem to be vigilantly visiting with taboos. Kiki was full of curiosity, blinking her big eyes. She didn't understand where the devil's broken banners came from, and confused it like a magic trick. The snow-white little beast was not afraid of anything, and ran over without any scruples, babbling and asking around the devil, as if it didn't care about it at all. It's a very simple thing. When you grow up, you will understand. These are just small supernatural powers. Open up a field of your own to store items. Yeah, Kiki was still puzzled and yelled a few times in dissatisfaction. The devil stopped what he was doing, and slid past him with a crack, and a gloomy space door appeared in front of him, and KK hurriedly backed away in shock. In the rear, Xiao Chen and Yan Qingcheng vaguely saw that there were really some horrible things in the door of the gloomy space. In a daze, they saw several huge skeletons and some flowing black liquid. The devil quickly closed the door of the space, smiled and said to KK, "You see, this is the space, it is only a small supernatural power for you in the future, and you will learn it by yourself when the time comes." KK watched with interest as the devil continued to carve out the ancient formation, and ran around happily beside Xiao Chen from time to time. It could be seen that the little beast was in a good mood. In half a day, part of the devil's ancient formation has been completed, and the cloudy energy in the sky has become more intense, and it has a tendency to liquefy. The tragic evil energy makes Xiao Chen and Yan Qingcheng feel that it is difficult to gain a foothold here. If this continues, I am afraid that they will be killed by the mist. They hurriedly unfolded the shroud of Suorenshi, the ancestor god, and blocked it in front of them. This made Yan Qingcheng quite embarrassed, and actually wanted to wrap the shroud with Xiao Chen. The effect is obvious, the seemingly ordinary black and red cloth, without any fluctuations, blocks all the evil spirits outside and prevents them from approaching. Woo! The dark wind howled, and there were bursts of ghostly howls in the sky, which came down through the dark clouds, unspeakable terror and horror. The devil looked up into the dark void and said to himself, "Have you come?" What's coming?" Yan Qingcheng's words trembled a little, and she was very uneasy. From the beginning until now, she didn't fully trust this devil. "They're here." The devil didn't explain who it was, which made Yan Qingcheng feel even more uneasy. Although Xiao Chen knew that the devil would not attack them, he still felt a little uneasy in his heart. After all this was too strange and terrifying. In the dark void, dark clouds rolled, blood gleamed, and the shrill ghost voice became even more tragic, as if it was not far from the sky above their heads. "Don't be afraid, you have the shroud of the ancestor gods, they won't attack you." The devil turned his head and said to the two, "This is the ghost war spirit floating in the sky and the earth. Only by summoning these remnant souls can we summon the king's ship." The scalp-numbing shriek sound was getting closer and closer, as if it was screaming right in Xiao Chen's ears. This situation really made it hard to calm down. Even the little snow-white beast Kiki kept making low noises, as if resisting those voices. Only the three skeletons were relatively calm, and the sound of howling ghosts did not affect them very much. Boom! Accompanied by bursts of thunder, the dark sky seemed to be pierced, and streaks of bloody light appeared. Suddenly, Xiao Chen and Yan Qingcheng saw a huge black shadow standing between the sky and the earth, roaring above their heads, which was unbelievable. 7 days, does it really take 7 days? Yan Qingcheng's voice was trembling. It would be too much torture for them to stay here for 7 days. The devil looked back at them and said, "Well, it does take 7 days, but you don't have to stay here, you just need to complete the summoning ceremony here on the last day. However, don't go too far, maybe you will be needed in the middle of the journey. The power of this 9 nether-reaching heaven formation is immeasurable, and I cannot fully control it." Juyutongtian formation, Yan Qingcheng exclaimed. "I seem to have heard the name of this ancient formation, it seems to be one of the most mysterious ancient formations in legends, but I can't remember the details." The little girl knows quite a lot. This was created by a king back then, and it is the holy formation of the dark race. Although I got a broken formation, it is closely related to my achievements today. I hope it can help me regain my original memory. Xiao Chen and the others quickly withdrew from the seaside area. From a distance, there were demonic clouds lingering there. It was completely dark from the sky to the ground. Ghost shadows could be seen vaguely, and even the screams of ghosts could be heard. Many fierce beasts on the edge of the frightened island all fled away from that area. In the next few days, Xiao Chen and the others began to prepare for leaving the island, collecting a large amount of coconuts, and driving on the sea. Fresh water is a must. Although they can endure hunger and thirst for a long time based on their cultivation base, but if they have the time and conditions to prepare, why should they suffer? In the past few days, the dark mist in the seaside area has become thicker and thicker. Without the shroud of the ancestor god Swiren, it would be impossible for Xiao Chen and the others to enter there. The black mist is almost liquid, and it feels extremely sticky when walking inside. Yan Qingcheng once did an experiment and drove a wolf into it, but it was wiped out in an instant. One can imagine how terrifying it is here. Even KK and the 3 skeletons had to be sheltered in the shroud, but fortunately, the cloth was long enough. Thunderclaps sounded by the sea from time to time, the golden sea seemed to be shaking, and the vicinity of the beach had become a forbidden area. During the past few days, phantoms have appeared from time to time, and they are so powerful that this place seems to have temporarily become a kingdom of death. Even though they knew it was far from being able to compare with the dead city, Xiao Chen and Yan Qingcheng still felt the great danger. Finally, on the 7th day, the devil's formation has been completed, enough yin energy has been accumulated in the past few days, and many remnant souls wandering on Dragon Island have also been summoned, meeting the requirements for summoning the king's ship. The seemingly peaceful Long Island didn't know that a strong man had fallen in the distant past, and the power of the remnant soul was strong enough. I need the blood of one of you to start the real summoning ceremony. The devil looked at Xiao Chen and the 2 in the dark mist. His expression was a little pale, scratching the ancient formation map, accumulating yin qi and remnant souls. It was extremely exhausting, and he had almost exhausted his strength in the past few days. Wait a minute, Kiki hasn't come yet. Xiao Chen looked back. In the past few days, the little beast has been haunted, and always goes to the depths of Long Island alone, not knowing what it is doing. Xiao Chen can let it be mischievous, as long as it doesn't cause serious trouble. I've already told it, I want it to come back earlier today, why hasn't it appeared? Xiao Chen looked in the direction of the depths of Long Island suspiciously. At this moment, there was a sudden violent crashing sound from the depths of the island, as if a mountain had collapsed. Boom! The ground in the seaside area was trembling, as if an earthquake had occurred. One could imagine how violent the fluctuations in the distant area were now. Chapter 123 The King's Ship. In the outer area of the dark mist, the devil immediately rose into the sky in shock, looking into the depths of the island. How could this be? What is it doing? He seemed very surprised. What's the matter? Take me up, Xiao Chen called from below, and instinctively knew that it was probably KK who made the noise. The devil waved the cannon sleeve, and a black mist swept Xiao Chen into the air, standing on a high place together with the devil. Then the devil led him to rush towards the depths of the island, and they stopped in a smoky area, where they could clearly see the scene ahead, only to see a mountain peak collapsed. The little snow-white beast Kiki was fleeing among the mountains. Its speed was extremely fast, like a white light rushing. And behind it there is a black iron seal, driving the monstrous devilish energy, chasing and smashing it like a hill. Behind it, the trees collapsed, and the rocks splashed, and a wide road was opened up by it and the black iron marks. Xiao Chen felt a headache. This little snow-white beast is really fascinating. It made such a big noise in just a few days, and it found the legendary iron seal. It was too messy. Xiao Chen clearly remembered the scene of that day in the dead city. Apart from the Buddha's body, the horn of the ancestral dragon, and the golden spear among the sacred objects that bombarded the steel, there was also the iron seal of this black mist. How did KK find it? The devil also frowned deeply, and said to himself, it's really messy, how could it be like this? The iron seal is not as easy to find as the golden spear. I haven't found out where it is, but it was found by it. But how can I touch it? It's so messy. In the distance, Kiki's screams could be heard from time to time. Obviously, the little beast was also frightened. Knowing that it had caused a catastrophe, it tried its best to get rid of it, but it was always unsuccessful. If it wasn't for the protection of the colorful sacred tree above its head, the little snow-white beast might have been in danger already. Hurry up and find a way to save Kiki. Xiao Chen was very worried, and had already used an orderly tone to the devil before he knew it. I have no choice. My cultivation is unable to resist the iron seal's attack. It is one of the few holy artifacts in the world. Although it is imprisoned by the power of the seal on Dragon Island, there are still not many people who can block its frontal bombardment. The devil sighed, feeling powerless. Then what should we do? Xiao Chen looked worried. The devil also frowned, but relaxed it after a while, and said, I guess it will be safe and sound. Why do you say that? Xiao Chen also gradually calmed down, because he knew that anxiety could not solve the problem. The ancient golden spear failed to do anything to you back then, and this iron seal should be similar to the ancient golden spear. Presumably that little beast should be able to escape the killing smoothly. The devil speculated in this way. Boom! There was a violent crashing sound in the distance, and a cliff wall was blown down by the iron seal, but Kiki escaped dangerously into a mountain range, and disappeared from Xiao Chen's sight. Continuous crashing sounds came from the depths of the mountains, causing thousands of beasts to flee and howl. The mountains trembled continuously, and smoke and dust filled the sky, soared into the sky, and there were bursts of barbarian roars from farther away, as if responding to everything here. After at least half a quarter of an hour, everything was calm again, and there was no sound of smashing or cracking. The depths of the mountain range were quiet, and even the beasts had escaped. Everything seemed so peaceful. Xiao Chen's heart sank, and the devil also showed a bad premonition, leading Xiao Chen to rush over, only to see a mess deep in the mountains. The collapsed forests and sunken areas are too wide. It seems that this place has experienced a catastrophe. That powerful iron seal completely disappeared, as if it had never appeared before. Kiki, Xiao Chen called loudly, little beast. There were rustling sounds from the crumbling forest, white light flashed among the chaotic leaves, and a small snow-white beast came out ghostly. He patted his heart with a small animal claw in a very humane way, as if he was very scared, then let out a long breath and made a babbling sound, as if wondering why the iron seal disappeared. Xiao Chen was really angry and funny. This little beast was sometimes afraid. The devil led him down. KK looked up at them, and then babbled continuously, as if telling Xiao Chen what happened just now. You are such a troublesome little ancestor, Kiki, you are so delusional. I am really scared. If I take you out of Long Island, I really don't know what kind of trouble you will cause in the future. Xiao Chen felt a little emotional, as if he had already seen some bad things in the future. The little snow-white beast turned its head to one side, as if very unconvinced. Where did the iron seal go? Xiao Chen asked. KK blinked her big eyes, and shook her head in confusion to express her ignorance. That's a real holy weapon. It won't disappear completely like the golden spear again. Xiao Chen felt that something was wrong. Kiki was a little annoyed, and then showed an innocent look. Her big eyes were full of innocence, as if she was saying that it had nothing to do with it. Xiao Chen was completely speechless, and really didn't know what to say. The devil earnestly searched the area for more than half an hour, and finally let out a long sigh helplessly. He really didn't understand what this little snow-white beast was capable of. It actually made 2 holy artifacts disappear one after another. You really don't know how it disappeared? The devil looked at the immature little beast suspiciously, wanting to confirm it one last time, but when he saw that innocent expression, he completely let go of the idea of searching, and felt powerless facing this little beast. The devil surged with dark mist, wrapped Xiao Chen and KK into the sky, left here, and flew towards the sea. Wait a minute, Xiao Chen said unnaturally to the devil, you should know that the reincarnation kings are all skeletons. If they enter the longevity continent rashly, it may cause some unnecessary troubles. I want to borrow something from you. What kind of person is the devil? He knew what he meant in an instant, and he couldn't help being speechless. After a while, he said, you are so brave, you actually knocked your ideas down on me. But, well, it doesn't matter if you fulfill them, those shed skins are meaningless to me. Having said that, he changed direction and quickly rushed towards the depths of Long Island. With his cultivation level, the distance was not a problem at all. He soon arrived at the top of the white snow mountain, dug out the snow coffin and wrapped the 3 molted skins for Xiao Chen. Although he was a bit unimpressed with the devil's molting, Xiao Chen still put it away. This will be the outfit after the 3 skeletons. Then they set off quickly and flew towards the edge of the island. Devil clouds rolled by the sea, and evil spirits soared to the sky. This place is really gloomy and hell-like. There are many ghosts struggling and roaring in the dark mist, and the evil spirit surges violently. A few particularly huge shadows stood inside like hills, and the tragic evil spirit emitted by them was the strongest. Landing on the golden beach, the devil led Xiao Chen and Yan Qingcheng into the dark mist, and he said, let's start summoning the king's ship now. Xiao Chen bit his middle finger, and let the blood flow down the finger, dripping on the engraved picture carved by the devil, although it was only a few dozen drops, but it played a great role. The blood drop seemed to be deified, emitting a dazzling red light, and then it started to swim quickly, like a blood-colored snake, swimming in the engraved picture, moving quickly on this golden beach. In the end, the entire formation was stained with the blood of Tan Tan, the black mist in the sky became thicker, the howling ghosts were deafening, and the huge ghost standing in the sky roared upwards, and the sound shook the world. The dark wind was mighty, sweeping towards the depths of the golden sea, a vast and terrifying aura seemed to pass through time and space, sending out some kind of information from Shao. Ghosts crying and wolves howling, this place is extremely noisy, and the tragic atmosphere permeates the whole world, making all the beasts on the periphery of the island tremble, as if this place has turned into a real hell. Xiao Chen and the others saw many ghost figures swaying around them, and in a trance, they even saw endless bones floating in the air, blood flowing all over the sky, a veritable place of death. Xiao Chen and the others were barely able to stand under the protection of the shroud of the ancestor god Suorenshi. There were ghosts everywhere around them. Woo! In the depths of the distant golden sea, there were bursts of shrill howls, responding to the ghost howls in the nine nether heavenly reaching formation, as if a huge monster rushed here from the sea. Woo! The shrill ghost voice became louder and louder, and the dark fog in the low altitude of the sea gradually rose, allowing people to clearly see the scene in the Taboo Sea. An ancient black ship as huge as a hill, sailed like a ghost, exuding a monstrous evil spirit, and the vast golden Taboo Sea was in turmoil. King Ship. Xiao Chen and Yan Qingcheng were extremely shocked. The legend was indeed true. There really was such an ancient ship that floated in the Taboo Sea all the year round after countless years. Woo! The whole body of the king's ship is black and shiny, looking at it makes people feel horrified, as if it is connected to hell, connected to the gate of ghosts. It is really frightening, and it is really a world of difference compared to the shining seven-colored ship. Chapter 124 Zulong. The two ancient ships with diametrically opposite auras gave people a very different feeling. Yan Qingcheng gritted her teeth secretly. If she had no other choice, she would never take this ancient ship. This is not prepared for people, it is clearly a ghost ship. It's getting closer, and it's getting closer. The king's ship is about to dock, and its shape is clearly in front of Xiao Chen and the others. The pitch-black hull was engraved with patterns of ominous ghosts, and the dark mist billowed around the ink-like ancient ship. A huge underworld lamp was hung on the ship, emitting a white and miserable light, making the ancient ship look even more eerie. After careful observation, Xiao Chen and Yan Qingcheng gasped at the same time. At first they didn't see it clearly, but only now did they realize that the overall appearance of the king's ship looks like an upside-down skull with its mouth open. It's just that the opening of the mouth is a bit exaggerated, its arc is like a crescent moon, and it is the moon-shaped mouth that faces the sky, forming the upper part of the hull, and the rest of the skull is soaked in the golden sea. It is easy to make people have bad associations. Could this really be an ancient ship refined from a huge skull? A tragic black light shot from the ancient ship towards the shore, forming a bridge of death, allowing people on the shore to walk onto the king's ship along it. Get on the boat, maybe we still have a chance to meet. The devil smiled at Xiao Chen. Thank you. Xiao Chen saluted the devil. You're welcome, this is what I should do. I said that I must repay Kiki heavily. The devil smiled faintly. Yeah, Kiki didn't seem to appreciate it, and ran angrily not far away. With a light wave of the little animal's paw, a colorful light emerged, covering a large pile of coconuts, pineapples, oranges, amethyst pears, sweet dates, etc. on the beach, and then ran back happily, and sent them all from the Black Ghost Bridge to the king's ship. Now, its chubby belly has dissipated, and it can be said that it has no restrictions on all kinds of food. There are many strange fruits that it likes, and Xiao Chen specially asked Xiao Chen to collect them. Seeing such a large pile of fruits successfully delivered to the ancient ship, Keiki felt a sense of accomplishment and showed an extremely satisfied expression. Just when Xiao Chen and the others were about to board the ship, there was a burst of roaring sound from behind them, which was as deafening as thunder. The ghost whistle stopped, and the dragon whistle started again. The scene was a bit shocking. Xiao Chen looked back and saw 10 huge dragon shadows appearing on the seashore, roaring towards here. They turned out to be the 10 royal branches of the dragon clan, including Tyrannosaurus, Lion King Dragon, 8-armed dragon, Stegosaurus, etc., no more, no less, 10, the real 10 royal branches. This is. Yan Qingcheng was extremely shocked, and there was a trace of fear on her beautiful face. The dragon clan is so powerful that even the devil dare not provoke it. If these savage dragons attack now, the consequences will be disastrous. Woo! A low mournful cry came, and an inconspicuous little dragon reluctantly bid farewell to the branch of the top 10 dragon clan kings. It turned out to be the little black stubborn dragon, the extremely arrogant little dragon who was always challenging everywhere. It reluctantly lingered in front of the top 10 dragon clan leaders, and was still unwilling to leave. The 10 high-ranking dragons closest to the Dragon King also all walked forward and surrounded the little dragon. The blue tyrannosaur, the golden lion king dragon, and the silver 8-armed evil dragon all lowered their heads, lovingly licking the little dragon's body. Xiao Chen and Yan Qingcheng were relieved. The 10 wild dragons would never attack them, they were sending the little stubborn dragon off. The devil showed a shocked expression, staring blankly at the barbarian dragons in front of him, and murmured, "Could it be? How is this possible? It can't be like this," but... At the same time, Xiao Chen and Yan Qingcheng also thought of a certain possibility, and they all showed incredible expressions. No, definitely not. After a period of days, the devil came to his senses and denied the conjecture just now. At the same time, Xiao Chen and Yan Qingcheng overturned that possibility, and they said at the same time, "It can't be Xiao Zulong." The devil shook his head vigorously, then looked at Xiao Chen and said, "I remember that you once saved this little dragon. It seems that your kindness will be reciprocated. Although this little dragon cannot be an ancestor dragon, its importance to the dragon clan cannot be lower than that of the companion dragon king. This time it will leave with you, and it will definitely follow you. Treat it well. I think of a legend of the dragon clan, this is a little dragon with unlimited potential." Yan Qingcheng looked at Xiao Chen with eyes full of envy and jealousy. Now anyone can see that Xiaolong is different, and he is no longer the little stupid dragon before. Although it wasn't like when the 11 little dragon kings left, many savage dragons on the Dragon Island sent each other off, but this time, although there were only 10 giant dragons to send off, each one represented a branch of the dragon royal line. It is easy to think that Xiaolong's identity seems to be known only within a small area within the dragon clan. This is a little dragon full of mysterious life experience. What kind of identity does it have, and what kind of legend about the dragon clan do you think of? Yan Qingcheng looked at the devil, she was eager to know the answer. I'm not too sure. I only saw a speculative record on a remnant stele on Dragon Island. There is a dragon that will not leave Dragon Island at the same time as the Dragon Kings. It will travel alone. Could it be Xiao Zulong? Yan Qingcheng asked hurriedly. Probably not. Since there is the title of Dragon King on the remnant stele, it is impossible to call the ancestor dragon like there is a dragon. But at this point, the devil was not too sure, until he felt the power of the little stubborn dragon, and then reaffirmed, it is far from being as powerful as the little dragon kings. How could it be the little ancestor dragon? Certainly not. Kiki blinked her big eyes, and looked at those savage dragons curiously. It already knew that the little one-horned stubborn dragon was going to accompany them, so it let out a cheerful cry, babbling, and ran forward, not afraid of the 10 savage dragons at all. It was too late for Xiao Chen to stop it, but the devil smiled meaningfully. He wanted to see the reactions of these dragons to speculate how powerful the little beast's life experience was. The cute little beast like a snow-white pom-pom was not afraid of anything, rushed to the side of the little black stubborn dragon, babbled, jumped on the little dragon's back excitedly, and then circled around it, completely ignoring the 10 kings who were closest to the Dragon King. The little stubborn dragon was very dissatisfied and let out a low growl at KK, but there was not much hostility. After all, they were old acquaintances, and seemed to know that this naughty little beast was naturally stubborn. However, the 10 savage dragons and 10 pairs of dragons all straightened their eyes, fixedly staring at the treasure tree hat of the little snow-white beast, and then all raised their heads to the sky and howled loudly, shaking the sky. They were like humans discovering a new continent, staring at the little snow-white beast. The 10 savage dragons didn't attack KK for the time being. They looked at the little beast with strange looks, and seemed to have various emotions such as doubt, anger, and shock. Finally, the 8-armed dragon was the first to move. It opened a giant claw towards the treasure tree hat of the little snow-white beast, trying to take it off. In the distance, Xiao Chen was extremely nervous, fearing that this little snow-white beast would be killed by the dragon clan. The little beast Kiki was not afraid at all. Seeing a huge dragon claw coming towards him, it glared at the 8-armed dragon angrily, babbling in dissatisfaction, as if questioning something angrily. The strange thing is that the 8-armed dragon seemed to understand it completely. It hesitated a little and slowed down the huge dragon claw. It didn't fall down immediately, but it was very unwilling, and it stopped above Kiki's head and shook back and forth. The other royal savage dragons were also hesitant. In the end, the irascible Lion King dragon stretched out its huge golden dragon claws, and pressed it fiercely towards KK. It seemed determined to take back the sacred tree of the dragon clan. Yi, the little snow-white beast seemed to be extremely angry, glaring at its big eyes full of aura, vigorously swung its claws, and shot a beam of colorful divine light over the Lion King dragon, trying to immobilize it with the confinement technique. However, the Lion King dragon is a royal family that is infinitely close to the real Dragon King. Although it has been sealed with powerful supernatural powers, its tyrannical body still makes gods feel trembling. In the distance, the devil sighed. The dragon race is indeed the most terrifying, and its innate advantages are beyond the reach of other races. But Xiao Chen was extremely worried. He was afraid that KK would die. Although the confinement technique did not block the giant golden claws of the Lion King dragon, the savage dragon stopped by itself. The confinement technique displayed by the seven-colored light is the great supernatural power of the dragon clan. If it is stronger, it will not be as simple as confinement. If the 10 savage dragon kings had not been sealed in power, they would all be able to display this powerful law of the dragon family, which is a great supernatural power belonging to the dragon family. Yi, Kiki looked at them without fear, angrily pointing at them one by one with her little animal claws, as if she was questioning something. This made Xiao Chen and the devil in the distance look at each other. They couldn't guess, couldn't deduce, and didn't know why the little beast behaved like this. Comma 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 comma. Advertise a friend's new book. Title: Imperial Physician of the Qing Dynasty. ISBN 1136277. History. New book. A surgeon's time travel. See how he played around the Kangxi dynasty. The writing is exquisite, the story is vivid, friends who like historical novels can enjoy it. Chapter 125. Situation. Xiao Chen was full of doubts. KK is a little orphan. It doesn't even know who its parents are, but why does it seem to be arguing with the branch of the dragon clan? And it seems to be arguing that it knows a lot of things, which is really strange. Suddenly, Xiao Chen thought that Kiki was born with confinement skills. Maybe all of this was inherited from nature, and because of this, she knew a lot of things, which made her argue with the Dragon King like this. 10 savage dragons and 10 huge dragon claws were constantly shaking above the little snow-white beast's head. The blue Tyrannosaurus claws, the golden Lion King dragon claws, the silver-white evil dragon claws. It seemed that they were all hesitating. Looking at all this, the devil felt very unnatural. If he was surrounded by 10 savage dragons, he would not be as fearless as Kiki. In the end, the top 10 savage dragons seemed to restrain their killing intent, and each withdrew their destructive claws. It was incredible that their attitudes were also quite different. When they looked at the little snow-white beast, they even looked a little doting. Such a transformation was too fast, making Xiao Chen and the others feel a little unbelievable. Even the 3 skeletons opened their jaws silently. The little snow-white beast didn't appreciate it, turned its fat body angrily, and ignored them, but waved its claws at the little stubborn dragon, as if urging it to go on the road. This is a very speechless picture. In the end, the little stubborn dragon covered with black dragon scales reluctantly bid farewell to the 10 savage dragons, turned his head 3 times at a step, and followed the little snow-white beast towards the sea. There were crystal tears in its big eyes, and it was another very spiritual little beast. The devil stared at the little snow-white beast for a while, and then focused all his attention on the jet-black little dragon, as if he wanted to see through its essence, but the little dragon had a very personality and ignored him at all. Go on board, I wish you a smooth journey. The devil patted Xiao Chen's shoulder and said, I'm sure we will meet again. The dark mist had dissipated. Xiao Chen held the shroud of the ancestor god Suorenshi and walked forward first, and stepped onto the black ghost bridge. Although at this moment, ghost voices could be vaguely heard in his ears, but Xiao Chen's heart was not in a state of confusion, and he strode forward. All the discomfort disappeared again, and the ghost energy retreated, and they boarded the king's ship smoothly. The devil shouted, once the person who provided the blood to summon the king's ship boards the ship, he will set sail immediately. You should not rush around on the ship. It is best to stay in a fixed place and make a banner of the ancestor god's shroud and stick it next to it, so that you will be safe and sound. Remember, don't go to the deep part of the cabin without permission, it is best to stay on the deck. These words made Yan Qingcheng feel a little uneasy. She looked at Xiao Chen, and whispered, there will be no problem, right? According to what he said, there should be no danger. Xiao Chen waved at the devil and said, thank you very much, goodbye. Yan Qingcheng also waved her hands with a complicated expression, bidding farewell to Long Island, which she will never forget. The 3 skeletons also stretched out their bone palms and waved at the devil a few times. KK jumped onto Xiao Chen's shoulder, and whispered to Long Dao, as if she was also saying goodbye. As for the little stubborn dragon, his eyes were full of tears, and he howled continuously at the 10 savage dragons, which was very inconsistent with his usual aloof and belligerent personality. The 10 savage dragons raised their heads to the sky and roared loudly. They watched Xiao Chen and his party board the evil ghost ship, and watched them go away. Bon voyage, the devil shouted loudly. Goodbye. Goodbye, goodbye Long Island. The ancient ship gradually drifted away, Long Island could no longer be seen clearly, and finally disappeared. Only then did Xiao Chen turn around. Both Xiao Chen and Yan Qingcheng were very moved. Even the three skeletons were no exception, silently looking towards the direction of Long Island. After all, that was their birthplace, and there was their past there. The three skeletons are very unusual, and the light of the soul in their eye sockets is constantly beating. If they cultivate to the ultimate level one day, they may come here to chase their dreams and come back again to trace their identities. In this line, perhaps only the little snow-white beast is the most relaxed. It has already buried its head in drinking coconut juice, and it doesn't seem to have any sadness. As long as there is the little holy tree by my side, it seems to be the same wherever it goes, and it doesn't feel lost. The lonely and arrogant little stubborn dragon also gradually calmed down, looking at the king's boat like Xiao Chen. The boat was full of yin. If there were no shrouds floating around them, it would be really difficult to stay here. The ancient ship was very huge, and the direction of the cabin was shrouded in mist. A huge ghost lamp hung there, emitting a pale light, giving people a very bad feeling. Xiao Chen firmly remembered the words of the evil spirit. He didn't want to go to the cabin to explore, otherwise his life might be in danger. He believes that Yan Qingcheng will not mess around, and the three skeletons are also doing their duty, but the one who is worried is the little snow-white beast. Kiki, please don't be naughty. This time we are risking our lives to walk through the taboo sea. You must not act recklessly, and you must not explore in the direction of the cabin. Xiao Chen had to seriously warn it that the little beast is not a law-abiding master by nature, and it must be vaccinated first. Hearing this, KK raised her head and looked in the direction of the cabin, her big eyes suddenly brightened. Stop it, don't mess around. Xiao Chen felt that something bad was going to happen, and seemed to remind this troublemaker unintentionally. Yeah, KK nodded aggrievedly, looking a little listless. Little stubborn dragon, you have to watch it carefully. Xiao Chen assigned a task to the black little dragon. As the ancient ship passed through the golden sea, the golden waves fluctuated and were extremely beautiful, like a magnificent holy land drawn by a magic pen. Yan Qingcheng tried to throw a coconut into the sea. As a result, the coconut was shattered in an instant just after it left the range of the black light emitted by the king's boat, and disappeared completely, as if there was no dust left. This is a terrifying picture. If a person of flesh and blood falls into it, there is no doubt that the same result will result. Xiao Chen secretly rejoiced that even though he missed the ancestral dragon divine ship, he still had the king's ship to travel instead. Otherwise, such a sea of forbidden gods would really be difficult for even a god to pass through. The golden sea is not as calm as it is seen at the seaside, it becomes more and more turbulent as it goes deeper. The forbidden sea stretches as far as the eye can see, and it is a piece of yellow. If you don't consider its danger, it is really magnificent and beautiful, which makes people fascinated. Gradually, Xiao Chen discovered a problem. The king's ship seemed to be moving slower and slower, as if it had encountered great resistance. Yan Qingcheng also discovered this problem. At first they were worried that there was something wrong with the hull, but it turned out that this should not be the case. It seemed that there was a strange force preventing the ancient ship from sailing out of this sea area. It was not the same speed as when the kingship was summoned. There seemed to be a force in the dark controlling all of this. It seemed to know that the ancient ship carried people or things on Long Island, so it exerted force to stop it. Although the speed slowed down, it was not completely stopped after all. The ancient kingship was moving forward slowly, somewhat faster than the walking speed of ordinary people. Yan Qingcheng frowned and said, I thought I could sail away from the Forbidden Sea very quickly, but I'm afraid it will take many days to travel at this speed. After all, it is said that the Golden Ocean has a radius of thousands of miles. Don't be in a hurry, there's no need to be so anxious. Xiao Chen smiled faintly, and said, you don't need to think about those, let's think about the problems between you and me. You, what are you going to do? Don't come here. Yan Qingcheng seemed to have thought of something, and she backed away in fear, but she didn't dare to stay away from the area where the shroud was. What did you think of? Do you think I want to put on a good show in front of 3 white skeletons and 2 little beasts? Even if you have that sentiment, I don't have that kind of obsession either. Some things require sentiment and depend on the environment. Yan Qingcheng was speechless in anger, the other party was obviously teasing her and using her to adjust his mood. What do you want? I'm wondering if I'm going to destroy the flowers with my hands. Speaking of this, Xiao Chen's expression gradually turned cold. This is not a joke. And Yan Qingcheng also clearly felt the other party's killing intent. She didn't want to die, and a sense of fear surged in her heart, especially just seeing the hope of getting rid of Long Island. If she shattered her dream at this time, it would be too cruel. There seems to be no room for buffer between you and me, and it is always a threat to me not to kill you. Yan Qingcheng understood that the other party was definitely not threatening her. Since she rushed out of Long Island, she didn't have to worry about being alone. There was no longer the terrible consequences of being alone on a deserted island. Now she can be killed completely. It can be said that she is indeed worthless at this moment. After thinking about it quickly, Yan Qingcheng calmed down and said, "You can't kill me, you know that I don't have any sect relationship with Wang Zifeng and Lu Yu, and avenging them at the beginning was just to protect the face of the sect. It can be said that there is no real hatred between you and me. It is true that there was no hatred at the beginning, but the facts are now in front of us, and there is no room for maneuver." Xiao Chen looked at her calmly. The more this happened, the more uneasy Yan Qingcheng became. She said, "I swear that I will not tell you that you once killed the undead sect. There is no obstacle to resolve all the grievances between you and me. That's not a reason, it's just an excuse for you to let me let you go. Listen to what I have to say." Yan Qingcheng continued. Actually, the matter about Wang Zifeng and Lu Yu can be completely exposed. However, everyone on the godship has seen the matter of you killing my uncle Wang Hao. If you kill me and enter the world of longevity, you will be in great trouble. Only by keeping me will you be safe. Oh, let's talk about it. Xiao Chen has been looking at her quietly. In fact, this is the reason why he didn't do anything. Leave me, and I'll help you get rid of the charges. Yan Qingcheng had completely calmed down. How can you help me get rid of it, and how can I trust you? Xiao Chen took the absolute initiative, because he controlled Yan Qingcheng's life and death. Many people saw that my uncle took action against us and was killed by you in the end. Whether it was the opinions of outsiders or the truth of the matter, it showed that we were on the same front. We were grasshoppers on the same rope. Only by cooperating could we get rid of the murderous intent of the undead gate. They blamed my uncle for everything, saying that he was jealous and wanted to kill me, a younger generation, and because of this, he also implicated you. In fact, his performance that day was very poor. Many people can testify that the situation is very favorable to us. Quote, "Many people know that I captured you as a slave girl. Who would believe us in our cooperation?" Hearing the word female slave, Yan Qingcheng's face turned red and then pale, very annoyed, but it was impossible to burst out. Yan Qingcheng gritted his teeth, and said, "Everything can be overthrown. We are actually allies. We were acting at the beginning, and everything was to survive on the dangerous Long Island. That was done to create an illusion for outsiders so that we could win by surprise when necessary. We can find Monk Yijun, Lu Ruyan, Lu Mu and others to testify. Especially since I, the victim, insist on this, outsiders will not doubt it." Xiao Chen smiled, and said, "You sound very nice. Who knows if you will overthrow everything once you enter the longevity realm, and put me in danger directly. Instead of doing this, it is better to kill you directly. You are too small to look down on the gate of death. If you really kill me, plus you killed Uncle Wang Hao, once you are found, you will die without a place to bury you. Please don't take chances. I believe that many people have seen the profound arts you know, and they will definitely spread to the gate of immortality. From now on, unless you don't use force, it will be exposed sooner or later. Leaving you really can completely free me from danger." Xiao Chen was calm and composed, but his killing intent remained undiminished. "Yes, I promise we will win together, I can swear." Yan Qingcheng truly felt Xiao Chen's killing intent, forcing her to make a decision. Compared to being able to survive, she could even forget the experience of being captured. "But I can't trust you. This is the biggest problem, unless you have the means to convince me." Chapter 126 The Forbidden Sea. Chapter 123 The Forbidden Sea. Yan Qingcheng was really speechless. In fact, it was true. If she thought about it in another way, she would be even less likely to believe Xiao Chen. She knows that there is a possibility, that is to sacrifice herself, and perhaps only through marriage can she be able to gain the trust of the other party. The other party should understand that a proud and arrogant woman like her values the sanctity of the body more than life. Perhaps only in this way can Xiao Chen be convinced. But how could she be willing? Especially this former enemy, even though she has to compromise now, she still can't bear that kind of result. However, if you don't do this, how can you gain the trust of the other party? According to Xiao Chen's mind, she will kill all dangers, and she is not allowed to live. The king's ship moved forward slowly, swaying waves of light in the golden sea, and the black ancient ship was particularly eye-catching against the shining taboo sea. Looking from a distance, it seems to be a huge, upside-down black skull floating, with black light shining, gloomy and evil. It's a strange picture, a captivating scene, only there isn't a larger audience for now. The ancient ship fell into silence. Xiao Chen took a good rest, seemed casual and relaxed, as if he had forgotten what happened just now, and was looking at the golden ocean, admiring the magnificent taboo golden sea. However, Yan Qingcheng knew that the other party's killing intent had not diminished. It was only because she took the absolute initiative that she could kill her, a captive with closed skills, at any time. She is struggling fiercely in her heart. She doesn't want to die, she is still young, has an infinitely bright future, and the future is full of light, but how can she survive? Is there really a big sacrifice to be made? Yan Qingcheng is a woman with great ambition and extraordinary talent. She doesn't want to live a mediocre life. She wants to surpass her predecessors and create a world of beauty, but she doesn't know how to overcome the current difficulties. Do you really want to cross the bottom line in your heart? Leaving Long Island, everything changed. The two people who had a delicate relationship had to think about it, not as simple as struggling to survive on a desert island. Now they had to think about the future and all possible things that might happen. Everything was very peaceful, except for the sound of the two little animals eating food. Kiki didn't have that much thought now, she was eating all kinds of strange fruits with relish. Apparently, the lonely little dragon was gradually influenced by KK's lifestyle, and he no longer resisted the delicious food, enjoying it happily like a small snow-white animal. The three of Qin Guangwang and the others were very quiet, sitting beside the shroud, motionless like three fossils. They seemed to have fallen into a state of dead silence and were quietly cultivating. Occasionally, the light of the soul flickered in the eye sockets, and the lotus imprint on the forehead was shining brightly. I don't know how long it took. The sky gradually darkened. Xiao Chen also smashed some unknown nuts, and began to enjoy dinner. This is a strange feeling. In this taboo sea where even demigods cannot stand, enjoying wild rosin fruits, drinking coconut juice, and watching the sunset dye the golden sea red, there is something special about it. As night fell, dots of stars appeared in the sky, a different kind of starry sky, full of breath of freedom. Xiao Chen felt extremely relaxed, and left Long Island seriously. At this time, KK suddenly screamed. Xiao Chen, who was looking up at the sky, was startled, and turned around hastily, only to see Kiki taking off her treasure tree hat, babbling. The little stubborn dragon looked at it curiously. The aloof little dragon didn't seem to covet the holy tree like those little companion dragon kings. What's wrong with KK? Xiao Chen asked it suspiciously. The little snow-white beast was still pointing at the treasure tree hat and babbling non-stop. It seemed very surprised. It must be something happened to the little holy tree. Xiao Chen walked up to it, knelt down and lightly touched the small tree and felt a little warm, as if there were energy waves rippling. Xiao Chen was also full of doubts. Yan Qingcheng was also very surprised, and turned to look here. There were indeed weak to almost imperceptible fluctuations, but neither KK nor Xiao Chen had noticed before. The little holy tree seemed to be absorbing energy from the outside world. Under the darkness of night, Xiao Chen's keen spiritual sense was exerted to the extreme, and he finally saw clearly that there were some slightly invisible golden spots in all directions, floating slowly towards the little holy tree. This is power in a sea of gold. Xiao Chen was taken aback. The little holy tree hadn't changed too much, it was able to absorb the divine power of the taboo sea. Because the fluctuation was too weak before, no one noticed it, but now Xiao Chen, Yan Qingcheng, the two little beasts and the three skeletons all know what happened. The little snow-white beast babbled excitedly, wanting to put the little holy tree into the golden sea, but halfway it stopped its actions angrily, because it thought of the horror of the golden sea. After fully understanding what was going on, Xiao Chen was very moved. The sea of taboo seemed to be pregnant with infinite divine power. If it was absorbed by the little holy tree, it might make it grow up a little bit. Let me try it. Xiao Chen held the small tree and gradually approached the ship's side. At this time, the holy tree emitted a brighter light, and the gathered golden light spots were obviously much more. Xiao Chen didn't dare to rashly expose the little tree to the king's ship. After all, he had seen it before. Without the protection of the black light emitted by the ancient ship, all tangible qualities would be shattered. Although this is a legendary sacred tree, it is difficult to say whether it can withstand that kind of divine power. Xiao Chen's arm has reached the edge of the ship's side, more and more golden light spots are gathered, and the little holy tree has quickly absorbed these divine powers. He ventured forward again, and was a little out of the ship's side, but he was still within the range of the black light emitted by the ancient ship. The golden power gathered more quickly, and there seemed to be many tiny fireflies flying in all directions, rushing towards the small tree. This is a gratifying result. Seeing the divine power being absorbed by Xiaoshu truly gave people a very strong sense of gain and satisfaction. KK blinked her big eyes and ran around, extremely excited. It's just that Xiao Chen can't always hold the little tree like this. Finally, he retreated, wrapped the shroud around the small holy tree, and hung it on the ship's side. It was a joyful night, with stars dotting the sky. The king's ship is moving forward slowly, the small holy tree at the stern is shining golden, and it has been surrounded by more and more light spots. The night wind blew gently, and the depths of the Taboo Sea were not as dead and silent as imagined, there was also wind and waves. Although Xiao Chen and the others felt creepy in the area of the cabin, under the protection of the Shroud of Swearen's shroud, the stern area was still peaceful. Under the soft moonlight, the two little beasts had already snored slightly sweetly, and the three skeletons had also completely fallen silent. Xiao Chen looked at Yan Qingcheng, not worried about her sneak attack at all, and fell asleep in peace. With his current spiritual perception, he would wake up instantly if there were any abnormalities, and the opponent's skill was sealed by him, so it couldn't cause any harm to him. I don't know how long it took. Xiao Chen woke up from a deep sleep, he heard a low growl, it seemed that there was a ghost voice floating. In the direction of the cabin, the huge underworld lamp was emitting a miserable white light, but it couldn't really illuminate that area. The pale faint light was confined to a very narrow range in the darkness. Farther away is like a dark portal connected to hell, deathly gloomy and frightening, with no sight to be seen, and the deep ghost voices coming from there. At the same time, there seems to be the sound of walking in the cabin. This is a creepy atmosphere. You can't see it, but you can only hear it, making it even more frightening. Suddenly, the huge king's ship shook violently. It was as if a huge monster was turning its body in a dream in the cabin. People could clearly hear the tumbling sound and ghostly voices like talking in dreams. The tragic evil spirit rushed up, making the stars in the sky seem to be dimmed. The black mist was floating around the ancient ship, seeming to blacken the golden seawater nearby. Not only Xiao Chen woke up early, Yan Qingcheng also sat up nervously, and the two big eyes of the two little beasts stared at the cabin ahead without blinking, and the divine lights of the three skeleton souls kept beating. This is indeed a ghost ship. It is so evil and scary. There is no doubt that there are very bad things on the ship. You can clearly see the dark mist floating on the entire ancient ship. If it is not for the shroud of the ancestor god Suorenshi to protect the stern, I am afraid that this place will also fall into darkness. The gloomy ghost voice was roaring, and the terrifying walking sound continued to come out, and the king's ship showed its stern side. However, it was close to dawn at this time, the dark sky was gradually becoming more lively, and those abnormal sounds were subsiding. Xiao Chen and the others finally breathed a sigh of relief. If something bad came out of the cabin of the ancient ship, they might be in a very dangerous situation. Even though they were protected by the shroud, it was still difficult to guarantee absolute safety. At this moment, Kiki jumped to the edge of the ancient ship, and the little beast was looking for the little holy tree. Xiao Chen was also surprised when he looked back, only to see that the shroud had already fallen halfway over the side of the ship, and the little holy tree had sunk, and was no longer in their sight, out of the scope of the black light covering the side of the ship. This made Xiao Chen's heart sink, and he walked over quickly, but then he relaxed again. Although half of the shroud and the small holy tree were out of the range of the black light, they were not shattered. On the contrary, the golden light outside the ship's side shone with divine light. As expected of being soaked in the blood of the ancestor gods, the shroud is still so ordinary without any brilliance, but it has not been destroyed by the power of the Taboo Sea, which is really rare. And the little holy tree is even more miraculous. Because the king's ship is too huge, it is suspended in the air by half of the shroud, and it is impossible to touch the golden ocean. However, the golden light rising from the Taboo Sea is like water waves, connecting it with the sea level, as if the two have been connected. Although the energy fluctuations are not very violent, it is obvious that people can feel that there is a trickle of streams that are continuously gathering towards the little tree, and the golden power is being absorbed by it. Although it is not as vast and boundless as imagined, but if it continues at this speed, the little holy tree will still absorb endless power. The gathering of small stalks, slowly absorbing, as long as there is enough time, the little holy tree will definitely grow a little bit. The sun is rising, the morning glow is falling on the sea, a new day has begun, and the big ship is still moving forward slowly. The rising sun seems to radiate infinite vigor, making the gloomy king's ship no longer so threatening. Dots of golden light are rippling in the sea, everything is so peaceful and calm. Those who don't know the truth will find it hard to believe that every inch of space here can crush demigods, even gods. The snow-white little beast and the little stubborn dragon seemed very unsuited to this kind of journey, because they both had active personalities. The two cubs crossed the shroud and the sheltered area several times, and went towards the direction of the cabin, but Xiao Chen stopped them. Yan Qingcheng's mood was very chaotic, she couldn't make a decision, she couldn't make a choice in her heart, because the price was too high. Xiao Chen didn't know what this stunning beauty was thinking, but he was not in a hurry, he had plenty of time, maybe the other party would really help him come up with a safe idea. The sun rose and the sun set, and 4 days passed in a blink of an eye. Another night fell. In the past few days, every night on the ancient ship was very restless, and there were always terrifying sounds. There were even a few times when Xiao Chen really felt the tragic evil spirit breaking into the range of the shroud. And once in his sleep, he was awakened even more, and saw a few terrifying shadows staring at them not far away. On the night of the 4th day, the starlight was a little dim. Amid the undulating waves of the forbidden sea, the ancient ship seemed a little depressed and unusually calm. It was late at night, but there was no ghost sound as usual, but Xiao Chen couldn't really fall asleep. He felt the unusual atmosphere, and finally fell into a state of sleeplessness. Chapter 127 Shensho. Finally, Kiki's lively and active character made her unable to hold back, and finally crossed the boundary of the shroud and ran to the area of the cabin. The snow-white little beast was so daring that it jumped onto the ever-bright underworld lamp with a bang, watching it curiously. Woo! Although the howling sound was not very loud, it could clearly reach Xiao Chen and the others' ears, and the sinister wind blew over. In an instant, the little beast's snow-white and shiny long hair stood on end, and the sudden sound startled it, and jumped down hastily. On the other hand, the little stubborn dragon was full of fighting spirit, and had already leaned half of his body into the cabin. The black dragon's scales shone with a little brilliance, as if he was eager to fight, no matter whether it was a ghost, a beast or a human. Xiao Chen woke up with a start, he felt very helpless. These two cubs are not ordinary beasts, it seems impossible to really suppress them and stay still, but it is really inappropriate to boldly explore like this. Roar! A huge roar came, it was a terrifying sound wave full of death breath. The warlike little stubborn dragon was shaken out of the cabin by a mysterious force, ghostly voices sounded at the same time, as if thousands of people were whispering and crying at the same time, it was extremely scary. The little snow-white beast and the little stubborn dragon hesitated for a while. The invisible enemy made them realize that the situation was not good, and they retreated unconsciously. At the same time, bursts of black mist surged out of the cabin, rolling like dark clouds, and dozens of ferocious shadows were vaguely seen shaking, as if they wanted to rush towards the two cubs. Brush! The divine light flickered, and Kiki's supernatural confinement technique was displayed, and the colorful light group shrouded forward, covering all a dozen shadows, and then slammed into the depths of the cabin. As if some kind of balance had been broken, the golden sea, which was originally peaceful and calm, suddenly howled with a dark wind and fog. The king's ship was shaking violently, and there was a horrifying howl in the cabin, and the tragic evil spirit instantly enveloped the nearby space. The eerie atmosphere made this area seem to have fallen into a netherworld, all the starlight in the sky was covered, and the roar was deafening. It was a veritable ghost sound. The big ship was shaking violently, and it was shaking and moving forward. Come back soon. Xiao Chen was really angry. The two little beasts retreated slowly, still staring nervously ahead. Didn't I tell you not to go there? Seeing Xiao Chen questioning it like this for the first time, the little snow-white beast pointed in the direction of the cabin aggrievedly, and then made a gesture of baring its teeth and claws. Xiao Chen listened carefully to understand what it meant. There were terrifying ghosts peeping at them in the cabin. The two little beasts rushed over just because they discovered that the monster had ulterior motives. The intuition of the divine beast is really powerful. Xiao Chen couldn't help but sigh, his spiritual sense, which could perceive without seeing or hearing, actually failed on the ancient ship. No abnormality was found, and he couldn't see through any foreign objects deep in the cabin, but the two cubs were keenly aware of it. It seems that I blamed you all wrongly. As a reward for you, Xiao Chen broke off some snow lotus hearts and began to distribute them. Yeah, Kiki yelled dissatisfied, as if saying that it belonged to him. After careful observation, both Xiao Chen and Yan Qingcheng felt that ghosts from the direction of the cabin seemed to be really unknown and were watching them. This is a very bad sign. The ancient ships are traveling at such a speed, they may have to pour over the Forbidden Sea for a long time. God knows what terrible things will happen if things get serious. Boom! The big ship shook violently again, which surprised Xiao Chen and the others. Just now, the ship tilted, as if it was about to capsize in the Taboo Sea. A deep but extremely terrifying sigh sounded in the ancient ship, as if a powerful evil spirit woke up from a deep sleep. This is a kind of silent depression, which makes people feel that it is extremely difficult to breathe, and there is a real sense of suffocation. This atmosphere shocked Xiao Chen and the others, and the current situation was so worrying that even KK, who was fearless, calmed down. Only the eyes of the little stubborn dragon showed a blazing light. It was full of fighting spirit and seemed ready to rush over at any time, just like its unyielding state when it faced the companion Dragon King on Long Island. Xiao Chen hastily pressed it down, jokingly, in this situation, there must be no outside power to irritate the unknown but extremely terrifying existence in the cabin, and he only hoped that the sky would light up sooner. However, after the terrifying atmosphere lasted for an hour and a half, it slowly dissipated, and nothing happened. The black mist gradually receded, and the stars in the sky appeared again, as if nothing had happened. Occasionally, there would be ghost sounds from the cabin, but Xiao Chen and the others preferred to be in this state all the time, because this kind of ghost whistling and low whistling could not be compared with the oppressive atmosphere just now. After all, they could truly feel that these things did not threaten their lives, and the terrifying atmosphere that appeared just now accompanied by a sigh was the most dangerous. A ray of morning sun finally appeared in the eastern sky, and then the red sun jumped out of the sea, and a new day began, and the terrifying atmosphere of the night was completely gone forever. At noon, Xiao Chen was delighted to find that the light from the small holy tree under the ship's side became more and more intense, and the colorful small tree was shrouded in golden light. Pulling it back to the boat, you can see that it has produced a fourth leaf. Perhaps it is more appropriate to say that it is a young bud, and several golden young leaf rudiments have already emerged. This makes people feel a sense of satisfaction and joy. It is really a visible harvest to see the growth of the little holy tree. The palm-high tree did not grow taller, its trunk was vigorous and powerful, like a horned dragon, and there seemed to be a little vicissitudes of life on it. From bottom to top, there were black jade leaves, white jade leaves, jasper leaves, and golden buds. Obviously, golden jade leaves may take shape in the Sea of Taboos. Of course, the happiest thing is the little snow-white beast. Xiao Chen put the little tree overboard again. He also looked forward to the further growth of the little holy tree, and wanted to know what would happen when it finally grew. Slowly moving forward in the vast Sea of Taboos, in the next few days, although horrible things happened on the ancient ship from time to time, there was no danger at all. Time passed quickly. 10 days had passed in this somewhat dangerous and tense atmosphere. The golden jade leaves of the little holy tree had almost grown, shining golden, and at the same time crystal clear, like a jade vessel, with endless divine power flowing on it. The strength he usually draws from the Sea of Taboos is not much, but the long-term accumulation has accumulated enough strength to make it grow. After traveling for such a long time, the speed of the big ship seemed to be much faster, and the color of the Forbidden Sea gradually changed, from golden to light golden. Xiao Chen knew that they were going to the outskirts of the Forbidden Sea, and they were very likely to leave this terrifying sea area. Yan Qingcheng was surprised and delighted, seeing the hope of getting out of trouble completely, but she also knew that there was not much time left for her, and she had to make a decision. It is really time to leave the Taboo Sea. The color of the sea water is gradually changing to pale gold, and the speed of the king's ship has surpassed the speed of ordinary people trotting. It is obvious that the peripheral divine power of the Forbidden Sea has decreased, and the resistance has been greatly reduced. But on the 14th day, an extremely miraculous event happened, and the sound of Buddha came from afar. This is really too weird. This is a Sea of Taboos. Although it is on the edge, it is still impossible for anyone to be able to live in it safely. Now there is actually a Buddha's message. The body is a Bodhi tree, and the heart is like a mirror stand. The voice gradually became clearer and more melodious and pleasant. It was the voice of a young man, as if it was full of endless Buddha power. As it came over and over again, it sounded in Xiao Chen's ears like Huang Zhang Da Lu, like enlightenment, making people feel enlightened, as if they had some kind of insight. What I saw was an unearthly and refined figure, dressed in white clothes better than snow, stepping on the sea of golden taboo, coming out of the world with indescribable elegance, like a banished fairy coming to the world. As he got closer, and gradually he could clearly see that he was wearing a monk's robe. His whole body was extremely ethereal, free from any worldly vulgarity, and his upper body was covered with a faint white mist, making it hard to see his true face. The body is a Bodhi tree, and the heart is like a mirror stand. Wipe it diligently at all times, so as not to stir up dust. Xiao Chen and Yan Qingcheng were very surprised. It seemed a little unimaginable that someone could ride the waves in the sea of taboos. This person undoubtedly possessed incredible power. Immediately afterwards, they gasped at the same time, and the breeze gently blew away the mist from the upper body of the white-clothed monk, revealing his whole body. It turned out to be a headless corpse, an extraordinary headless monk. The mist drifted gently, covering his upper body in an instant, but Xiao Chen and Yan Qingcheng really saw the scene just now, although it was only a quick glance. Elegant and dusty, extremely sacred, but it is a headless corpse, which is really weird. Although it is full of the temperament of the immortal Buddha, it makes people feel a little scary. The headless monk in white was as light as a banished fairy, crossed Xiao Chen and the others, and walked away on waves. However, in just half a quarter of an hour, he turned back and caught up with the ancient ship again. Then it went back and forth like this, always floating around the ancient ship. At this moment, although his demeanor is supernatural, it feels like a ghost, and it is difficult for people to have positive associations. Could it be the legendary genius in Zen Buddhism? Yan Qingcheng's expression was not very good-looking. Xiao Chen had already realized that this headless monk was likely to be the legendary monk Shensho, who was as rich as jade and astonishingly talented. The body is a Bodhi tree, and the heart is like a mirror stand. Wipe it diligently at all times, so as not to stir up dust. This shojizi can be said to be famous for thousands of years, even if it is not Buddhist, it is well known. It's just that the amazingly talented and brilliant monk Shensho was a tragic figure, and his kimono was just born, but it has become a green leaf to accompany others. Bodhi does not have a tree, and a bright mirror is not a stand. There is nothing in the first place, where can there be dust? This jizi, which was born almost at the same time, came from the mouth of 6 groups of Huineng. The 5th patriarch Hongren wanted to pass on to the monk Shensho, but it was precisely because of the birth of Yijizi that he completely changed his decision, because he knew that another person might be more suitable to accept the inheritance. If Wei Nang had not been born, Shensho might have embarked on a completely different path. Shensho has made Huineng, and now, Bodhi has no tree, and mirror is not a stand. There is nothing in the first place, where is the dust? It has been passed down through the ages, but if there is no Shensho, there will never be Huineng's son. An astonishingly talented Buddhist sage, but his brilliance was completely overshadowed. Those who are familiar with the details will never forget this buried Buddhist genius. The legendary Buddhist great sage Shensho. Xiao Chen murmured to himself. He felt incredible. He was a person thousands of years ago in the human world. He never expected to meet him in this longevity world. Even though he lost his head and was not in a normal state, it still made his heart turbulent. Maybe he will be able to see more legendary characters in the future. The headless monk followed for dozens of miles, and finally disappeared in the sea of taboos, and did not continue to chase him down. What's going on here? How could it be like this? Yan Qingcheng was also emotionally agitated, unable to calm down, and said to himself, Dragon Island is really terrifying, there are such characters in the surrounding taboo sea. 2 days later, the blue waves ahead were surging, and the pale golden ocean completely changed its color, sailing out of the taboo sea. Finally getting rid of the cursed area, Xiao Chen and Yan Qingcheng were very excited. Even the 2 little beasts were jumping for joy, only the 3 skeletons, the ancient well was calm and peaceful. But at this moment, the deafening roar of the dragon seemed to come from 9 heavens, rolling and agitating in the sky above the blue sea, and the shaking seawater violently churned. In the distance, a large colorful ship shone with rays of light, coming by the wind and waves, like a giant dragon. It turned out to be that divine ship. It once carried away Yijun, Lu Mu and others. Xiao Chen didn't expect to meet them here, and he vaguely had a bad premonition. Sure enough, the divine ship came directly towards them from the outskirts of the Forbidden Sea, making endless waves, as if it wanted to overturn the king's ship. Roar! An extremely dull ghost howl uttered from the king's ship, and the black ghost ship did not show any weakness, as if it had a spiritual intelligence. It responded with a roar. Chapter 128. The Devil Smasher God. Chapter 125. The God of Demon Smasher. Be careful, Xiao Chen loudly reminded the people and beasts on board. Kiki, the little snow-white beast, nimbly rushed to the side of the boat, lifted up the little holy tree hanging outside, and hugged it tightly in her arms. The colorful rays of light soared into the sky, and the divine ship was approaching rapidly as if piercing through time and space. The evil ghost ship also speeded up in an instant, with endless wind and waves, and the devilish energy soaring to the sky. It moved forward quickly. The blue sea was violently turbulent, and the two huge ancient ships seemed to have an inexplicable gravitational force between each other, turning into two beams of light and rushing together. Boom! Accompanied by a thunderous sound, as if the sky had been turned upside down, endless blue waves surged up to the sky, covering the sun and the sky filled with seawater, and the sky was full of blue waves. Although the two ancient ships did not really collide, they seemed to collide in reality. The distance between the two was only 10 feet away, and the colorful light and dark magic energy were violently impacting and surging. Vaguely, one could hear bursts of dragon chants and ghost howls, and the sky and earth were shrouded in sunlight for a while, and the wind howled for a while. This inexplicable out-of-phase movement between the heavens and the earth was astonishingly powerful, as if the sky had been turned upside down. The vast blue sea is filled with an aura of destroying the heavens and destroying the earth, a powerful wave that makes people feel trembling as mighty between the heavens and the earth, just like the Milky Way falling from the 9 heavens and tilting down. It is everywhere, and it is as heavy as a $1 million mountain. At this moment, the most peculiar performance was the little stubborn dragon. When Xiao Chen and the others tried their best to stabilize their figure and lay prone on the boat, it stood upright and roared at the divine ship in front of it. There was a mighty destructive force ahead, and the entire sea was almost boiling. It was completely caused by power, and the white waves covered the sky, as if the end of the world was coming. But the little stubborn dragon is happy and fearless, facing all these firmly. Just when Xiao Chen and the others thought a more terrifying impact was coming, the two ancient ships suddenly crossed again. The divine light flickered, the demon energy surged, and the two ancient ships passed by, but in an instant, a ray of colorful light came from the divine ship, broke through the black light covering the king's ship, and swept straight towards the little stubborn dragon. "Get down," Xiao Chen yelled, because he felt the danger of that divine light. But the little stubborn dragon turned a deaf ear and stood there like a stone statue. The Can-Can Xiaoguang did not kill it, but enveloped it like a wave of water. Then came another burst of divine light. This time it didn't shoot at the little stubborn dragon, but swept towards the little holy tree that was tightly hugged by the little snow-white beast, and even Kiki was wrapped in it. The dragon boat rushed to the Taboo Sea, and the king boat sailed to the opposite Blue Sea. A destructive collision that was expected to happen was avoided in this way. But the two little beasts were ignorant at the moment, as if they were fixed by the two divine lights. Although they were far away from the area just now, the light had not dissipated. It wasn't until a little while later that they struggled violently, checking their status very spiritually, just like alert human beings. However, there was nothing unusual about the two little beasts, and the colorful light didn't seem to have caused any bad consequences. The blue waves surged, and the king's ship became faster and faster. After leaving the Taboo Sea, its speed continued to increase, and finally turned into a black light and rushed towards the Longevity continent. From time to time in the vast sea, islands were thrown backwards, and the king's ship rode the wind and waves, as if it was flying, without any obstruction, and made a low-pitched humming sound. It has to be said that this space is vast and boundless, much wider than the human world. After so many days passed, the sea area of tens of thousands of miles was already behind, and the king's ship began to slow down slowly, as if a huge and ancient aura rushed forward. Xiao Chen knew that it was probably not too far from the Longevity continent, and this kind of faint and vast aura should belong to the Longevity continent. He was secretly surprised. This world was indeed extraordinary. "Yan Qingcheng, do you have any way to convince me?" Hearing Xiao Chen's question, Yan Qingcheng felt somewhat fearful in her heart. She knew that if there was no decision, Xiao Chen would never show mercy. She wanted to make a move, but felt powerless, but she was extremely unwilling to make a woman's compromise. Yan Qingcheng was silent for a long time, and finally laughed suddenly, as if relieved, which was beyond Xiao Chen's expectation. "Why are you laughing? Let's make a deal with you." "Make a deal with me? What capital do you have now?" Yan Qingcheng hesitated for a long time again, as if she had made up her mind completely, and said, "Have you heard of the devil-smashing god?" "Devil god?" Xiao Chen was quite surprised, staring at Yan Qingcheng for a moment, and said, "There seems to be such a kung fu in the human world, which is the legendary first heavenly kung fu. The human world is an imperfect skill, it is a kind of demon, and the longevity world circulates a kind of god. The two are not the same. Even in the longevity world, the magical skill of breaking the devil is considered a supreme skill. How about I trade it with you? Pass it to you, and you let me go." "Ha, do you think this is enough?" Xiao Chen laughed loudly, and said, "The so-called all roads lead to longevity. No matter how wonderful the broken demon seed god is, it is not very attractive to me. You must know that the top-level cultivation technique in this longevity world is not just a broken demon seed god. Yan Qingcheng sighed, made up his mind, and said, okay, if this deal fails, let's use another method. Since you have heard of this technique, you should know its magic and divinity. Yes, I know that although this technique is extremely powerful after it is completed, it is also extremely demonic. In the process of cultivation, people need to be used as cauldrons, and there is great danger. You're right, cultivating the demon-smashing god requires a cauldron to entrust one's own obsession. It is the most difficult method among all kinds of skills, and it is extremely dangerous. And in this process, if the skill is lower than the cauldron, then it will be bound by the cauldron. You cannot resist, cannot escape, and cannot struggle. You should know what this means. For thousands of years, it can be said that there are only 3 or 4 people who can truly cultivate. What do you want to tell me? Xiao Chen asked. I want you to be my cauldron. Do you know what this means? Those who cultivate the devil smasher god will definitely choose someone whose cultivation level is far lower than their own. However, if I practice this kind of cultivation method like me, the chance of success is too slim. It can be said that a ray of my obsession is placed in your body. If our fate is connected, I can't harm you, because I can't live when you die. Besides, my skill is lower than yours, and you are not in any danger. I am the one who is controlled. Xiao Chen smiled, while Yan Qingcheng gritted his teeth. This was a compromise in a different direction. Being so controlled by Xiao Chen, everything could happen. Xiao Chen, you should believe that I won't harm you after entering the longevity continent. However, I have a condition. After I send a ray of obsession into your body, you can't deal with me. We won't meet each other within 3 years. Xiao Chen smiled, shook his head and said, how is this possible? We haven't seen each other for 3 years, and once you succeed, won't I become the real cauldron for your cultivation, and then I will be controlled by you and become your prisoner for nothing. Throughout the ages, only 3 or 2 people have really practiced this technique. You overestimate me too much, and you are too unconfident about yourself. Do you think your cultivation progress will be caught up by me? Well, if you are not confident, you can cancel the 3-year agreement. Yan Qingcheng looked at Xiao Chen provocatively, and her peerless appearance had a different kind of temptation. As far as I know, once the devil-breaking god starts to practice, it will take at least a year to form the restrained karma. Xiao Chen was obviously moved. No matter how long it took, the two had such a connection. As long as Yan Qingcheng didn't succeed, Yan Qingcheng would die if he died, and he would not be affected at all if Yan Qingcheng fell. Of course, the premise is that Yan Qingcheng can't surpass him, and can't practice this technique that few people have practiced for thousands of years. If he is restrained by Yan Qingcheng under such circumstances with all kinds of favorable conditions, Xiao Chen feels that he can smash tofu and die. Yes, it will take a year, but since the obsession has entered your body, what else do you have to be afraid of? If you make the slightest mistake, I will follow and suffer. Yan Qingcheng is betting on her own fate. She wants to take a chance, and she wants to compromise by practicing this skill in a helpless situation. Maybe Xiao Chen was constrained in this process, but once she succeeds in cultivation one day, their relationship will be completely reversed. Okay, since that's the case, I have nothing to say. But I have some doubts. It seems that not everyone can get this skill. It's true that not everyone can get it. Except for a few patriarchs in the lineage of immortality who have this miraculous cultivation method, others don't know about it. The reason why I got it is because of another romance. Yan Qingcheng didn't say anything, and Xiao Chen didn't ask. Then there were some troubles. Xiao Chen broke Yan Qingcheng's seal and restored her skills. With his current cultivation level, he didn't worry about his resistance and escape at all. After an almost miraculous process, amidst bursts of rays of light and various phantoms of gods and demons, a ray of spiritual light shot into Xiao Chen's body from Yan Qingcheng's eyes, and a certain connection was created between them in an instant. At the same time, a vast and boundless continent appeared in their eyes, and an aura of vicissitudes and eternity rushed towards them. Chapter 129 Encounter. Severe cold. I told everyone in advance that I will not update today, but I insisted on writing a chapter after all, so I uploaded it. The monarch ship slowed down rapidly. It seemed to be really intelligent, and after approaching the longevity continent, a black light burst out, rushing to the shore. Like a magic bridge, Xiao Chen and the others were thrown up uncontrollably and then slid along the magic bridge. When they really stood on the shore and felt the breath of the earth, Xiao Chen and Yan Qingcheng seemed to be separated from each other, and they finally came to the longevity continent safely. Woo! A deep and faint voice came from the king's ship. It burst out with a magical light, and then swayed endless blue waves, and went away without looking back. The sea was divided into a white channel. According to Xiao Chen's instructions, the 3 skeletons put on the devil's skin slough, and then put on the animal skin clothes, and they walked towards this continent together. Just as he took a step forward, not far away, more than a dozen figures appeared in the woodland on the beach and surrounded them. Xiao Chen noticed that this area seemed to have experienced fierce fighting, and there were large cracks on the coast that were shaken open, and there were bloodstains in many places. The people who surrounded them were all young men and women, and none of them were simple people. The men were handsome and the women were as beautiful as flowers. It was obviously unusual for such a group of people to appear at the beach together. It could be seen that they were all cultivators, and their cultivation was not weak. Junior sister, you came back safe and sound. ... Exclamations came from the front. Some of those people were happy, some were surprised, and their expressions were different. His at %. Xiao Chen felt a little speechless. He didn't expect to run into someone of the undead line as soon as he landed, but he didn't panic. Yan Qingcheng rushed over quickly, talking to them excitedly. Now, the fates of Xiao Chen and Yan Qingcheng have been linked together. Yan Qingcheng can't have other thoughts, but will try his best to dispel rumors for him about what happened on Long Island. Standing there, Yan Qingcheng looked otherworldly and refined. Although those young men and women were considered outstanding, they still couldn't compare with them. A few very unfriendly gazes came from the opposite side, which belonged to several young men. Although those women were not hostile, they also stared at Xiao Chen and the others warily. Xiao Chen quietly watched those men greet Yan Qingcheng, and listened to their courteous words. Junior sister, why did you come back on such a strange ship? It's also fortunate that you returned a few months late, otherwise you would have been in danger. Not long ago, when the divine ship returned, the cultivators of various sects who supported the people of Long Island along the way had a tragic battle at the seaside, causing countless casualties. Yes, in order to compete for those companion dragon kings, blood flowed like a river, and even the demigods were dispatched. At that time, the coast was stained red with blood. It's terrible. That day demigods, fallen angels, and red dragons all appeared. ... Although what they said was very general, Xiao Chen knew clearly what had happened, and he frowned slightly. This is not good news. Lu Mu and the others don't know whether it is life or death now. But it was lucky for him to avoid a massacre. Junior sister, you are really powerful. Not only did you escape the bloody battle and return safely, but you even subdued a dragon king. I think Master Bo will definitely appoint you as helm. ... Yan Qingcheng was a little embarrassed. She didn't know how to explain that the little stubborn dragon was not hers, so she gave Xiao Chen a hard look. What's the name of this dragon, junior sister? Have you named it? A young man from the undead gate walked towards the little stubborn dragon and said, now the 11 dragon kings are famous all over the world. The purple dragon king, green dragon king, pterosaur king, etc. have spread all over the mainland. What is the name of our undead dragon king? It is conceivable that when it grows up decades later, the gods will tremble for it. ... At this moment, not to mention a few courteous young men, even those women seemed a little excited and walked towards the little stubborn dragon. When a man tried to stroke the little stubborn dragon, his body trembled in shock from its deafening howling. The tingling roar of the dragon made him feel a little dazed. What a powerful dragon king! They all sighed. It's not yours. Xiao Chen finally spoke at this time. At the same time, little stubborn dragon ignored them and proudly came to Xiao Chen's side. Who are you? The men had actually seen Xiao Chen a long time ago, and had deliberately ignored him earlier, but now they had no choice but to ask. Xiao Chen replied calmly, which sect do you come from? Junior sister, didn't you bring back the Dragon King? It was obvious that several people had bad expressions on their faces. Facing Xiao Chen, Yan Qingcheng seemed embarrassed and annoyed, snorted coldly, and answered the person in the undead gate, saying, I didn't tame that little dragon. You subdued this little dragon? One person looked at Xiao Chen provocatively. Yes, I don't believe it, I only believe that my junior sister took it in. The man sneered and pushed forward, trying to put a distance between Xiao Chen and Xiaolong. You'd better stay away from me. Xiao Chen didn't want to say anything to such a person, he would rather act than talk nonsense. As for the explanation, I believe that Yan Qingcheng will be forced to come forward. You are so rude, what if I don't stay away from you? This is obviously provocative. Then I'll invite you to take a bath. Xiao Chen didn't say much, grabbed the man's collar like lightning, shook his hands and threw him into the sea. With a plop, the waves splashed, and the man fell into the sea water. Swipe. The people next to him moved quickly and surrounded Xiao Chen. What do you want to do? Xiao Chen was not flustered. Although several people have good cultivation, but only 3 or 2 of them are masters of the second level of transformation, and the others have not even entered the state of transformation. Junior sister, who is he? These people surrounded Xiao Chen, and at the same time, they were also wary of the 3 skinny old men with sunken eye sockets who were exactly the same. Junior sister, is it the Dragon King that they plundered you? These words can be said to be cruel, and they are not far from here, and they want to take the little stubborn dragon by force. At this moment, Kiki, the little snow-white beast, glared at these people with wide eyes, and quickly attracted their attention. This is a puppy, right? It looks really cute. It's a little pet that Junior sister found on Dragon Island. It should be the little lion, it really has a lot of spirit. Yeah, Kiki yelled annoyed, as if to say again, go to hell. Go to hell, go to hell. The little beast's paw swung out unceremoniously, and all the people who pointed at it were enveloped in colorful light for a moment, and they were all thrown into the sea, and the sound of plop was whispered incessantly. The few women who were not involved in the matter opened their mouths in surprise. Those who fell into the sea rushed up quickly, and they were really angry and wanted to rush over again. Okay, stop making trouble, that little dragon was tamed by Xiao Chen, it has nothing to do with us. Yan Qingcheng finally spoke. Junior sister, a man shouted embarrassingly and angrily. Obviously, he wanted to take advantage of the fact that the master's gate was not too far away to take Xiaolong by force. Even if they lost, he could still send someone to invite the master. Don't worry about it, the little stubborn dragon is not the Dragon King, but it is my partner. It is impossible for you to take it away. After speaking, Xiao Chen laughed softly, and said unceremoniously, I forgot to tell you, in fact, we are a family, and Yan Qingcheng is my wife. This dealt a heavy blow to several men, and they shouted one after another. What are you, talking nonsense? You are desecrating the undead gate. Yan Qingcheng was also extremely ashamed, and said to Xiao Chen in a cold voice, please respect yourself, don't talk nonsense. Did I say something wrong? You share the same fate as me. Xiao Chen's attitude was nonchalant, but this made people feel even more irritated. However, no one dared to rush forward. They had seen how powerful KK was, and at the same time, the little stubborn dragon was also full of fighting spirit. If it was really the Dragon King, his fighting power would be amazing. Coupled with the 3 identical old men not far away, they were even more afraid to act rashly. Xiao Chen, don't force me, otherwise. Yan Qingcheng was so ashamed that she was speechless. At this moment, a powerful wave of energy surged from a distance, and a figure appeared on the beach without sound. Second senior brother is here. Xiao Chen felt threatened and stared at the figure that suddenly appeared. This is a middle-aged man who is nearly 40 years old, with a medium build and an ordinary appearance, but his eyes are very sharp. There is no doubt that this person's cultivation base is very powerful, giving people an unfathomable feeling. Xiao Chen was quite surprised. Although this person was of the same generation as Yan Qingcheng and the others, he was definitely considered a master of the previous generation in terms of age and cultivation. Junior sister, you are back. The master knows that you have been safe and sound through the immortal altar, so he asked some disciples to wait for your return by the sea. Hearing these words, Xiao Chen was even more surprised. The undead are really unpredictable. It is unimaginable that the master's cultivation is unimaginable. It is inconceivable that Yan Qingcheng, who is tens of thousands of miles away, has no worries in life through the altar. I have met the second senior brother. Yan Qingcheng hastily saluted respectfully. The second senior brother from the undead gate asked Yan Qingcheng to get up, and then said to Xiao Chen, my friend, you seem to have some karma with my junior sister, please come back to the undead gate with me. Okay, Xiao Chen agreed without hesitation, and there was nothing to be afraid of. Then let's go quickly. The second senior brother of the undead gate took a deep look at the little stubborn dragon, and said to everyone, this is not a peaceful place. There are many cultivators who have not dispersed and have been waiting on the coast. It would be bad if they saw it. Walking to the coast, the forest is vast, and the Changsheng continent seems to be a prehistoric area. The Gate of Immortality is just on the coast of the South China Sea, only a few tens of miles away. On the way, Xiao Chen was surprised to find that there were really many cultivators wandering in this area. When passing through a forest, the second senior brother of the undead gate cautiously asked everyone to hide more. A fallen angel rushed over from the sky, but fortunately they didn't find them. Not long after, Xiao Chen was even more surprised to find a black pterosaur hovering over the sea not far away. Fortunately, they were not found. Chapter 130 Undead Master. Walking for dozens of miles in the dense woodland, they avoided many cultivators along the way, and finally came to the important place of the undead sect. I can only see the fairy mist in front of me, and the beautiful mountain is hazy. It is really a treasure land of Zongtiandi's spiritual wisdom. Going forward, the flowers are fragrant and the birds are singing, flying waterfalls and flowing springs, just like entering the fairyland. Xiao Chen's mood fluctuated. This is definitely a holy place. The ancestor of the immortal line, Xie Wang, has left a great reputation in the human world, and he is indeed a person who is astonishing in the past and the present. In the human world, he never thought that he could have an intersection with the evil king. After all, that is a figure in the legend for thousands of years, which is too far away for him, but now he has come to the important place of the Gate of Immortality. Is that amazingly talented evil king really living in seclusion here? Is the evil king here? Can you usually see it? Xiao Chen asked a disciple next to him. His face turned dark immediately, and he looked at him strangely, but he didn't answer him. Don't hold grudges like that, right? It was this little snow-white beast that threw you into the sea, not me. Such nonchalant words made the disciple turn around angrily, walk 3 meters away from him, and stop looking at him. Walking into this beautiful fairy mountain, the white apes dance happily, the longevity deer holds the fruit, and the cranes dance, the clear springs are tinkling, and the palaces and pavilions are dotted among the mountains and rivers. Suddenly, Xiao Chen saw 2 behemoths hovering and dancing in the sky above this fairy land. They turned out to be 2 black pterosaurs, each with a length of 17 or 18 meters, and the dragon wings stretched to a full 30 meters. Brothers, why do you have pterosaurs here? Xiao Chen was quite surprised. A disciple of the Immortal sect gave him an angry look, and said, "This is the black dragon that protects the sect that I taught the 7th patriarch to subdue. It's so grand, it's amazing to subdue such a ferocious pterodactyl guardian, this is a demigod." At the mountain gate, Xiao Chen even saw a huge 3-headed monster, 10 meters long, covered in black armor, resembling a tiger, lying there quietly, with a very ferocious appearance. Needless to say, it was also a ferocious beast. "Oh, junior sister, you finally came back safe and sound. I have been worried about you for a long time." A rather handsome young man led some people out of the mountain gate. He looked like a formidable character, and his eyes revealed a gleam when he glanced at Xiao Chen inadvertently. Qingcheng met senior brother Qinyi. Why did junior sister meet me? Hee, hurry up and meet Master. He has been waiting for you for a long time. Senior brother will take care of you and celebrate your safe return. Qinyi said with a smile, then turned his head to look at the black stubborn dragon, and said, "Is this a dragon king? Was it tamed by junior sister?" "No, Xiao Chen subdued that." "Oh, brother Xiao, let's get closer later." Only then did Qinyi formally turn around and look at Xiao Chen. "Okay," Xiao Chen responded casually. Walking into this blessed land, soon after Yan Qingcheng saw the head teacher of the undead sect. Except for the second senior brother, the other disciples seemed to be quite afraid of Qinyi. Xiao Chen was arranged to stay in a guest house next to the green bamboo forest. After waiting for about an hour, someone came to invite Xiao Chen. The head teacher of undead sect wanted to see him. The 3 skeletons and 2 small beasts did not follow. Xiao Chen asked them to wait here quietly. On the way, Xiao Chen saw Qinyi again. Although the other party greeted him with a smile, his intuition told Xiao Chen that Qinyi didn't seem very friendly. "Brother Xiao has become the cauldron for my junior sister to cultivate the demon-smashing god?" Qinyi asked as he walked. "Yes, by chance, I had such a karma with Miss Qingcheng." "Well, it's very strange. I think brother Xiao seems to be much stronger than my junior sister. How could she choose this way?" Speaking of this, Qinyi smiled and looked at Xiao Chen and said, "Generally speaking, the most hostile person will be selected when cultivating the demon shard god, so that the cultivator can quickly promote the cultivation to break through the original realm. Is there any gap between brother Xiao and my junior sister?" Although the words were very plain, and there was a hint of concern, but there was something in the words, both provocative and warning. "Really, there are such strange rules in cultivating the devil-smashing god?" Xiao Chen said with a smile, "But Miss Qingcheng and I are close friends who share weal and woe. On Long Island, we can be said to have helped and supported each other to survive together. She said that she chose me to be the cauldron because she believed in me, because once she failed in cultivating magical skills, she would not worry about being controlled by me, because she knew that I would not harm her." Qinyi remained expressionless, and said with a smile, "Thank you brother Xiao for taking care of me. Otherwise, if my junior sister is in danger, the head teacher will definitely be very sad. She is a person that the head teacher especially values." This time I sent her to sharpen her. I will entrust her with important tasks in the future. Maybe she will be the head teacher in the future. So, it turns out that Miss Chingcheng is so valued by the headmaster of your sect. The two talked while walking, which can be described as nonsense. Brother Xiao, what are your plans for the future? Qin Yi asked with a smile. I don't have any plans. If your teacher doesn't mind it, I would like to bother you and stay here for a while so that I can have more contact with Miss Chingcheng. Xiao Chen replied without blushing. Qin Yi's face couldn't help twitching, but he recovered quickly. Xiao Chen secretly smiled. The boy pretends to be like me, but I don't believe you can hold your breath. Because Xiao Chen's cultivation level is much higher than Yan Qingcheng's, after a while Yan Qingcheng's broken demon seed god officially starts to practice, and Xiao Chen's connection will be closer. It can be said that unless a miracle happens, he will be completely controlled by Xiao Chen. Qin Yi calmed down a little, and said with a smile, Brother Xiao, don't think too much about it. The junior sister is someone who is valued by the head teacher, and may take over the position in the future. Anyone who wants to become the head teacher of the Dead Door must not have close contact with foreign teachers. This is not good news. I admire Miss Chingcheng very much. We have a good impression of each other, but I don't want Chingcheng to give up the position of head teacher because of me. Xiao Chen really has no shame on his face, natural and serious. Hearing this, Qin Yi slammed into the fire, and really wanted to hit him twice, but as a strong young man of the undead sect, he couldn't do such a rude thing. Xiao Chen didn't know that the disciple next to him had memorized all these words, and they would reach Yan Qingcheng's ears in a short while. Not long after they came to a magnificent palace, Qin Yi stopped and asked another female disciple to lead Xiao Chen in. The inside of this grand palace is very quiet, cigarettes are curling up, an old man with white beard and hair sits cross-legged in the hall. His face is full of wrinkles, he looks like he is 70 or 80 years old. It gave people a very strange feeling. The old man was clearly sitting there, but he seemed to be unable to sense his existence, as if there was only a mass of air there, not an old man sitting cross-legged. Master, absolute master, as the headmaster of undead sect, he should be at least a demigod. You are Xiao Chen? Yes, I've met senior. Although Xiao Chen didn't like some disciples of undead sect, he still had a little respect for this old man. You killed junior brother Wang Hao? The head teacher of the undead sect cut to the chase and asked this question directly. Xiao Chen was stunned for a moment. This matter cannot be denied. Everyone on the Shenzhou boat saw him killing Wang Hao by killing the gods. Although it was because KK imprisoned Wang Hao's ability to move, Xiao Chen clearly felt that although Wang Hao was also a member of the previous generation of undead, he was completely different from the old man in front of him, and could not be compared with him at all. At that moment, Xiao Chen began to talk about the things on Long Island. These words had already been spoken to Yan Qingcheng on the king's boat, and their words must be consistent. When Xiao Chen was talking with the head teacher of the undead sect, Yan Qingcheng rushed out of the main hall in shame and anger. She had already learned what Xiao Chen had just said to Qin Yi, and many other disciples had also heard about it, whispering that Xiao Chen might become the son-in-law of the undead sect. Junior sister, is he talking nonsense? Well, since he's talking nonsense, we'll clean him up for you. It's disgusting. How dare you tarnish the reputation of junior sister? You have to teach him some lessons. Some male disciples were aggrieved, and Qin Yi's face not far away was not very good looking. Obviously, he was teaching the young and middle-aged generation with a high status, and no one shouted in front of him. Many female disciples looked like they were watching a play. Yan Qingcheng was not only favored by the elders and masters, but also many male disciples surrounded her to show courteousness. The head teacher of the Immortal sect in the main hall asked Xiao Chen many questions, and then there was silence in the back hall, and there was no sound for a long time. After a quarter of an hour, the head teacher of the Immortal sect said, "There are many people who returned safely from Dragon Island. I got a secret report not long ago that you once took Qingcheng as a female slave on Dragon Island. Is there such a thing?" Speaking of this, the old man was no longer illusory, as if he had traveled through a space, and appeared in the hall for real. Immediately, an irresistible powerful coercion enveloped Xiao Chen, making him almost mentally collapsed. You only know one thing and don't know the other. Miss Qingcheng and I had no choice but to put on a show just to survive, so that the outside world thought we were hostile and that Miss Qingcheng had lost her combat power. The head teacher of undead sect stared at Xiao Chen for a long time. His eyes were almost substantive, penetrating into Xiao Chen's heart like two sharp swords. Within a short moment Xiao Chen was sweating all over his body, almost collapsed. However, he still resisted hard, and would rather collapse than tell the truth, otherwise he might die miserably. At this moment, Xiao Chen deeply felt how important it is to have a powerful teacher behind him. When the coercion disappeared, Xiao Chen almost fell down. To his dismay, he saw that the head teacher of the Immortal sect seemed to break into another space, leaving his body in a void, and his whole body was like a phantom. Let's go, I'll go and see what kind of species that little snow-white beast is. Hearing what the head teacher of Undeath sect said, Xiao Chen was taken aback for a moment. Kiki actually attracted the attention of this unfathomable old man. He didn't know whether it was a good thing or a bad thing. Seemingly seeing Xiao Chen's worry, the old man said lightly, I have no malice, but I received a secret report not long ago that your little beast is not the Dragon King, but it is not inferior to the Dragon King. I want to see what kind of alien it is. When Xiao Chen walked out of the hall, he saw a lot of disciples from the undead sect outside. Most of them were smiling, some male disciples glared at him, Yan Qingcheng even stopped him with an unkind expression. Xiao Chen, you. Yan Qingcheng's words quickly stopped, and the other disciples quickly retreated to the sides respectfully, because they saw the head teacher coming out behind him, misty like a cloud of mist. Master Immortal glanced at the crowd for a few moments, then walked forward, followed by Xiao Chen, first said to Yan Qingcheng, Miss Qingcheng, I will find you later. Then he said to the crowd, see you later. Everyone was in a daze for a while, and then some people clenched their fists immediately, but no one dared to speak more in front of the teacher. Soon Xiao Chen and the head teacher of the undead sect came to the bamboo house, and the little stubborn dragon and KK rushed out together. When the head teacher saw them, two divine lights shot out of his eyes, and he stared at them for a moment. The two little beasts seemed to feel the strong pressure, and immediately confronted the head teacher of the undead sect. Two strange little beasts. The head teacher of the Immortal Gate whispered to himself. Roar! Seemingly feeling the strength of the headmaster of the undead sect, the little stubborn dragon roared at him, as if wanting to fight him decisively, which made the old man smile slightly and said, although he is not a dragon king, he has the qualities of a dragon king. Kiki rolled her big eyes and turned around the old man. It seemed curious why the old man paid so much attention to them. This little snow-white beast is even more strange. I need to check an ancient book to determine its identity. At this moment, 3 skeletons came out. They were all covered with devil's skin. They looked skinny and weird, but when the undead master saw their appearance, they turned pale with shock. They were even more excited than when they saw the 2 little beasts. They murmured, how is it possible? Happy Valentine's Day, Happy Valentine's Day. Chapter 131 Devil Identity. Master Undead's expression surprised Xiao Chen. Could it be that he has seen the appearance of a devil before? This is completely out of his mind because of shock, but how is this possible? The undead master is only 70 or 80 years old, and the devil has existed on Long Island for countless years, and it is impossible to leave there. How did the undying master see his appearance? In an instant, Xiao Chen had a bold association, the devil must not be a senior figure of the immortal lineage, or even the evil king. The reason why the immortal headmaster was so surprised was that he had seen a statue or portrait of a devil. However, he quickly overturned the conjecture that the devil was a senior figure of the undead lineage. You must know that the ancestor of this line, the evil king, has existed for as long as the devil. The evil king was a character 1,000 or 2,000 years ago, and the devil has molted dozens of times in Longdao. Old man, why are you so excited? Have you ever seen such a face? Xiao Chen asked. With the unfathomable cultivation level of Master Immortal, how could it not be seen that the 3 skeletons were shedding their skins? He slowly calmed down his ups and downs, and said, I have seen it, I have really seen it, but it makes me feel incredible. This is a coincidence, it must be a coincidence. The 3 skeletons watched all this quietly, with a calm look of indifference. Follow me. After all, he is an unfathomable master, and Master Undead returned to the appearance of the ancient well without waves. He led Xiao Chen and the others towards the mountains and forests, flying waterfalls and springs along the way, passing through areas where flowers were fragrant and birds were singing. There were fewer and fewer palaces, and they came to the very quiet back mountain. This is definitely an important place for the immortal lineage. Although there are few buildings, they are all ancient buildings that look very old. The lairs of 2 pterosaurs are here, and a small pterosaur is playing alone beside a huge cave on a rocky mountain. Cigarettes are curling up, and there are huge copper stoves in front of several stone pagodas, with thick incense sticks inserted in them. Although he didn't see anyone, but Xiao Chen's spiritual sense told him that there must be unworldly masters guarding this place, and he felt a silent sense of oppression, as if warning them not to mess around. Pushing open a mottled vermilion door, they walked into an ancient building, passed through several palaces, and they stopped in a large hall. The ancient hall was very empty, without any extra decorations, only an ancient painting was enshrined in the middle. Xiao Chen was surprised that the character in the ancient painting turned out to be a peaceful old man, exactly the same as the devil when he was aging. He felt a little tongue-tied. Could it be that the timing of his speculation was wrong, and the devil is really the patriarch of the lineage of immortality? Master Undead paid respectful obeisance first, and then carefully looked at the ancient painting, making a subtle comparison with the three skeletons. It's unbelievable, it's exactly the same. Master Immortal sighed. The red mole in the middle of the right eyebrow is the same, and the birthmark on the left wrist is also clearly outlined in the portrait, which is the same as the devil's shedding skin wrapped in three skeletons. Are these three slews found on Dragon Island? The undead master asked Xiao Chen. Yes. How did you find it? Dug out of the ice by chance. In this way, that person once went to Dragon Island, and disappeared into this world for this reason. The immortal headmaster seemed to be a little emotional. Who is that person? Is he very strong? Xiao Chen couldn't help asking, because the undead master's strength was unfathomable. The whole person seemed to break through the space and hide in another world, giving people an unreal feeling, but such a person was emotionally excited because of the devil's shedding. One can imagine that the devil must have an incredible identity. Very strong, so strong that it is difficult to hold a candle to. Xiao Chen knew that the devil must be superior, otherwise how could it be the only ghost escaped from the dead city? He must have been an outstanding person during his lifetime. However, he couldn't help but be surprised when he heard that Master Undead made such an evaluation. If he deserved such an evaluation, he probably wouldn't be inferior to the ancestor Xie Wang of the immortal lineage. Who the hell is he? Don't ask who he is, tell me the details. Okay, Xiao Chen said everything he could say, and Master Undead frowned and was surprised at the moment. He turned out to be the only one who escaped from the dead city. Undead Master said to himself. On the sealed Dragon Island, he was able to stabilize beyond the realm of demigods. It really astonishes the world. One must know that the sealed power on Dragon Island is god-killing. Master Undead seems to be lost in memory, and he said to himself, he came from the shattered void of the human world. When he was in the human world, he created his own incomparable feats. He was invincible all over the world. Even when he first entered the longevity world, he was invincible. He wiped out all the gods who came to him with his hands. His actions have established a strong self-confidence for his future generations of disciples. Humans are not afraid of gods and can surpass gods. Xiao Chen was also very excited to hear that. All signs indicated that this person seemed to be the ancestor evil king of the immortal lineage. Is it the eternal wizard Xie Wang? Xiao Chen had to speculate like this, because Xie Wang's exercises were created by himself, and he is one of the most talented people in the past and present, and few people can catch up. No, Xiao Chen felt a little unbelievable. The portrait enshrined in this palace was drawn by Xie Wang himself. That person is much older than the patriarch Xie Wang. These words of Master Immortal shocked Xiao Chen. His status is higher than that of Xie Wang. Isn't Xie Wang the patriarch of immortal lineage? The identity of that person is really impossible to guess. Young man, you come from the human world. You should have heard some rumors. There used to be a sect known as the world's largest sect in the human world. Although it has been disintegrated for many years, there must be some legends. Our ancestor Xie Wang was separated from that great sect. The biggest religion in the world, you mean the devil's religion? That's right, Patriarch Xie Wang's martial arts were originally inherited from the demon sect. It wasn't until later that the patriarch created the immortal kung fu that stands proud of the world. It is said to be able to fight against the broken demon seed god. Although the patriarch established the immortal lineage in the longevity realm, he drank water and thought of the source. He did not forget his enlightenment school. The devil is the patriarch of the demon cult. Xiao Chen felt his mouth dry, his voice trembling, everything was too unbelievable. The ancestor of the demon cult is definitely a terrifying existence that once swept the world with invincible hands. It is the ancestor of the demon sect, the peerless hero who created a series of unrivaled skills such as the devil's seed god and the heavenly demon kung fu. Although the demon sect has long since disintegrated, those remaining branches are still the great sects in the longevity world. Among the disciples of later generations, the evil king is the only one who can be compared with the ancestor of the demon sect. Although they have all entered the longevity realm, even the evil king has not been able to see the ancestor of the demon cult, because the time between them is too far away, and the ancestor of the demon cult disappeared in the longevity realm prematurely, which is also the main reason for the disintegration of the demon cult. The portraits in the main hall were drawn by the evil king himself to express his respect, and he went to the ruins of the demon cult to find his sculptures and images and enshrined them here. Unexpectedly, the patriarch of the demon sect died on Long Island. No wonder countless people have searched for it for so many years but failed. The immortal master sighed. However, he was still very excited after knowing that the devil had returned to life, which meant that the ancestor of the devil sect might return to the longevity continent in a few years. If it gets out, this will definitely be an earth-shattering news. Even if the undead evil king knows about it, he will be born again. Few people in the world can match the potential of the demon sect's ancestor, and his dead body is rejuvenated. If he leaves Longdao, which suppresses the power of the gods, his cultivation will surely break through several realms in a row, and it will not be too far away to restore his previous supernatural powers. Xiao Chen took the opportunity to ask Master Undead where the evil king is now. The patriarch of the evil king has not returned to the sect for 800 years, and no one knows his current whereabouts. If there is no danger of life and death in the sect, the patriarch will probably never come back. He has already let go of everything. Next, the three skeletons took off the devil's molted skin, which was left by the real body of the ancestor of the devil sect. Now they can't wear it any longer in front of the headmaster of the branch of the cult. The three molted skins were enshrined in front of the portrait as holy treasures. After knowing the relationship between the devil and Xiao Chen, the relationship between Master Undead and him naturally changed significantly. Although it was still calm after calming down, it was no longer as it was before. I know you and Qingcheng are not telling the truth, but it doesn't matter. Everything that happens in that harsh environment is normal. I also know that Wang Hao has always been dissatisfied with Qingcheng's master and me, and it is expected that Qingcheng will attack. I will not pursue this matter for the sake of the ancestor of the demon cult. However, if you dare to harm the Immortal school in the future, I will not be merciful. Now it is chaotic outside, and the turmoil about the Dragon King has not subsided. You can leave when you want. For Xiao Chen, this is already considered the utmost benevolence and righteousness. Even if someone suspects that the little stubborn dragon is the Dragon King at the Undead Gate, no one dares to call on Topi. He can practice here with peace of mind. Then Master Undead walked into another ancient hall and found an ancient book. He looked it up carefully, but finally he shook his head and said, "Strange, what is the origin of this little snow-white beast? This ancient book contains many strange beasts from heaven and earth, but it is not listed here." Xiao Chen took out the colorful jade shells in his backpack, but after watching for a long time, Master Immortal still had no idea, and finally said, "In terms of the richness of classics in the world, Buddhism is the most abundant. If you have a chance, you can go to Buddhism and ask about it." Xiao Chen settled down in the sect of immortality, and practiced silently in the bamboo house every day. In this continent of longevity, strength is the last word. If he wants to survive better, he must constantly break through. In the past few days, there has been an uproar in the undead sect, and many disciples are talking about Xiao Chen who may become the son-in-law of the undead sect, and Yan Qingcheng will marry him. Obviously, this was definitely not done by a certain male disciple, it was secretly planned by several female disciples whose strength and status in the sect were not inferior to Yan Qingcheng's. Where there are people, there are struggles, everything is as simple as that, this is human nature. This really made Yan Qingcheng extremely ashamed, and at the same time, it also drove many male disciples in the undead sect crazy. During the period, some disciples came to provoke, but they were all thrown out by KK unceremoniously. Xiao Chen also let the little snow-white beast show its power, because he knew that those who provoked rashly like this were unworthy characters, and real people would not act like this. After a week like this, a powerful person in the undead sect returned. Qin Yi's father, Qin Chengfeng, was just like Wang Hao, although he was the teacher's junior in name, but he was a generation behind in terms of age, only 50 years old. As soon as Qin Chengfeng came back, there was an uproar, claiming that he wanted to punish Xiao Chen and Yan Qingcheng, and he had already learned the secret news that Wang Hao was killed. For a while, there were ups and downs in the undead sect, but under the suppression of the undead headmaster, there was no major disturbance, but in the end Yan Qingcheng was imprisoned in the back mountain, and Xiao Chen, an outsider, was also punished and will be sealed in the undead land for a year. However, instead of being sealed here, it is better to say that Xiao Chen is forced to practice. The immortal headmaster is not bad for him. The place where he is sealed is between the back mountain and the front mountain, and the scenery is very beautiful. Xiao Chen was happy to find a quiet place to meditate. It's just that the tree wants to be quiet but the wind doesn't stop. In the evening, in a certain courtyard, Qinyi handed a medicine bag to a person beside him, saying, "This quantity is enough." The man took the medicine bag and swallowed a mouthful of saliva, said, "This is a pack of strong aphrodisiac, so many people will not be killed, right?" Qinyi smiled and said, "No, that guy's cultivation base is very deep, so he can't make any big troubles." At this moment, Xiao Chen was woken up from the retreat by the little snow-white beast Kiki. These days, Kiki has been elusive all day long and often disappears. I don't know what it is busy with. The snow-white little beast held a bunch of crystal-clear red fruits in its mouth, exuding a refreshing fruit fragrance, while the little beast held an ancient book in its paws. It looked very excited, blinking its big eyes vigorously, and handed the ancient book and the crystal-clear red fruits to Xiao Chen at the same time. Xiao Chen looked at it strangely, and was dumbfounded when he took the ancient book, because there were 4 ancient characters on the cover, Immortal Demon Art. Xiao Chen's heart was beating wildly in shock that it was the extraordinary skill of the township education of the immortal lineage, which was actually stolen by the little snow-white beast. "Where did you find it?" He felt a little dry in his mouth. This is no small disaster, this little guy is too messy. Chapter 132 Grotto. Chapter 129 Catacombs. The little snow-white beast stole the treasure book of the town of Immortal Gate. Xiao Chen was stunned. This little thing is really born with extraordinary spiritual sense and specializes in finding treasures. Xiao Chen saw it when he was on Dragon Island. It is difficult for heaven, material and earth treasures to escape from its palm. Yi, Kiki blinked her big eyes innocently, as if saying that this was an insignificant matter, and then handed the string of crystal-clear fruits exuding an attractive fragrance to Xiao Chen. "This can't be fire cloud fruit, right? According to legend, it blooms in 10 years, bears fruit in 10 years, and matures in 10 years. After careful identification, Xiao Chen confirmed that it was really fire cloud fruit. But he had a bad feeling. Such a bunch of Huiyan fruit has 30 grains, like a bunch of crystal clear red grapes. Where did this little thing come from? Could it be that it was also stolen from the undead? If this is the case, the little guy must be in big trouble, because since it has already brought back such a bunch, it must have been full in terms of its character, and it is too late to send this bunch of fire cloud fruits back now." Xiao Chen was speechless for a while, holding Undead Gate's Zhenjiao collection and this bunch of Huiyan fruits. This kind of thing is really difficult to deal with. "Didn't I say it? Don't cause trouble now. You, how did you steal the treasure of the town education?" For the little snow-white beast, of course, scolding is not possible, face-to-face scolding is unavoidable, since the incident has already happened. Now the main thing is to find a way to remedy it. However, it was stolen anyway, let's read it first. Xiao Chen began to read this legendary book while scolding Kiki. However, Kiki quit, angrily snatched back the bunch of fire cloud fruits, and began to enjoy them one by one. "Hey, you are still playing a little temper, do I say you are wrong?" The little snow-white beast didn't try to defend itself, until it ate up a bunch of Huiyan fruits in one go, then slowly pulled the corner of Xiao Chen's clothes, motioning him to follow. Xiao Chen's heart moved, and he took the treasure book of Zhenjiao of the Undead Gate and followed it out of the abbot, and then they turned over the back mountain and headed north all the way, going forward for more than 20 miles before reaching the destination. Xiao Chen didn't expect that the little snow-white beast would lead him to a steep rocky mountain, and then lead him into an ancient cave with a flash of his figure. This not-so-big mountain is completely made of stone. The ancient cave is deep and twists and turns. There are many forks on the way, which makes it easy for people to get lost. After walking for a long time, Xiao Chen felt the heat wave coming, and there was a hot spring flowing inside. After walking forward for another quarter of an hour, the light in front of him flickered, and he entered an empty cave with the little snow-white beast. There were many night pearls inlaid on the stone wall, making this place look like daytime. After entering, Xiao Chen was surprised at first, and then amused. Not far from the hot spring, the wall was covered with crystal-clear fire cloud fruit, like a string of rubies, and exuded a tempting fragrance. And the little stubborn dragon was belching contentedly, half of his body was sinking and floating in the hot spring. This little guy had always looked cool, such an expression was really rare. Xiao Chen already knew that the little snow-white beast had been wronged, but he was still astonished. It seemed that it could not be more appropriate to call it a treasure-hunting beast. It was really speechless that Huiyangguo could be found by it in such a hidden mountainside. KK actually hummed in a very humane manner, as if expressing her dissatisfaction. "Okay, I know I blamed you. I think I gave you the wrong name. It shouldn't be called Kiki, it should be called, Take All. I don't think any treasure can escape your palm." After carefully observing this cave, Xiao Chen discovered several artificially excavated stone chambers, complete with stone tables, chairs, and beds. And the treasure book of the undead gate in his hand was discovered by the little snow-white beast here, because there was a clear dust mark on a stone bed. Xiao Chen burst out laughing immediately. He knew that the Immortal sect's magical skills had not been lost, and he got the same book here, so he can refer to it for practice with confidence. His cultivation method comes from the ancient Yellow River steel and the mysterious stone steel on Long Island. Although it seems to have been further perfected, it is not known whether it is really perfect, but the power is indeed huge. If other exercises are not particularly famous, they will not have any temptation for him at all, but the exercises left by the evil king still have a great attraction for him. He wanted to see what incomparable celestial skills this legendary genius had created, so that he might be able to comprehend some mysterious formulas by analogy. While enjoying the fire cloud fruit that can replenish energy, Xiao Chen was studying the treasure book of Zhenjiao of the Undead Gate, and he was deeply attracted by just a cursory look. Studying the magic art of immortality, Xiao Chen seemed to have experienced the process of creating this art by the evil king, and he was deeply involved in it. However, this miraculous skill is too mysterious and unpredictable. It was fine at first, but the more he read Xiao Chen, the more obscure and difficult he felt. After a while, he was full of hallucinations, and in the end he almost vomited blood. It seemed that there were countless demons screaming around him, making people's hearts flutter and their souls want to be broken. Xiao Chen took a deep breath, and worked his own kung fu silently. After a long time, he slowly calmed down. He secretly sighed that this miraculous kung fu really deserves to be called the treasure book of the undead sect, and it deserves to be created by an outstanding and evil king. He remembered a legend that when the evil king's immortal magic art was first completed in the human world, the incomplete exercise alone had provoked countless people to fight for it, but everyone who had seen the exercise almost had their souls shattered, and the evil name of the evil king became more popular because of this. Treasure book, heavenly skill. Xiao Chen sighed. This treasure book of town religion is indeed unique. Among them, the indestructible seal of gods and demons, which is astonishing in the past and present, expounds the method of using the smallest force to exert the greatest power, so as to achieve the goal of fighting the strong with the weak and killing the big with the small, which is amazing. This is the most important reason why the undead magic art is so powerful in the world, and it exerts every bit of power to the maximum. What interests Xiao Chen is also the record of immortal sky wings, which allows the energy to materialize and cultivate his own immortal sky wings, so that warriors can fly in the air after they have transformed into the fifth heaven. This is too tempting for Xiao Chen. Being able to fly in the sky is a supernatural power that he has dreamed of, and the Book of Township Education of the Undead Gate just solves this problem. The immortal seal of gods and demons, and immortal sky wings, are the two most essential parts of the Immortal sect religious book, and it is precisely these two elements that make this extraordinary skill shock the world and become one of the most prestigious heavenly skills. Xiao Chen only glanced at a part of it roughly, and it was impossible to master it so quickly, but he already had a calculation in his heart. It was impossible for him to stop cultivating the mysterious art of the sacred tablet, but he could effectively integrate some techniques. For example, the indestructible seal of gods and demons can maximize the power of every ounce of power, and this skill can be subtly integrated into it. Then there is the immortal sky wing, which only needs to penetrate part of the mysterious veins, so that energy can flow out from the back, forming a divine wing that can fly into the sky and escape from the ground, which can be completely combined. Xiao Chen couldn't calm down. Integrating the world-renowned unique knowledge into his own cultivation method will undoubtedly make it to a higher level. In the end, his whole mind was promoted into a wonderful state, and he mechanically printed the treasure book of the Undead Gate into his mind without seeking understanding. He didn't dare to savor it carefully, because he couldn't comprehend all the subtleties in a short time, and doing it forcibly would only break his soul like most people. Deeply imprinted in his heart, Xiao Chen heaved a sigh of relief. It is impossible for him to bring the book with him, and it is impossible to come here every day. The safest way is to memorize it by heart. After picking a few bunches of fire cloud fruit, Xiao Chen let the little snow-white beast lead him out of the underground labyrinth and back to his residence. When returning, Xiao Chen vaguely saw a figure swaying in front of him. It seemed to be in the kitchen. It was a small kitchen, mainly serving the back mountain, which is the center of the Undead Gate, and it seems that some super masters live in seclusion there. And Xiao Chen's current residence is between the front mountain and the back mountain, so the daily food is also supplied there. Seeing the suspicious figure so late, he felt a little strange, so he sneaked over without a sound. When I came to the brightly lit place, the spiritual sense of the prophet captured everything without hearing or seeing it. Every night, someone would ask Xiao Chen for the next day's recipe, and the kitchen staff would prepare the ingredients for the next day's breakfast in advance at night, and the person who came unexpectedly sprinkled a lot of medicinal powder among the breakfast ingredients specially prepared for him. It seemed to be the person beside Qinyi. Xiao Chen understood everything instantly. Qinyi wanted to deal with him. When the person retreated, Xiao Chen walked in calmly. Now that his cultivation base has reached his level, even poisoning can be quickly eliminated from the body, unless it is a special drug. After taking a little food and going out, he caught a wild rabbit in the forest and forced to feed it. As a result, the rabbit's eyes turned green and it became very manic. After observing for a long time, Xiao Chen knew the function of the medicine powder. The green-eyed male rabbit chased the female rabbit all over the mountain. Chapter 133 The Storm. Xiao Chen was dumbfounded. What a strong aphrodisiac. If he took it by mistake, although there would not be any serious problems, it would definitely make a fool of himself. This kid Qinyi is really not a thing, but at least he is not so cruel and did not use strong poison. Xiao Chen didn't hesitate. Just play with him if he wants to play. Carefully absorb the powder in the food into the palm of his hand with Zongong, and then put most of it into the water tank without any hesitation. Benefits are equal. Anyway, the people who live in seclusion in the back mountain are all super experts. It is expected that there will be no big troubles. At most, those old men and old women will jump up and down for a while. Of course, Xiao Chen didn't want to take advantage of Qinyi just like that, and came to Qinyi's residence silently with his superb movements. This courtyard is not too small, and there is actually a special tea room. He unceremoniously mixed the remaining powder into the tea. The second day was really lively, and there were a few angry roars from the back mountain, but it soon calmed down. But the matter must not end, and the kitchen must be thoroughly investigated. What Xiao Chen didn't expect was that although the old men and old women recruited in the back mountain seemed to have nothing to do with it, another person beyond his imagination made a big move. That is, Yan Qingcheng, who was imprisoned in the back mountain, kept screaming in the woods of the back mountain. Xiao Chen, come out for me. I know you framed me. Ah, damn Xiao Chen. In the end, Yan Qingcheng managed to kill Xiao Chen's residence. Her face was flushed, and her whole body was trembling. It was obvious that the medicine was strong, but it was not a serious problem considering her cultivation. When this kind of thing happened, Qinyi was immediately extremely nervous, and Qin Changfeng knew his son best, and seemed to have sensed something, but when he walked into Qinyi's place not long ago, that is, when he was drinking a bowl of tea, he let out a roar. Finally, the old man was fine, and Qinyi started running naked in his yard. The matter was settled in the end, but it is rumored that Qinyi was scolded severely by the head teacher. If Qin Changfeng's face was not concerned, he might have been punished severely. It's just that Yan Qingcheng was dancing in Xiao Chen's courtyard with a flushed face, but she was actually going crazy, and the sound and color passed on by several women in the undead sect must of course be an improved version of eclectic and ambiguous. Time passed quickly. Xiao Chen has been at the gate of immortality for 3 months, and he has been practicing quietly every day. He has been able to control the killing gods in the hands of the 4 major Sanshin, Niluan, suppressing demons, and cracking. Of course, it's not that he's not talented enough. The main reason is that he's studying the Immortal sect's educational book recently, and he has repeatedly refined the spirit of immortality and demons. Undoubtedly, Undead Gate's teaching treasures are extensive and profound, but he doesn't want to read all of them. As long as he can absorb the most essential part of it, it is enough. If he can really effectively integrate it into his own kung fu, it will surely bring his kung fu to a higher level. The idea is good, but it is too difficult to actually implement it. In the past 3 months, he forcibly broke through the barrier, but he coughed up blood 5 times, nearly collapsed his body, and his soul was wounded several times. One can imagine the mystery and difficulty of this exercise. This is just extracting part of the essence. If you really practice from scratch, it will be more exhausting. No wonder the Immortal Gate can prosper for a long time. There is a great guarantee to have such miraculous skills to comprehend. When he practiced for the 4th month, Xiao Chen finally made some small achievements, and the indestructible seal began to take shape. At the same time, the rebellion in the hands of the 4 major Sans could be well controlled. And in the course of these 4 months, Xiao Chen is also struggling to comprehend the Immortal Sky Wing. It is his dream to be able to fly in the air. Even if he can't cultivate the seal of immortality, he must cultivate the divine wing that can fly into the sky and escape from the ground. This is what he has been most concerned about in the past 4 months. It's just that the cultivation of Immortal Sky Wing seems to be more difficult than Immortal Seal. He is thinking hard every day, but the progress is very slow. There are only two hazy purple mist emerging from behind him, which is far from turning into divine wing. During the past few months, the three skeletons have been practicing silently every day, almost never going out. For them, as long as they have a quiet place to practice, they don't need anything. KK, the little snow-white beast, has been disappearing all day long, and she doesn't know what she's busy with. Fortunately, she's obedient and hasn't sneaked into the forbidden areas of the undead gate. As for the little stubborn Longshang, he was always fighting with high spirits as before. He went back and forth between the back mountain and the underground palace every day, and went to the back mountain almost every day to find the little pterosaur to fight. Although that pterosaur could also be called a little dragon, it was 3 or 4 meters long, much bigger than the little stubborn dragon. It can be said that the little stubborn dragon has been defeated and fought repeatedly. Every day, he crawls back to the underground palace bloody to lick his wounds, and eats fire cloud fruit to restore his strength. In the end, seeing the little stubborn dragon fighting so desperately to the death, the little pterosaur was scared. It wasn't that it didn't want to kill the little stubborn dragon in a single battle to completely solve this desperado, but that the little stubborn dragon seemed invincible, no matter how serious the injury was. Everyone in the Immortal sect has become accustomed to the roar of dragons and beasts every day, but the eyes of Undead Master and others looking at the little stubborn dragon gradually changed, and they noticed that the little stubborn dragon was unusual. Time is always passing by his fingertips unconsciously. It has been half a year since Xiao Chen came to the Gate of Immortality, and he finally cultivated the Seal of Immortality. Of course, the so-called cultivation is only like the 3 styles of killing gods, rebelling against chaos, and suppressing demons. It can be controlled and used, not really able to sway the highest profound meaning. After the 4 major Sanshou are merged into the Immortal style, they can be called the 5 major Sanshou. However, Xiao Chen has been persevering in the practice of Immortal Tianyi, and he has been defeated repeatedly. It was another early morning, when the sun shines on the back mountains, making the hazy mist shine with multicolored light, lingering in the woods, flowers and plants, making it even more magnificent. This beautiful pure land is like a fairyland. Xiao Chen, you are so courageous. The teacher in charge didn't let you rush to the back mountain, but just let you meditate in front. How dare you come to the important place where I teach? Yan Qingcheng was facing the rising sun, and dreamlike brilliance lingered around her side, setting off her supernatural, beautiful and unparalleled face. Hee, then you should complain to your master. Xiao Chen smiled lightly, and came to the back mountain almost every day. Since those elders of the undead sect who lived in seclusion here did not open their mouths, how could Yan Qingcheng do anything to him? Seeing Xiao Chen's nonchalant smile, Yan Qingcheng's teeth were itchy with resentment. For so many days, she could be said to be secretly angry. There were many rumors about her ambiguous entanglement with Xiao Chen in the church. Although she knew that her senior sisters and others were contributing to the flames, it was not without reason. As the turmoil about the Dragon King's battle in the outside world gradually subsided, many things that happened on Dragon Island had already spread, and the entanglement between her and Xiao Chen had already spread in the small area of the Immortal Gate. She saw Xiao Chen's eyes turned black, especially thinking that she was practicing the magic of the broken demon seed, which might lead to more serious consequences in the future. She wished she could bite Xiao Chen twice to relieve her anger. Don't be complacent, Xiao, I will return everything I have done to you sooner or later. Okay, I'm looking forward to it. In another half a year, your undead magic power will be completely transformed into the demon-smashing god's great law. At that time, it seems that I can control you. Well, let me think about what to do. I am a normal man and have all the needs of a normal man. It seems that it is time to end this ascetic-like boring practice. I think we can have a good chat now, talk about you and me. Die, who are you, who am I don't bother to talk to you, I have nothing to talk to you about. I'm a man, you are a woman, talk about the things between us, just talk about the things between men and women. After saying these words, Xiao Chen turned around and left, because he knew that if he continued, Yan Qingcheng would lose his temper completely, and at the same time, he felt that some old men were watching him in the dark. Yan Qingcheng's beautiful face was dark, and her graceful body was trembling slightly. She really wanted to rush over and kick Xiao Chen to the ground and trample on his hateful smiling face. Not long after, the little stubborn dragon came, screaming at the dragon cave under the cliff, and provoking the little pterosaur inside. Recently, the 3-meter-long little pterosaur has been passively fighting. It can be said that it is angry and depressed in its heart. Spreading its wings, it flew over, and then slammed down. Today, it seemed that it wanted to end the battle as soon as possible. When it came up, it fought with all its strength. A pair of sharp dragon claws were like sky hooks, tearing out gusts of wind, and grabbed the little stubborn dragon's back. Swipe, the dragon's shadow swayed, and the little stubborn dragon left a few afterimages on the spot. The speed was unbelievably fast, and it quickly avoided it. As a result, the rock in place was directly scratched by the little pterosaur. Xiao Chen was secretly startled when he saw that the little stubborn dragon's progress was really too fast. Just now he continuously shifted and changed positions, just like a master among human beings performing mysterious body skills. No one taught this little stubborn dragon how to cultivate human beings. Could it be that it is born with mysterious and unfathomable techniques like Kiki? But isn't that the privilege of the Dragon King? I haven't noticed it for a long time, but the one horn of the little stubborn dragon has completely grown out, shining brightly, looking miraculous and extraordinary. The physique of the little stubborn dragon seems to have undergone a considerable change. Its strength is much greater than before, and its speed is also faster. Ah, the two dragons fought fiercely. Although the little stubborn dragon was not the opponent of the pterosaur, it was brave and extremely fierce. It was really a little desperado, and the little pterosaur was tied up. In the end, the bloody little stubborn dragon was defeated, and at this moment Xiao Chen made a move. He enveloped the little pterosaur that was about to fly back to the dragon's lair with a curtain of divine light, which made the little pterosaur very angry and struggling continuously. Don't panic, little guy, I just want to see how you use the dragon's energy on your wings, and I'll let you go in a while. Xiao Chen tried his best to restrain the little pterosaur and kept exploring. Feeling the surging dragon energy inside, sensing how those forces flow between the wings of the pterosaur, combined with the practice method of Immortal Sky Wing, Xiao Chen was thinking while running the profound art to attack the veins on his back. Half an hour later, Xiao Chen finally realized something, but it was at this time that he felt something was wrong. The little pterosaur calmed down and stopped struggling, and at the same time he found a large shadow on the ground. Looking up suddenly, I saw two huge monsters covering the sky and covering the earth, blowing up gusts of wind. Fainted, Xiao Chen let go of the little pterosaur and ran away. The two adult pterosaurs who were patrolling outside came back, and they happened to discover all this. Where can I escape? Seeing the huge dragon claws envelop Xiao Chen, but in the end they didn't tear apart. Two adult pterosaurs landed one after the other. The light flickered, and the huge dragon body disappeared. A pair of young men and women stopped his way. The man was tall and straight, and the woman was beautiful and charming. Although he knew that adult pterosaurs had the cultivation level of demigods and could transform into human beings, Xiao Chen was a little surprised to see it with his own eyes, and the main reason was that he was still bullying other people's children just now, so he was not surprised to be caught. Well, I have no malicious intentions. Xiao Chen was caught straight, and really didn't know what to say. These are two demigods, they are only interested in studying the Immortal Sky Wing, so why did they ignore the little pterosaur's parents? Woo! He bullied me, and even wanted to steal our treasure. Not far away, the little pterosaur flew over crying, and began to complain in a childish voice. He at %. Xiao Chen is a little speechless. This little pterosaur can also speak human language, and it is very fluent. It is obviously in the dark. You must know that pterosaurs value treasures the most. Almost every adult pterosaur has a small treasure. Isn't this framing him? But after thinking about it, it is not a frame, so it is reasonable to deal with him like this. With a sound of brushing, the light shone, and Xiao Chen was taken into the dragon's lair by the couple. I want us to forgive you, and find a way to let the little dragon from Dragon Island teach our children the legendary ancient battle skills of the Dragon Clan. Chapter 134 Advancement, Success. The dragon's lair was built on the cliff, tens of meters above the ground. The huge dragon's lair was very wide. Even if this rich and divine dragon couple turned into huge pterosaurs, it was obviously enough for them to stretch their bodies. The stone walls in the dragon cave were polished very brightly, broad and deep, but the inside was not dark at all. On the contrary, the depths of the dragon cave were as bright as day, and there were many pearls inlaid on the top of the cave, which provided enough light. What made Xiao Chen even more convinced that the pterosaurs had a hobby of collecting treasures was that he saw the hills of gold coins and jewels piled up in front of him, and the shining people couldn't open their eyes. Xiao Chen was stunned. He couldn't believe it. So many jewels were too amazing. No wonder Lu Mu and the others said that there are always people who aspire to be the legendary dragon slayers. A dragon lair is a treasure. If you have the ability to kill pterosaurs, you can get inexhaustible treasures that last for several lifetimes. Look, this greedy villain's eyes are straight. You see, I'm not lying. He not only bullies me, but also wants to steal our treasure. The little pterosaur was full of milk when he spoke. Obviously he was still very young. Looking at this little guy who complained, Xiao Chen was really speechless. Could it be that this is the precocity in the legend, whether it is Kiki, those little dragon kings, or this little pterosaur all have extraordinary minds? Don't lie, little guy, or you'll get fat in a fat ball. Who is young? You are not as tall as me. The 3-meter-long little pterosaur came over, stood upright, looked down at Xiao Chen and said, "You are a villain, bullying me." Here it comes again. Seeing that it can speak human language, Xiao Chen felt a little funny, but couldn't laugh. What about our proposal just now? The little pterosaur's father asked again, although it was very serious, but fortunately there was no killing intent. I've never heard of the legendary ancient battle skills of the dragon clan. Besides, that little stubborn dragon is so cool, even if it really has a secret technique, it may not necessarily obey my orders and pass it on to your children. Although it has a good relationship with me, you must know that it is an extremely proud little stubborn dragon. While saying these words, Xiao Chen began to change his mind, and slowly calmed down after being surprised by the many treasures in the dragon's lair. He began to think about the little stubborn dragon. The little stubborn dragon actually caught the attention of the dragon couple, and became even more extraordinary. It doesn't matter whether you succeed or fail, you can do your best. Otherwise, you bully our children and want to steal our treasures, but you violated our big taboo. Whether you are a guest of the Undead Gate, we can attack you unceremoniously. You must know that we continue to help the Undead Gate guard here. Although what they said was very serious, Xiao Chen caught a faint smile on their faces. It was obvious that they did not have the slightest intention to kill, as if their scheme had succeeded. Faint, Xiao Chen felt a little helpless. It seemed that even if today's incident did not happen, the 2 pterosaurs would probably come to him. It seemed that they had already made plans in this regard. Okay, I'll try my best. Success or failure is none of my business. Then thank you very much. Well, we know that you are trying to cultivate the immortal sky wing. I think we can give you some pointers. The father of the little pterosaur said with a smile. How do you know? How can we not pay attention to a person who has returned from Long Island? Can you help me cultivate the immortal sky wing? It's okay to give some pointers. We have also studied the treasure book of the town education of the Undead Gate. The mother of the little pterosaur smiled very kindly, making people feel like a spring breeze. You have also practiced it. Xiao Chen was very surprised. The dragon clan practiced the human's heavenly kung fu, which really makes people stunned. Because of the difference in physique, we just participated in the research. If you want to cultivate immortal sky wing, it will take a few years of hard work. This is a gradual process, and you can't pass through it just by relying on advanced cultivation. You need to slowly open up the acupuncture points where the divine wing is located. After the narration of the dragon couple, Xiao Chen's understanding of the cultivation of the immortal sky wing has deepened a lot. There are many meridian and acupoints in the human body, but not all of them are known to people. Generally speaking, the well-known acupoints are the super-large acupoints of the human body. For example, the dozens of Fatian acupoints that need to be developed to cultivate the immortal sky wing have never been heard of before. The Undead Town Religion book is extremely concise. It only says that the undead sky wings can be born by opening those mysterious, flying sky points near the back, but it doesn't elaborate on how many such points there are. According to Xiao Chen's previous understanding, he thought there were only 40 or 50 heavy acupoints, but now he realizes that there are 81 acupoints involved, collectively called Fatian acupoints. It is not the same to have someone give advice and to grope for oneself, especially like this kind of treasure book of township teaching. It is not enough to just have the method of cultivation, and the experience of the predecessors is also very important. This dragon couple has been in the Undead Gate for nearly 1,000 years, and they know a lot. After some explanations from them, Xiao Chen suddenly realized that now he already knew how to proceed, and he no longer needed to search for the operation method of the little pterosaur's dragon element. Because of his sufficient cultivation, he has opened nearly half of the Fatian acupoints, and he may be able to achieve full power in another half a year. Only then can the real immortal wings be born, otherwise even if one acupoint is not opened, it will be difficult to successfully display the divine wings. Finally, when Xiao Chen left the dragon's lair, the dragon couple said to Xiao Chen with very serious expressions, "You can't tell anyone about that little dragon, or you will be in great trouble." Xiao Chen nodded suspiciously. It seemed that the little stubborn dragon had a lot of secrets. He had guessed more than once that the proud little black dragon might be the ancestor dragon, but he overturned it again and again. The legendary ancestral dragon has been crowned since the day he was born, and the Dragon King is not his opponent. For the little stubborn dragon, all these things are very inconsistent. Xiao Chen can only attribute the little stubborn dragon to a fighting dragon, maybe one day he will be no less successful than the Dragon King. No, I hate that little rascal, who comes to harass me all day, so I don't want to learn the so-called legendary ancient combat skills from it. When leaving the dragon's lair, Xiao Chen vaguely heard a few words between the dragon couple and the little pterosaur, which seemed to involve the Dragon King. Time passed day by day, but Xiao Chen gained something every day. 10 days have passed since he got the answer from the dragon couple. Xiao Chen is immersed in the mysterious realm of cultivation. At this moment, he is practicing his own profound skills. Relatively speaking, this is his foundation, and it took most of his time. At this moment, he suddenly felt as if he was floating into the clouds, his whole body suddenly became light, and his consciousness seemed to materialize, as if he was about to fly out of his body. A fragrance like orchid and musk deer emanated from his body. Immediately afterwards, there was a loud bang, and it was like a thunderbolt struck in his heart. He actually made a breakthrough in this kind of meditation, and was promoted from the 7th heaven of the transformation state to the 8th heaven, and then went up to a higher level. The whole body was shining with precious brilliance, as if the real body was sanctified, and a fragrant breath wafted in the room. At this moment, his eyes were as sharp as a knife blade, and his energy and spirit reached a new peak that was untouchable before. Powerful power circulated in the shining body, like a rolling Yangtze River, or a torrential river, which made him feel as if he had endless energy. Everything didn't end there, the surging power continued to flow through his veins, and it never stopped for the next 3 days and 3 nights, as if it was tempering his physical body, making him feel a reborn change. In the end, every inch of his skin was as translucent as a bronze-colored divine jade, full of explosive and terrifying power, and his physique was much improved compared to before. When everything returned to calm, Xiao Chen was surprised to find that he had actually been promoted to the peak of the 8th heaven, which was only a thin line away from the 9th heaven, and it seemed that he might break through at any time. It was an unexpected surprise that he almost broke through the double sky once. It must be known that the practice will become more and more difficult as it goes on. Such a near leap-forward breakthrough is very rare. Xiao Chen clearly knew that all of this was due to the fact that the exercises he practiced were further perfected on Longdao, so that he could achieve such a breakthrough. This made him even more determined that the formula he practiced was fundamental and would never change. If it is fused with other exercises, it will be condensed into a sanshou like the seal of immortality, and it will be moved into a style instead of introducing the original source. As for the immortal sky wing, this is more the use of skills, not the change of the original formula. Xiao Chen's surprise from this transformation is still to come. Just after the powerful power of endless life stabilized, waves of scorching air came from his back, purple rays of light flickered, and the room was full of purple mist, misty and shining. The power at the peak of Yakongtian, which had just stabilized and calmed down, rioted again, all rushing towards the various Fatian points on his back. Amidst the interlacing sounds of bones, Xiao Chen's body trembled again, and dense beads of sweat appeared on his body surface. In the end, his body seemed to be wet by water, and his body was dripping with sweat. Accompanied by the crisp sound of the last series of joints, Xiao Chen's body trembled again, and then there was a rumbling sound in his heart. He felt as if he had soared into the clouds in an instant, and he knew that this time the immortal sky wing must have been cultivated. Chapter 135 Too extravagant. The purple glow burst out in an instant, and the immortal wings stretched out from Xiao Chen's back. The purple divine wings were crystal clear like jade, almost transparent, but they contained powerful power. This is not only a divine wing that can fly into the sky and escape from the ground, but also a terrifying weapon. Far from the undead sky wings transformed by Yan Qingcheng at the 5th level, the undead wing at the peak of the 8th level has become a very terrifying and powerful weapon. Of course, this is completely quantifiable and can be retracted as you like. Brush. Spreading his divine wings lightly, Xiao Chen came to the courtyard like a ray of purple lightning, then turned into a ray of purple light and escaped into the mountain forest in front, and returned back against the sky on the left. Everything is so perfect. The cultivation of the immortal wings has increased Xiao Chen's speed to an unimaginable level. From now on, the sea and the sky will be open, and fierce battles with people will no longer be limited to the ground. It can be said that with Tianyi in his body, those curse masters and spirit masters who can walk against the sky will have no advantage for him, and he will become the nemesis of those people. Standing by the well, holding a wooden bucket and washing his body over and over again, Xiao Chen is undoubtedly in a happy mood. The food in the room had already cooled down. Xiao Chen hadn't gone out for 3 days. The people in the kitchen came and went several times without disturbing him. They just put down the food quietly. This might be an unwritten rule in the cultivation sect. Although he was eating cold food, Xiao Chen felt that he was enjoying delicious delicacies. This was due to spiritual satisfaction. Half a year of hard work finally paid off. This stage of cultivation can be described as a complete success. The three skeletons also seemed to feel his joy, and walked in from another room, their jaws clicked, as if congratulating him. Having not seen the little snow-white beast and the little stubborn dragon for a long time, Xiao Chenxiang walked briskly towards the back mountain. Yan Qingcheng was sitting quietly in a piece of fragrant grass, the hazy mist shrouded her surroundings, the melodious birdsong lingered among the nearby flowers and trees, everything was so peaceful, the peerless beauty blended into the most beautiful environment, it was really a vivid and harmonious picture. Xiao Chen waited and watched quietly for a while, without breaking this beautiful painting, and continued walking through this area. Until he went away, Yan Qingcheng opened a pair of beautiful eyes, then closed them after a glance. Passing through an area of waterfalls and flowing springs, there was the sound of fighting winds in front of them, and the little stubborn dragon was fighting fiercely near the dragon's lair again. Xiao Chen was surprised to find that its speed seemed to have increased again, and its fighting skills were more abundant, but most of the time it seemed to be using brute force to force it. After a long period of understanding, Xiao Chen already knew that the little stubborn dragon was not reckless by nature, but that it seemed to deliberately attack the strong with the weak, as if it wanted to exercise its body desperately, and did not hesitate to get seriously injured every time, as if it wanted to stimulate the potential hidden in the dragon's body. As for fighting skills, it seems to have an extraordinary talent. Although it is not commonly used, it has become more and more proficient, and it seems that it has mastered some legendary ancient dragon fighting skills, as the pterosaur couple said, because every time its fighting methods are very mysterious and brilliant. At this moment, the one who is fighting with the little stubborn dragon is the little pterosaur's father. He has turned into a human body and is training with it personally. Of course, he is very measured in his shots, hitting every inch of the little stubborn dragon with appropriate force. The little stubborn dragon seemed to be very satisfied with this kind of battle, and made a series of actions that Xiao Chen had never seen before, leaving after images in the fighting place. The fighting method was weird but extremely effective. Although it was impossible to injure the little pterosaur's father, he also showed extraordinary combat skills. Xiao Chen saw some tricks, which are really suitable for the fighting skills of the dragon clan. The little stubborn dragon seems to be repaying the pterosaur couple for fighting with him these days. Although this little guy is cool, but his heart is very clear. He has his own ideas about what to do and what not to do. Although the small pterosaur watching the battle seemed to have a dark face, the somewhat excited light in its eyes had already betrayed its gradually changing mood. When the battle was over, the little stubborn dragon dragged the wounded body to the little pterosaur, and unexpectedly stretched out a dragon claw to touch the little pterosaur's forehead. It is obviously very unusual for the little pterosaur to be able to speak human language at such a young age. It was slightly taken aback, but still lowered its head, otherwise the little pterosaur would not be so tall. A bit of brilliance emanated from the little stubborn dragon's claws, surging out like water waves, and seemed to melt into the little pterosaur's forehead. It wasn't until the little stubborn dragon went away that the little pterosaur seemed to come back to its senses. It muttered, "Actually, this little rascal would be cute if he didn't come to harass me every day. Just now he taught me some fighting skills." The little pterosaur's father smiled at Xiao Chen and said, "Thank you very much." "You're welcome, the little stubborn dragon has its own opinions, and I can't influence its thoughts. I think the reason why it will teach your children the ancient battle skills of the dragon clan is because it feels embarrassed to bother you all day." That's right, I'm almost driven crazy by him." The little pterosaur muttered in a low voice. Xiao Chen chased after the little stubborn dragon, and when he was leaving, he seemed to have heard the little pterosaur's father whispering words such as, "Dragon King," talking about the little stubborn dragon. Not like, could it be that he wants his child to be promoted to Dragon King? This is really a bold idea. But it seems very possible, that little pterosaur is not a simple master no matter what, it can speak human language at such a young age. He quickly caught up with the seriously injured little stubborn dragon. The little guy still nodded to Xiao Chen as coolly as usual, and continued to move forward without any unnecessary gestures. Back in the burrow, the little stubborn dragon silently washed his blood-stained body with hot springs, endured the severe pain that seemed to tear him apart, and then began to devour the fire cloud fruit to restore his energy. Even though several stone caves were covered with this crystal-clear onyx-like fruit, and even though the little stubborn dragon and the little snow-white beast only ate a small amount of this spiritual fruit every day, the fire cloud fruit was almost eaten up in a few months, leaving almost bare vines on the walls. Perhaps the rapid progress of the little stubborn dragon is also related to this. Every time it is seriously injured, this kind of spiritual fruit will quickly replenish its physical needs and help it further stimulate its physical potential. At the same time, Xiao Chen also noticed that there seemed to be other fruit cores in the cave, and he found that they looked very much like amethyst pears. He knew that it was impossible for the little stubborn dragon to find them by himself, because this little guy knew how to focus on fighting and training, so he would definitely not go looking for spiritual fruits to satisfy his appetite. Xiao Chen immediately thought of KK, this little thing is really the nemesis of the spirit of heaven and earth, most of the good things nearby can escape its palm. In a corner, Xiao Chen even found half a piece of purple gold Ganoderma. What a waste, to waste the treasures of heaven and earth like this. Kiki has been elusive recently, Xiao Chen hasn't seen it for a long time, and now it seems to be in this fairy mountain like a fish in water. Xiao Chen waited here for a full 3 days before seeing the little snow white beast show up. The little guy came back with a super big ginseng like a big radish, but he threw it to the little stubborn dragon as nonchalantly as if throwing a Chinese cabbage. Kiki's fur became more shiny, as if it was carefully carved from divine jade, and her pair of big black eyes became more agile. It can be said that her whole body is full of aura. Of course it got a little fatter, it can be imagined that it usually enjoys these heaven and earth spirits as food, and Xiao Chen was taken aback for a while, it was really extravagant. Seeing Xiao Chen coming, the eyes of the little snow white beast seemed a little weak, and there was something wrong with the eyes no matter how they looked. Is there something you are hiding from me? Shaking his head vigorously, the little snow white beast threw over the carrot-like ginseng, which meant for Xiao Chen to enjoy it, which was a bit flattering. Hey, you are guilty. Tell me, did something happen? The rare snow white beast showed a shy expression, pointed to the big ginseng tree, and gestured with its small paws. Although there was a tacit understanding, it took a long time for Xiao Chen to understand what it was talking about. The ginseng was pulled from someone's herb garden. Xiao Chen was speechless at the time, and he knew it without asking. Judging by his personality, he must have frequently visited other people's herb gardens recently, and he really regarded other people's treasured land as his own vegetable garden. How much of this kind of ginseng have you pulled? The little snow white beast thought about it seriously, and stretched out a little beast claw. 5 plants. The little snow white beast turned its claws over, palms facing down. 10 plants. The little beast's paw turned over again. Xiao Chen was tongue-tied. The little beast's claws turned over again. Xiao Chen felt black lines all over his forehead. Seeing that it was about to turn over, he hurriedly stopped it. Don't look around, I figured it out, you really treat it as a radish field, in your eyes these rare big ginseng are no different from big radishes. The little snow white beast blinked its big smart eyes, and scratched its head embarrassingly. Are there any other herbs besides ginseng? Dallying, dawdling, Kiki found some leftover roots, fruit cores, etc. from the corner of the cave. It has to make people sigh, the variety is really complete, Ganoderma lucidum, amethyst pear, liang jujube, chijinlian. Xiao Chen had a big head at that time. Do you really think that all you eat are Chinese cabbage? It is not a small disaster to harm the most important place in the door of immortality, the herb garden. But the little snow white beast was not afraid, instead it gestured proudly. After some careful communication, Xiao Chen understood what it meant. Kiki told him that there was no opening left, the herb garden was huge, it would pull one here and another there. As for the fruit, 1 is picked from this tree, and 2 are picked from that tree, and they are scattered. You are quite cunning, but do you know, how can people not pay attention to this kind of spiritual thing? It may be ignored in a short time, but it will be discovered after a long time. You have caused me trouble again. The little snow white beast was finally no longer complacent, and dejectedly expressed that he knew it, and then pointed at the little stubborn dragon without any loyalty. The arrogant and cool little stubborn dragon was also embarrassed immediately, it really enjoyed these spirits a lot. Xiao Chen really lost his temper completely, helpless. After further questioning, Xiao Chen was angry and laughed, and knew why KK often disappeared for several days and disappeared, but she actually stayed in the herb garden and regarded it as her safe haven. It seems that we have to leave the gate of immortality. In fact, even without these things, Xiao Chen is still thinking about leaving. It has been half a year since he came here, and the turmoil about the Dragon King from the outside world has subsided, and he has already gained enough here, so he should practice in a different environment. Before leaving, he felt that he should hand over the treasure book he found in the cave to the undead master. After all, he will use the undead sky wing in the future, and it would be bad if people think that he once stole the teacher from the undead gate. Handing in this ancient book openly and above board, he thought that the Master of Immortality would not be able to take back the immortal wings he had cultivated. After all, he had a certain friendship with the so-called ancestor of the demon sect. In this case, it would be nothing if he showed the immortal sky wing in the future. Contrary to Xiao Chen's expectation, when he met Master Undead, the other party already knew that he was practicing immortal sky wing, which surprised Xiao Chen. Looking at the illusory old man in front of him, who seemed to be in another world, he felt unfathomable from the bottom of his heart. Master Immortal didn't blame him, took the ancient book and looked at it, and said, "This is the authentic work of the Patriarch Xuewang, which is no different from the treasure book in the sect." It turns out that the Patriarch used to live in seclusion in that cave. Presumably, he was afraid that the treasure book in the sect would be lost, so he deliberately left another copy for fate. Next, Xiao Chen expressed his desire to leave here and go to other places in the Chengsheng continent to practice. "I once said that you can leave at any time. Although logically speaking, you are still within the time limit of the ban, but if you find the original handicraft of the evil king, you can be released in advance. In addition, since you have cultivated the immortal wing and learned some secret techniques from me, now I want to seal you as a protector outside the sect. There are no privileges, but if the gate of immortality is in danger and you need to help, are you willing?" Xiao Chen secretly underestimated, "Can you not want to? Your old man has said so. However, it should be, after all, I have studied other people's town education book. It's just that, if you think about it, you don't need to help the immortal sect in this life. Can someone destroy the immortal sect? Even if the gods want to make a move, they may have to weigh it first." In the end, when Xiao Chen was thinking about how to say goodbye, he was stunned by the words of Master Undead, and he spit out the sip of tea that he just drank. "Are you willing to marry Qingcheng as your wife?" Chapter 136 Fatty Fatty. Seeing Xiao Chen's tongue-tied expression, without allowing him to say anything else, Master Immortal immediately said, "Well, let it take its course." Xiao Chen wanted to explain why he sprayed water just now, but he thought that the old man in front of him was too unpredictable. He was so old, why didn't he know how to deal with the world? He was obviously trying to make people's emotions fluctuate on purpose. When he was about to leave, Xiao Chen had a drink with the younger generation of undead disciples. This was arranged by the undead master. It is impossible for the older generation to appear, because even if he is a guardian outside the teaching, he obviously has not reached a certain level. Clinking glasses frequently, although Xiao Chen was surrounded by some yin-yang-yans, he was like a fish in water. I have to say that the female disciples of the undead sect are all very beautiful. When will Brother Xiao take junior sister Yan away? Unfortunately, sister, I am determined not to marry for life, otherwise I will have to compete with junior sister Yan. I heard that Brother Xiao has cultivated the immortal sky wing. It must be due to junior sister Yan. ... This group of women can be described as full of nonsense. The immortal sect is indeed as in the legend, the friendship between the disciples is weak, and they are intriguing all day long. Now Yan Qingcheng is their strong opponent in the competition for the position of head teacher, and they can't wait to marry her immediately. When they were among the male disciples, no one was polite to Xiao Chen. These people all had bad expressions on their faces. They were really drinking too much, and they were not allowed to force the wine out of their bodies with profound kung fu. Damn, these ruthless people. He could only catch the most quarrelsome people and clink glasses with them desperately. Finally, his drinking capacity was big enough, and he downed the two most quarrelsome people. When it was Qin Yi's turn to step forward, after Yidong Hai drank, Qin Yi put his arms around Xiao Chen's neck, and said drunkenly, "You are not real, you made me run naked." Seeing that he was so drunk, Xiao Chen actually said all this, and immediately felt that this guy was not so hateful. After thinking about it, this guy didn't murder his life, but just wanted to make him look ugly, and he didn't do anything after that. Who told you to frame me first? This is repaying the other person's body in the same way, hee hee. Good boy, I will compete with you when I go out to practice. Come drink, drink. This guy obviously drank too much, his tongue grew big, he drank a few big cups, and said, "The most powerful of us has already gone out to practice, otherwise you are far from his opponent, I mean, people who are about the same age as us, not the second senior brother." Of course Xiao Chen knew who the second senior brother he was talking about was. He was nearly 40 years old and his cultivation level was unfathomable. At the time of parting, the little pterosaur saw the little stubborn dragon coming to the back mountain, and immediately yelled aggrievedly, "Is there any mistake? I have fought with you today, why are you here again, woo woo?" However, when it saw the little stubborn dragon gesturing for it to pass, it immediately felt strange. Finally, one of the little stubborn dragon's paws was printed on its forehead, and a wave-like halo continuously disappeared from its head. It wasn't until the little stubborn dragon and Xiao Chen left that the little pterosaur woke up like a dream, full of milk, but seriously shouted, "I will fight with you again in the future, but then I may become the Dragon King. Don't you not be my opponent." When they left, they waited for the little snow-white beast for a long time before seeing it appear. It ran over like a jade arrow, and actually carried a big backpack, and then handed it over to the King of Reincarnation very carefully for him to carry. The person who saw him off felt very strange. This little snow-white beast is really interesting. Does it have any other luggage? Xiao Chen's face twitched for a while, it was really a smirk. He helped the little snow-white beast to cover up, and said, "I'm sorry, everyone, this little thing is the most greedy, and it probably brought disaster to your kitchen, forgive me." After speaking, he took the lead in striding away. No matter how he looked at it, he seemed to be running away. Until an hour later, a tragic cry came from the Immortal Gate. "Damn it, the herb garden has been stolen, it must be that little white beast." On the way, Xiao Chen was complaining, "Did you do this? Why do you have to pack it before you leave? Let someone put it back quietly." The little snow-white beast jumped onto the King of Samsara, and hugged the big backpack tightly, which meant that it would not be sent back if killed. Even the little stubborn dragon rarely let go of his principles, and followed him to protect the King of Samsara, because it knew that Kiki had always been righteous, and here was half of it. Damn, these two ends. Xiao Chen didn't say anything, and strode forward. It has to be said that the Changsheng continent is too vast, and it is not known how many times larger than the human world. Despite the large population, less than 10% of the vast expanse of land has been developed, and 90% of the land is covered by primeval forests. Every town is separated by an endless sea of forests. The towns inhabited by humans are sparsely dotted in the sea of green like flowers. It is no exaggeration to describe it as a little red in the green bushes. The Undead Gate, which is close to the sea, is at the southernmost tip of the Longevity continent. Xiao Chen needs to go all the way north if he wants to enter the hinterland. Walking on the quiet and very deserted road, he strictly followed the direction pointed by the people at the Undead Gate, because it would be troublesome if he walked into the vast virgin forest, and it would take a lot of effort to find the way out. Despite the dilapidated ancient road, ordinary people would not dare to go on the road alone, because ferocious beasts would jump out of the virgin forest on both sides from time to time, but this had no effect on Xiao Chen and the others. The little stubborn dragon never refuses anyone who comes, and occasionally rushes into the primitive old forest to fight. Of course, Xiao Chen didn't dare to let it go in deep, God knows if there are any terrifying strange beasts. 6 days later, Xiao Chen and the others finally came to a big town with a population of more than 50,000, which was almost as big as a small town. This is the scale of towns in the Longevity continent. Because the area is so vast and boundless, with dense primeval forests and rampant beasts, many people usually live together. This is the first time Xiao Chen has seen a town after entering the Longevity realm. Seeing a gathering place of human beings is such a wonderful feeling. Even though he saw many people on Dragon Island and the Gate of Immortality, he still feels that he lacks the real breath of life. In this big town, he felt as if he had returned to the human world. Looking at the people coming and going on the street, he felt that everything was so kind. Sugar-coated haws, dog meat buns, donkey rolls, kebab, crispy and delicious chicken wraps, fresh and tender black fungus mushroom soup. Xiao Chen was squeezed into the snack street by the crowd coming and going, and the feeling of listening to this familiar voice was really wonderful. "Boss, bring me all kinds of snacks such as dog meat buns, donkey rolls, lamb skewers." Xiao Chen wanted to relive the feeling of being in the human world. "Little brother, this is just a dog meat bun restaurant." Xiao Chen gave him a gold coin, and said, "Please help me to sort it out, and I will give you the rest." Money is easy to do, and then Xiao Chen began to feast on it. Although it may not be very delicious, it is a feeling to eat. While Xiao Chen was enjoying the delicacy, Yan Qingcheng from the Immortal sect was also forced to go down the mountain. Her ears still echoed the words of Master Undead. "Since you choose to practice the Dafa of Broken Demon Seed God, you have to go to the world of mortals for a while. This method focuses on cultivating your mind, and you can't leave it too far away from the cauldron. Otherwise, what's the point of putting your obsession in the cauldron? Your senior sisters and brothers will also go down the mountain soon, and it's time for you to experience it." Xiao Chen didn't know anything about it, and in the end he simply walked out of the dog meat restaurant, and bought and ate in this bustling snack street, feeling even more atmospheric. This made the little stubborn dragon and the little snow-white beast very curious, and they also ate with their mouths glistening. These snacks were too fresh for them. No one was surprised by these two small animals, because they had seen such a large and strange beast before, and there were no such beasts in the endless primeval forest. As for the Samsara king and the other three, they have been following them unhurriedly. The three skeletons now look very human. There are enough materials in the undead gate, and there are almost fake beads in the eye sockets. You can't find anything unusual unless you look carefully. Hey, walking the dog and teasing the cat is not a pleasure. Little brother, you are so leisurely. A fat man with a profiteer-like face stopped Xiao Chen, pointed to KK who was following him, and said, "Is this a cat or a dog? It's so beautiful, it actually eats food with its paws like a human. What kind of breed is it? It can't be the legendary Chaos Cat, right?" Xiao Chen was speechless, but the snow-white little beast's face turned black at that time, and angrily threw most of the rice cakes in the little beast's claws on the fat man's face with a "Baji." The fat man yelled at that time, "Spirit Seed, you are so intelligent, you know how to get angry." The guy was not annoyed at all, but was very excited, and said, "How much is it, brother? Sell it to me, I promise to give you a good price." Puff. KK threw the donkey roll in the paw of another small animal and threw it on the face of the dead fat man. Chapter 137, Beast Legend. Puff. KK threw the donkey roll in the paw of another small animal and threw it on the face of the dead fat man. Hey, it's not only spiritual, but also quite arrogant. I really like this puppy, it should be a kitten, right? The dead fat man was not angry at all, and was still asking excitedly. This is an extremely ferocious little lion. Hearing what Xiao Chen said, the little snow-white beast rolled its eyes vigorously, and if it was not familiar with Xiao Chen, it would definitely reward it with a piece of rice cake. No way, how can a lion be like this? It's as white as jade, without even a single hair. The little snow-white beast ignored them, jumped onto King Qin Guang's shoulder with a bang, and continued to destroy the delicacies. Could it be the legendary jade lion? Hey, it can actually climb trees. What is the look of the fat man? Is this a tree? King Qin Guang also wanted to throw out a piece of rice cake, but unfortunately he didn't have one by his side. This fatty seemed to be really a profiteer, his eyes were shining with golden light, and he was excitedly circling around Kiki, but he accidentally bumped into the little stubborn dragon who was following him. This lonely little dragon often eats the spiritual things that Kiki found recently. The so-called eating people's mouth is short and other people's hands are short, and the fat man was knocked away with a little force. Hey, who hit me? The fat man got up. At the same time, there was a commotion not far away, a dozen people rushed over and quickly surrounded Xiao Chen and the others. There are 2 with cats, and several with big dogs, and even 2 with 4 or 5 meters long lowest dragons. Of course, they are not real dragons, but sub-dragons that look like large lizards. "Master, are you all right?" Those people quickly gathered around. Those gigantic dogs the size of a calf had already rushed towards the little stubborn dragon. "No, what are you going to do?" The fat man didn't seem to be a villain, and hurriedly stopped him. But it's too late, the little stubborn dragon is so arrogant, it always provokes others, so let others offend it. But for this kind of mortal beast, it didn't have the heart to kill, and flicked its tail 3 times extremely beautifully. Clap clap, the 3 giant dogs were sent flying 7 or 8 meters away, and immediately wilted after landing on the ground. When their bodies touched, they vaguely felt the dragon's aura that terrified them. Fatty's eyes lit up immediately, and the 2 4 to 5 meter long lowest dragons rushed towards him. This time, he didn't stop him, but stared at it without blinking. Bang bang, with 2 muffled sounds, the huge lowest dragons at both ends were also knocked into the air by the little stubborn dragon. Okay, it's great. Fatty seemed to have taken aphrodisiacs, his eyes glowed green, and he looked at the little stubborn dragon more eagerly than he looked at Kiki, and said excitedly, "This is a top-notch fighting beast. It seems to belong to the sub-dragon species, but I guess it has at least 1/5 of the blood of a real dragon in its body. Get rich, ha ha ha." Xiao Chen looked at the fat man speechlessly, and then walked forward with the little stubborn dragon and the others. "Brother, don't go." The fat man chased after him, and quickly explained with enthusiasm, "I'm to blame for being too complacent. Haha, but I'm really happy. This little unicorn doesn't seem to have shed its baby teeth yet. It's so amazing, it's really rare, I mean we're rich now. Really, you have to believe my vision. If I run it, this little beast will bring us a lot of gold coins." Xiao Chen didn't want to say anything to him, this guy was obviously a profiteer and he couldn't conspire with him. Brother, don't go, you have to trust me. Fatty followed Xiao Chen enthusiastically, chattering, and said, Brother, do you know who I am? I am the beast master who claims to have the most strategic vision. Ignoring him, Xiao Chen continued walking. Did you know that our family has built the Colosseum in Tiandi City, the largest city in the south of the mainland, and our strength is absolutely no problem. The Palace of Beasts. Xiao Chen felt a little strange, and asked, is there a strong atmosphere of fighting beasts on the mainland? This time it was the fat man's turn to look at Xiao Chen with the eyes of an idiot, and the people around him also showed strange expressions, which made Xiao Chen a little uncomfortable. I said, brother, didn't you just walk out of the hole in the old forest? Damn, Xiao Chen is really speechless, this guy actually ridiculed him as a primitive. Who doesn't know that beast fighting has always been the hottest industry on the longevity continent? Fatty said with an expert look, not only nobles and rich and powerful people like to watch beast fighting, but ordinary people also actively participate in it. Many people try to catch strange beasts to make a living, not to mention those cultivators who often spend a lot of money for a super powerful spirit beast. After the tireless explanation by the dead fat man, Xiao Chen finally understood the importance of the spirit of fighting beasts. The operators of the major colosseums have close ties with the cultivators on the mainland, because they do control many strange beasts with super powerful combat power. Many cultivators on the mainland have spirit beasts, which are loyal partners who can fight with them. The operators of the colosseum need a lot of strength, and the general sects are unwilling to provoke them, because they can provide the top-level spirit beasts. Legend has it that any operator who dares to build the colosseum of beasts must have super fierce beasts no less than dragons, and even legendary holy beasts. Let me tell you a secret in the industry. Fatty said in a low voice with a godlike look, those who dare to build the Colosseum will not only have holy beasts at the same level as dragons but also real dragons. This really surprised Xiao Chen. Seeing that his heart was already moved, the fat man hit the iron while it was hot. Brother, I felt that I hit it off with you as soon as I saw you. It can be said that we hit it off at first sight. How about we find a place to have a drink or two and have a good chat? Okay, what's the name of the fat brother? Xiao Chen's heart is not for money, but for the little stubborn dragon's future plans. If what the fat man said is true and the spirit of fighting beasts is so strong, the longevity continent is simply perfect for this proud little dragon. Even if he leaves Long Island, he will not worry about having no opponents. After a while, the two of them had become brothers, and the fat man had a blood-spitting name, Zhuge Liang. A rare expression of shyness appeared on his face, and he said, my parents wanted me to be smart, so they named me that. Through conversations, I learned that the reason why Zhuge Liang is also famous in the world of longevity is very simple. I don't know which cultivator who came from the Broken Void wrote the Romance of the Three Kingdoms in the human world, and it became a very influential masterpiece. Xiao Chen ate and chatted with fatty Zhuge Liang, and finally talked about the issues he was concerned about. Isn't Dragon Island sealed? How could there be dragons in the Colosseum? Could it be pterosaurs? But what Fatty said made him speechless in shock. Everyone in the industry knows our family's trump card, an invincible Tyrannosaurus Rex is kept in the Colosseum. How is it possible? Xiao Chen didn't believe it, and said, how could the Tyrannosaurus appear on the mainland? Aren't they all sealed in Dragon Island? Brother, you just came out of the cave in the old forest. Damn, with these words again, Xiao Chen really wanted to kick him twice. Oh, I was wrong, I forgot. Fatty Zhuge Liang underestimated. Ordinary people don't know, this is only known to those who built the Colosseum. Stop teasing me, tell me what's going on. Brother, you should have heard of the Long Island incident not long ago, right? Heard. Dragon Island is not the only time when the ban was lifted. The ban is lifted every few hundred years. Although there were no dragon kings born in the past, and ordinary small dragons were rare, there were still some, you understand what I mean. The fat man squinted his eyes and smiled, taking a sip of his drink. You mean that the predecessors brought out young dragons from Dragon Island? Smart. It's just that some young dragons were brought out in the past. They not only grew up in the longevity continent, but also have offspring. But usually they are in the hands of super powerful forces, and ordinary people have never even heard of them. In this way, there is no shortage of dragons on the longevity continent. Of course, but there are not many. Besides, except for the pterosaurs, other dragons are still in a sealed state even if they are far away from Dragon Island, unable to exert their own great supernatural powers. But in terms of the tyranny of the body and the strength of the battle, it is only the top holy beasts that cannot be enemies. Of course, it also depends on the dragon species. The Tyrannosaurus I am talking about can't destroy its body even if it is not an adult, and it is not a demigod. Xiao Chen took a deep breath. He still underestimated the Dragon Clan, and asked, which powerful force owns the Dragon Clan? Those who hold the world's power, those who hold the world's money, and those powerful cultivation sects, of course, mainly monopolize the various colosseums, which is why the hands and eyes of the colosseum industry are open to the sky. Fatty once again emphasized that those who can build colosseum must have strong strength and background. Chatting while drinking, Xiao Chen finally understood the status of the fighting beast industry in the Changsheng continent, and it can be regarded as the most powerful industry on the mainland. There are even some powerful sects that operate the beast fighting industry, or serve certain beast palaces. This fat man was very eloquent, and told a lot of anecdotes about the beast industry, but no matter how he heard it, it sounded like he was bragging. For example, this guy said that there was once a beast master who controlled the holy beast Phoenix in his own beast palace and destroyed a hostile city for revenge. A beast master once raised a little beast of unknown origin. As a result, the little beast grew up in his later years, and was able to fight against the Tyrannosaurus, defeating an enemy who owned the Colosseum and led the Tyrannosaurus to invade its Colosseum. The fat man told a lot of similar legends. Although Xiao Chen didn't really believe it, he could tell that those involved in the beast fighting industry had great strength. Generally speaking, the water in the beast fighting industry was very deep. Xiao Chen is really looking forward to it. The little stubborn dragon seems to have a bright future. The existence of the fighting beast industry is really suitable for it. How about it, Brother Xiao? Sell that little unicorn to me, and I will give you a fair price. Xiao Chen was taken aback, and said, why should I sell it to you? Hey, I've been talking for a long time, and my saliva is almost dry. You still don't understand. The water in the beast fighting industry is deep. You can't even cross the river by yourself. Selling it to me will save you trouble. I guarantee that you will not be short of money for the rest of your life. This fat man is indeed a profiteer, Xiao Chen slandered, and then said, I won't sell it. At the same time, he raised his vigilance. This fat man must have noticed the extraordinariness of the little stubborn dragon, so he took so much effort to talk about it. Could it be that this guy has seen that this is a real dragon? However, there are many subspecies of dragons on the mainland, and the appearance of the little stubborn dragon should not be so eye-catching. After a lot of trial and error, the fat man also saw that Xiao Chen really refused to sell the little stubborn dragon, so he said bitterly, oh, pity my drool, you don't understand after talking so much, you elmhead. Are you looking for kicks? Xiao Chen felt that although this fat man was very friendly, he was indeed a bit defiant. Just kidding, hey, how about this, why don't we sign a contract? The little unicorn is still yours, but how about I run it in charge? Xiao Chen had already positioned him as a deadly profiteer, and he didn't want to sign a contract with him at all, saying, if you can provide the best conditions, you can make a verbal agreement, and you will be responsible for the little stubborn dragon's affairs in the future, but you will never sign a contract in writing. It turns out that it is called a little stubborn dragon. It has a personality, and it really looks like a dragon. However, I said that you are too unreasonable, brother. There is no such thing as a verbal agreement. Only a contract is valid. I am a person who abides by the agreement and likes to deal with people with integrity. If you have integrity, you shouldn't care about whether you sign the contract or not. These words choked the dead fat Zhuge Liang, and he said in an awkward manner, brother, you really didn't come out of the cave in the old forest. Damn it, it's that sentence again, kick you fat man. Next, Xiao Chen started talking with Zhuge Liang, a profiteer, to learn more about the various matters of beast fighting. The more he heard, the more he felt that this industry was born for the little stubborn dragon. However, on the other side, the little stubborn dragon was grinding his teeth at the fat man, and Kiki was also looking at the fat man with a dark face. Chapter 138, Test Beast. They were in the same private room, and they specially set up a long table for the two little beasts. The delicacies on it were no worse than Fatty and Xiao Chen's. As for the reincarnation king and the others just sitting there without eating or drinking, the fat man didn't ask any more questions. The fat man obviously noticed the mood swings of the two little beasts, and whispered to Xiao Chen, I said, brother, why are these two little beasts really psychic? Why do I seem to hear them grinding their teeth at me? It's not like, it's true. You treat one very scary little beast as a kitten, and the other as a cash cow to buy and sell, so that they don't want to bite you. All in all, this was a pleasant gathering. Fatty did show enough sincerity, and promised Xiao Chen that he could satisfy little stubborn dragon's requirement that he would have opponents every day, but not in the form of a performance in the Colosseum. Fatty was born in a family of fighting beasts. Although he is not from the lineage of the head of the family, he is indeed very talented in the field of fighting beasts. He has a natural keen intuition. The moment he saw the little stubborn dragon today, for some reason, his blood was already boiling. He felt that he might have discovered an untapped treasure. If the intuition is correct and a super fighting beast is unearthed, then his value in the family will be doubled, and it will definitely attract the attention of the head of the family and the elders. Although the position of the head of the family is mostly hopeless, his rights and status will definitely be greatly improved. He wasn't worried about Xiao Chen's request at all. It was just like this: the more super fighting beasts and the more potential fighting beasts, the more they couldn't appear on the stage at will, so as to satisfy people's appetite. I said, brother, we're almost done talking, and I agreed to the conditions you mentioned. Now let's go and see what the potential of the little stubborn dragon is. The little stubborn dragon was a little reluctant, as if he didn't like the dead fat man. Don't worry, little stubborn dragon, I'm doing this for your own good. If you want to transform into a dragon king, what you lack is an opponent, and they will continue to arrange for you in the future. Xiao Chen stroked its scales gently, and whispered in its ear. Little stubborn dragon blinked his eyes, and finally nodded vigorously, agreeing excitedly. This fighting maniac, Xiao Chen sighed. I'm just out to inspect on behalf of the family this time. I don't have any particularly powerful beasts with me. I don't know if the family has 1 or 2 spirit beasts on the stage in the Colosseum in this town. Not long after, they came to the Colosseum, and they could hear the roar of beasts, as well as the screams and roars of people's excitement. Really popular. Beast fighting deserves to be the most powerful industry on the mainland. This place is very vast, divided into several areas. Each area is full of people, and all the audience are shouting almost crazily. Fat Zhuge Liang directly approached the person in charge here and asked him to arrange a beast test. The so-called testing beast is jargon, which means to test the ability of newly introduced spirit beasts. Knowing that Fatty came down from the family to make inspections, the person in charge here didn't dare to neglect, and hurried to make arrangements. The location of the test beast is generally not allowed to be watched by outsiders, so it is far away from the fighting area. Because the test beasts are mainly for the newly introduced spirit beasts, the wildness has not been eliminated, and no one can control them, so they are all locked in huge iron cages. But little stubborn dragon definitely can't suffer this kind of treatment, not to mention little stubborn dragon himself will turn the world upside down. Even Xiao Chen won't agree, and in the end he directly tested the beast in the open air. The person in charge of the Colosseum saw that the little stubborn dragon was only 1 meter long and so small, so he felt that it was a big deal, so he didn't send any beasts at first, and let in an ordinary leopard directly. Regarding this, the fat Zhuge Liang didn't say anything. He watched all this with a smile. He also wanted to see the specific strength of the little stubborn dragon, and was happy to let it fight a few more times. The result made people dumbfounded. The little stubborn dragon bared his teeth, and the leopard collapsed to the ground. Everyone was astonished to the extreme. Only Xiao Chen understood that the little stubborn dragon seemed to be annoyed, feeling that he was being underestimated, and there was a hint of dragon air invisibly. How could this ordinary beast not be afraid, and just fell limp? The person in charge of the Colosseum wiped off his cold sweat, and put the 5 lions directly in for the second time, but the result was still jaw-dropping. The little stubborn dragon flicked its tail 5 times in a row, and sent all 5 lions flying. Seeing the body of a tiger and leopard, the tail of a tyrannosaurus, and a small unicorn beast covered in scales, the person in charge of the Colosseum was speechless. It was unbelievable that a 1 meter long beast could have such great power. Fatty Zhuge Liang was overjoyed. He had never seen any kind of strange beast, and he knew that some strange beasts could not be measured by their body size, and the more terrifying the fighting beast, the more so. Obviously, the potential of the little stubborn dragon is immeasurable, and the results of the preliminary animal test made him very satisfied. The person in charge of the Colosseum was already sweating profusely. This time, he did not conservatively predict the strength of the little stubborn dragon, and directly invited the strongest fighting beast here. This is a huge white wolf, up to 6 meters long. Standing in the arena, it is completely looking down on the crowd. Its wolf eyes are shining green, which is extremely sharp. At the same time, its limbs are very special, with fine scales, which makes it look like a ruthless character. Obviously this white wolf is very spiritual, as if he felt that the little stubborn dragon is not a mortal beast, and didn't despise it because of its small size. After a wolf howl, it turned into a white light and rushed towards it ferociously. Brush! The little stubborn dragon left an afterimage and avoided it. Xiao Chen, who was watching the battle, narrowed his eyes. This is definitely the ancient battle technique of the dragon clan that the pterosaur couple said. The little stubborn dragon's movements just now are very special, like a real human master shifting shape. Ah! The white wolf let out a roar, and a large amount of flames spewed out from its mouth. It was indeed a strange species, capable of casting spells. The little stubborn dragon dodged quickly again, and it didn't use brute force to attack like before. It turned into a black light and moved as fast as lightning. The Sirius screamed at the moon, the white wolf roared to the sky, the fine scales on its limbs suddenly emitted a brilliant light, and then it lifted off the ground and took off. Sure enough, it was a strange beast. With such abilities, there is no doubt that the white wolf is very powerful. The little stubborn dragon fell into a passive and dangerous situation, and then he was almost in a situation of being beaten. He could only defend himself, but he couldn't reach the giant wolf that was walking in the sky. A smile gradually appeared on the face of the person in charge of the Colosseum. After all, if there wasn't a 1-meter-long unicorn beast suppressed by a fighting beast, he, the person in charge, would really lose face. However, his smile didn't last long. The giant wolf flying in the air seemed to want to make a final blow, end the battle, and grab the head of the little dragon who had been defending so hard. At this moment, the little stubborn dragon erupted suddenly, its scales and armor gleaming. It actually jumped up, facing the pounced giant wolf, rushed up through the cracks in its claws, and ruthlessly struck the giant wolf's chest and abdomen, bleeding profusely, and the giant wolf fell down with a roar. Hi, hi, Fatty clapped his hands, and said, first he could hold his breath, and then he would kill him with a single blow. These are the skills only possessed by combat beasts who have experienced hundreds of battles. The little stubborn dragon is so talented, he was born and lived for war. Afterwards, he waved his hand to signal the person in charge of the Colosseum and others to retreat, then looked at the little stubborn dragon with great enthusiasm, and said, I want you to be the most dazzling star, I want these ladies to scream at you, and I want those men to go crazy for you. No matter how Xiao Chen looked at it, he felt that this guy was crazy. Haha, I'll treat you to the best red wine when you arrive in Tiandi City, and I'll treat you to the most beautiful girl. The little snow-white beast seemed to be unable to stand it any longer, and jumped directly onto his head, scratching his hair in a mess, and then jumped onto Xiao Chen's shoulder. The fat man was not angry at all. He laughed. Lost, but this little beast really has the potential. Although the ace of the beast in the fighter and the fighting beasts of the fighting palace is nothing, it is enough to verify that the small dragon is really extraordinary. After all, it is very young and there is a long way to go. The head seems to be a bit like the Dragon King, but only one unicorn. This little guy wouldn't, really a dragon. Quote. The profiteer Zhuge Liang looked at the little stubborn dragon suspiciously, and had to say that this guy had a very vicious eye for watching animals, and he was very talented in this aspect. Just treat it as a dragon. Hearing what Xiao Chen said, the fat man laughed and dispelled his doubts, but he was very confident, and said, this little beast has the same potential as the dragon clan. I believe it will very likely grow into a legendary holy beast. At that time, it will be no problem even to fight dragons. Wahahaha, I discovered this, and the old dizzy patriarch will send me a few beautiful female cultivators to protect me. Hee hee. The fat man smiled patronizingly, and suddenly heard the sound of grinding his teeth again, and found that the little stubborn dragon was staring at him, so he quickly stopped talking. Brother Xiao, let's sworn brothers. We don't want to be born in the same year, the same month, and the same day, but we want to die in the same year, the same month, and the same day. Damn it, a profiteer, seeing the potential of the little stubborn dragon, so close, Xiao Chen complained. Of course, it is impossible to sworn brothers with this guy, but Xiao Chen doesn't hate this fat man. After all, this guy is quite friendly. Brother Xiao, we must dig out the potential of the little stubborn dragon when we return to Tiandi City. I think, the first battle, we have to deal with the six-eyed golden-eyed lion king beast of Karas, that bastard. I'm busy. The fat man started to plan now. Fatty talked a lot with Xiao Chen, and finally said, Brother Xiao, wait for me here for a while, at least 5 days, at most 7 days, and then we will go to Tiandi City together. This time Zhuge Liang was ordered to come down to inspect some family properties, and he also wanted to collect as much legends about strange beasts as possible in the southern wilderness, in case the Zhuge family sent experts to search for them in the future. Originally, the fat man had already completed his mission this time, but the fat man was eager to make contributions and wanted to go to the edge of the southern wilderness for a visit. Xiao Chen originally wanted to stay in this town for a few days, but after hearing Fatty's explanation, there was no problem. Time passed quickly, and 10 days passed in a flash, and the fat man was gone forever, which had already exceeded the time he said. As a result, Xiao Chen waited for another 5 days, but there was no sign of the fat man in half a month. During this period, Xiao Chen went to the Colosseum to inquire, but did not get any news. There he once again saw the popularity of the beast fighting industry. He felt that if he had no source of income in the future, he would be able to live comfortably by taking the little stubborn dragon to the Colosseum a few more times. 20 days passed, and there was still no news from Zhuge Liang. Xiao Chen felt that it would be useless to wait any longer. This fat man was probably lost in the southern wilderness. Xiao Chen started on the road and headed towards Tiandi City. It was about 2,000 miles away from there. There seemed to be only a few big towns along the way. Because of the ominous rumors of the ancient Nanwang, the population was particularly sparse. It is said that the ancestor god Suorenshi lived in seclusion in the southern wasteland, but Xiao Chen, who came back from Long Island, was skeptical. He may have a shroud on his body. If it is true, then the ancestor god Suorenshi should be gone. Nanwang has little contact with the outside world, the roads are too dilapidated, and some places are almost without roads. Xiao Chen and the others couldn't find the way after going out for 3 or 4 days. But the little snow-white beast and the little stubborn dragon are like ducks in water. The spirits of heaven and earth brought out from the gate of immortality have long been eaten up. Walking in the old forests of the southern wilderness, Kiki can often find natural treasures such as King Shen, while the little stubborn dragon keeps fighting with fierce beasts every day. Fortunately, they have not encountered any particularly powerful monsters. However, Xiao Chen was a little uneasy. If they couldn't find the way, they could easily get lost in the southern wilderness. In particular, the ferocious beasts encountered became more and more fierce, and there were many wild alien species, which showed that they seemed to have entered the depths of the southern wilderness. When Xiao Chen and the others were almost lost, the fat Zhuge Liang returned to the town with 2 or 3 people in ragged clothes. They were lost in the wild forest for 20 days and finally came back alive. When he learned that Xiao Chen had left, he was a little impatient. At the same time, he received a message from the flying pigeon of Tiandi City. Someone brought the Dragon King to Tiandi City. He once fought beasts in the 3 arenas. The fat man hurried on the road as if he had taken aphrodisiac. First, he wanted to catch up with Xiao Chen, and second, he wanted to meet the Dragon King. Chapter 139, Digging Out the Phoenix Nest. After spending another 2 days in the southern wilderness, Xiao Chen and the others finally walked out of the evil forest and entered an incomparably beautiful mountain. This area has verdant peaks and green valleys, green streams like jade, verdant trees, ginseng, ganoderma and other natural treasures, which make the little snow-white beast jump with excitement, and the 3 of them, King Yama, have already carried several large bags of good things for it. In this area, you can see cranes holding Ganoderma lucidum, Shulu topping Lingsao, and white apes holding fairy peaches. It is simply a fairyland in legend. In this peaceful and pure land, all he saw were docile animals, and he didn't see any ferocious beasts. At first Xiao Chen thought that there must be immortals living in seclusion here, but he found that there were no caves or fairy trails at all. Kiki and the little stubborn dragon screamed at the same time, and rushed forward quickly, only to see a towering tree in front of them. Although it was very sparse, they were all 100 meters high, surrounded by vines and radishes, and the flowers were fragrant and the birds were singing. And on top of the tallest giant tree, there is actually a huge bird's nest, which is as big as 3 houses. The most peculiar thing is not because of its size, but because it is shining with rays of light. When I got closer, I finally saw that the materials used to weave the bird's nest are really extravagant. It is mainly woven from the fire nasturtium, silver silk god grass, purple jade fairy orchid, etc. There are many thousand-year-old fleece flower root, Ganoderma lucidum, ginseng and other spiritual things hanging on it. This huge bird's nest is simply a cornucopia. No wonder the 2 little beasts rushed forward in a hurry. Even Xiao Chen felt his heart pounding. It was so extravagant that it made people speechless. What kind of monster built it? Could it be a fairy among birds? Whizzing. The speed of the little snow-white beast was really too fast, and it rushed up the towering tree with the extra-large treasure bag that Xiao Chen had prepared for it earlier, mainly because it felt sorry when it left the undead gate, and felt that there were too few spiritual essences in the small package. What surprised Xiao Chen was that the little stubborn dragon could also climb the tree, and it was already near the bird's nest on the towering tree. Come back quickly, don't mess around. Xiao Chen shouted. However, how can the 2 little beasts manage so much now? Grabbing their favorite 1,000-year-old Polygonum multiflorum and Shen Wang, etc., and began to feast on them, and they were busy stuffing things into the treasure bag together. Xiao Chen spread out the immortal wings and rushed up, but at this moment, the two little beasts had already filled the extra-large treasure bag, and it was even more difficult for them to return those spiritual treasures than ascending to the sky. You too. Xiao Chen felt a little helpless, and said, I knew it was causing trouble. Since you don't want to pay it back, you should leave now. Whizzing. This time they were very obedient, they quickly rushed down the big tree, and then ran forward with Xiao Chen and the three skeletons. You guys are so reckless this time, do you know what kind of bird's nest it is? Xiao Chen said while running. There is a sycamore tree. If I guessed correctly, it must be a phoenix nest. Do you know that it is a race that is on an equal footing with the dragon clan? If it is discovered, the consequences will be very serious. This is not Dragon Island. The phoenix is not sealed like the dragon clan. They are all spiritual beings. The two little beasts also seemed to know about the phoenix clan, and nodded their heads vigorously to show that they knew it well. After running for more than 20 miles, Xiao Chen felt something was wrong. He felt that there seemed to be a wave of life between them that was not weak. Looking back, he saw that Kiki's extra-large treasure bag was carried on King Qinguang's back, and there was a faint glow coming out. He stopped suspiciously, with a bad premonition in his heart, quickly opened the extra-large treasure bag, and after digging through a pile of heaven and earth spirits, he found a head-sized Easter egg shimmering with rays of light, the source of life fluctuations. Xiao Chen had a big head at that time. If the two little beasts just stole some spiritual things, it would be fine. Damn it, they even copied the phoenix eggs, it was really thorough. How could the phoenix returning to the nest not be impatient? To be able to build such a phoenix nest is definitely not an ordinary phoenix. You too. Xiao Chen almost growled, who stole the phoenix egg? The two little beasts seemed to know that the trouble was not small, and they reacted extremely quickly. At the same time, they pointed the claws of the little beasts at each other, not accepting that it was their own doing. This made Xiao Chen lose his temper completely, and really didn't know what to say. The little snow-white beast and the little stubborn dragon pointed at the loop at the same time, as if asking Xiao Chen if he wanted to return it. But at this time, Feng Ming has already been heard from that direction, so how can I pay back? Run. Xiao Chen unfolded the immortal wings, hugged the two little guys with both hands, let King Qinguang hug his waist, and let King Yama and King Samsara hug his thighs. Then he spread out the sky wings, and rushed forward in the mountains and forests close to the ground, not daring to fly into the sky at all. If the phoenix found out, he would definitely be caught up. After flying for dozens of miles, Xiao Chen's already tired waist was almost broken, and the immortal sky wing was already dimmed. However, the voice of Feng Ming is getting closer and closer, and it seems to have locked onto them. Xiao Chen's immortal wings had already dimmed. If it wasn't for his profound skills, he would have been exhausted. After all, the immortal wings had just been cultivated not long ago, so flying with such a heavy load was really difficult. What made Xiao Chen feel depressed was that the two little beasts were very fresh and excited about being able to fly in the sky, and they didn't realize that they were avoiding the phoenix, which was comparable to the dragon family. The sound of Feng Ming was getting closer and closer, and it seemed that they had found their traces. Xiao Chen took a short rest, strengthened his energy, and performed the profound art again. His whole body shone with light, and the purple immortal wings stretched out from his back again. Of course, this was completely a product of energy, not a part of his body. Fast forward in the dense forest, the trees kept retreating like phantoms, they were flying and hiding, the speed had been raised to the extreme by Xiao Chen, but the voice of Feng Ming was always chasing after him leisurely, and he couldn't get rid of it at all. Xiao Chen gritted his teeth and flew for more than 150 miles. He couldn't hold on anymore. He felt that the three skeletons were as heavy as 3 hills, and even the two small beasts seemed to weigh more than 10,000 catties. After flying for more than 10 miles again, Xiao Chen reluctantly landed on the ground and did not run away anymore. He has already seen that the phoenix behind has already locked onto him, and is fully capable of catching up with him. It seems that he is deliberately torturing him, making him flee in fear. After waiting for a long time, endless coercion came down. The multicolored light was as dazzling as a round of scorching sun. People couldn't look directly at it, and couldn't see clearly the real body of the phoenix descending. An indifferent female voice came out from the light. Why didn't you run away? Continue. As if he had discovered something, there was a sound of surprise in the colorful light. Immediately after, Xiaoguang shrouded them. Although Xiao Chen didn't resist, the little stubborn dragon and the little snow-white beast resisted fiercely. Rusai said thousands of times, with the whistling of the wind in his ears, Xiao Chen and the others had been held hostage, and they were speeding through the sky. It seemed that they stopped after only a quarter of an hour, and then landed under the emerald green sycamore tree. Once again came to the habitat of the phoenix. The tallest sycamore tree was shining with green light, and the whole body was full of breath of life, and the huge phoenix nest above it was even more radiant and shrouded in auspicious colors. "How dare you break into my holy place and harm my niece? How brave you are!" The multicolored light floated in the air, and a cold voice came from inside, as if looking down at Xiao Chen and the others. "Hey, aren't they the parents of the unborn little phoenix?" Xiao Chen was a little surprised. It's just that he still feels a little headache. How to solve this problem? The phoenix girl in the sky is a divine existence. The misfortune was caused by the little snow-white beast and the little stubborn dragon, but he couldn't just push them out just to protect himself. After thinking for a while, Xiao Chen said, "Phoenix Holy Maiden, please listen to my explanation. We have absolutely no intention of harming anyone. It's all because these two little things are too naughty." He pointed to Kiki and the little stubborn dragon, and continued, "Originally, they just wanted to pick some spiritual things to satisfy their hunger, but they didn't want to hurry and take away the phoenix eggs. Do you have to come here to steal something to satisfy your hunger?" The woman's voice was still cold. "We've lost ourselves in the southern wilderness. We couldn't find a way out. We just happened to come here. You can tell that they are not mortal beasts, and they need to eat some spiritual things every day. Just when I saw the phoenix's nest hanging in the sky, it was full of treasures. I rushed over before I could stop it." The little snow-white beast nodded vigorously, looking very innocent, as if to say that it was true. Afterwards, he opened the extra-large treasure bag, and carefully lifted the phoenix egg, which was not much smaller than it, into the air. Little stubborn dragon also seemed to know what was wrong, and realized that the phoenix girl in the air was an existence that could not be provoked at all, and it was rare to stay there honestly, not like in the past when encountering stronger existences, he would challenge them more. The phoenix in the air didn't seem to be afraid of them destroying the phoenix egg at all, and never asked for it after catching up with them. Until then it emitted a multicolored light and received it in the air. "HMPH, if it weren't for the friendship of the fellow saints, I would never forgive you lightly." The dazzling multicolored light in the sky gradually calmed down, and the phoenix girl gradually revealed her true face. Xiao Chen knew it was talking about little stubborn dragon and KK. "This is an incomparably beautiful multicolored phoenix. The colorful divine feathers flow with a dreamy luster, and the soul-stirring holy aura envelopes its whole body, giving people a sense of peace and tranquility, and it is no longer as imposing as before. Thank you Phoenix Saintess for your generosity." Xiao Chen thanked and wanted to leave here as soon as possible. "HMPH, I didn't say I'd let you go." The colorful sacred phoenix was more than 3 meters long, standing in the air like a peerless beauty, with light waves in its eyes, and said, "You have to pay some price for your mistakes." Whoosh! The extra-large treasure bag on the ground soared into the sky and flew towards the phoenix nest. The stolen 1,000-year-old fleece flower root, golden old ginseng king, purple jade lotus seeds, etc. were all hung back on the shimmering phoenix nest again. KK blinked her big eyes vigorously, her reluctance was undisguised, and the little stubborn dragon was also very regretful, watching all this silently, but also knew that there was no way, because this was not theirs in the first place. But it didn't stop there. The multicolored rays of light flickered again, and the 3 packages carried by King Qin Guang and King Yan Luo soared into the sky and flew towards the phoenix's nest. The little snow-white beast Kiki was in a hurry at the time. This was not stolen from the phoenix's nest, but the spiritual essence that it had worked so hard to find from the southern desolate mountains in the past few days. Although it was far from comparable to the spiritual essence on the phoenix's nest, it was the result of its real labor. Immediately, it yelled loudly, and the little beast's claws waved again and again, using the confinement technique to take it back. At the same time, the little stubborn dragon also made a move, and its horn shot out a bright light, sweeping into the air. In the past, he only saw it fighting with brute force, and occasionally showed some ancient dragon fighting skills. This was the first time Xiao Chen saw the little stubborn dragon displaying supernatural powers. But even if the two little beasts join hands, it is impossible to win against the sacred phoenix in the air. I am afraid that even an adult dragon that has not been sealed may be defeated, and those spiritual things will fly away unstoppably. Kiki's heart ached so much, she kept yelling, "Yi-ya," angrily, as if shouting loudly that it belonged to her. The little stubborn dragon is also helpless. Although it has high fighting spirit and does not hesitate to fight with the holy phoenix in the sky, the unfathomable phoenix girl ignores the challenge message it sent, but chuckled lightly, saying, "When my niece is born, you can go and compete with it. Have no choice." Stealing the phoenix egg failed to reverse the 3 packages of spiritual essence. Kiki was furious, silently waved the little beast claw at the phoenix girl a few times, then turned her head and wanted to leave. Although the little stubborn dragon has a high fighting spirit, people ignore it at all, feeling that it can't use its strength. The phoenix girl was amused by them, and said, "You two disturbed my niece, and you still look wronged. You really want to beat me?" Advertisement. A friend's book called Blood Talisman, a story about a stunner's forbidden book, has been published in traditional Chinese. Chapter 140. Overbearing. 2 beams of multicolored light shot down, quickly sweeping Kiki and the little stubborn dragon into the air. The rays of light shone, and the 2 little beasts were thrown into the phoenix's nest. "Please forgive the 2 of them, Holy Maiden of the Phoenix." Xiao Chen didn't want to stay in this place any longer, and wanted to leave with the 2 little beasts. It's just that the phoenix girl has other plans. Her voice is no longer cold, but melodious like fairy music. She said, "You wait here for a while. For the sake of being a saint, I will beat them well, otherwise they will suffer a lot sooner or later." The so-called beating stunned Xiao Chen, made Kiki and the little stubborn dragon almost vomit blood, and the 2 little things rolled their eyes vigorously, and the phoenix girl actually asked them to hatch the phoenix eggs with their original power. Let the 2 little ones hatch the eggs. At that time, the 2 little beasts were impatient. They are characters who dare to defy the sky. At that time, I wanted to smash the phoenix eggs, but Nehi found that there were divine powers imprisoning them, and they couldn't damage them at all. On the contrary, their transparent power was absorbed by the phoenix eggs, and they changed their direction to hatch the phoenix eggs. The 2 little beasts couldn't help but keep screaming loudly. The celestial rosy glow is shining, the phoenix saint gently strokes the divine wings, and a floating island emerges out of thin air, with exotic flowers blooming on it, yao grass covering the ground, flying cranes, white apes dancing happily, a world where flowers are fragrant and birds are singing. There are also pavilions, small bridges and flowing water, just like heaven. The suspended sacred island, with a little bit of brilliance, floated not far from the phoenix's nest. The phoenix saintess turned around and flew towards it. Before landing on the island, she had already transformed into a graceful girl. However, Xiao Chen and the others could not see her true face, only saw a beautiful figure swaying away. It was the first time for the poor 2 little guys to be so deflated, but there was nothing they could do. The original power of the Holy Phoenix imprisoned them, and it was impossible to escape from the phoenix nest. They have to constantly run against the original force hidden in their bodies to ensure that they will not suffer from suppression, otherwise the halo covering them will continue to shrink and squeeze them. And the glow they emitted, after circulating in the phoenix nest, all surged towards the egg, which indirectly hatched the phoenix egg. The 2 little beasts were extremely depressed, but they had to be led away. Xiao Chen was extremely shocked. The phoenix nest was far from being as simple as it appeared on the surface. It actually incorporated a mysterious and unpredictable ancient formation. The reason why it was completely woven from the essence of heaven and earth was mainly to gather more spiritual energy. After watching it for a while, Xiao Chen felt its mystery. Those golden ginseng kings and 1,000-year-old polygonum multiflorum hanging on the phoenix nest were not dead. They glowed with vitality under the fusion of heaven and earth aura, absorbing the essence of the sun, the moon, and the brilliance of stars, and continuously transported their energy to the phoenix eggs in the nest. The phoenix nest is simply a treasure that gathers the aura of heaven and earth. After observing nearby for a whole day, Xiao Chen's conjecture was confirmed. Sunshine, moonlight, and the essence of vegetation surged like water waves, and even the essence of the spiritual roots of the earth surged up. Of course, the most striking abnormality was at night. At that time, one after another starlight could be clearly seen gathering from the sky towards the phoenix nest, making this place extremely bright, like a bright moon. 10 days passed in a flash, and the 3 skeletons practiced quietly under the phoenix tree, while Xiao Chen practiced hard on the phoenix tree. This place is full of spiritual energy, which is really the best place for cultivation. The 2 little beasts had lost their temper for a long time, and they were really afraid of the phoenix goddess. It was a kind of torture to change to hatch eggs. Although this seemed to be tantamount to cultivation, they wanted to run away immediately. Over the past few days, the floating island has appeared and disappeared from time to time, and its position is not fixed. It seems to be like a flowing cloud, floating within a radius of tens of miles. Xiao Chen was deeply astonished. The cultivation of this phoenix saintess was really terrifying. He couldn't estimate how powerful she was. On the 15th day, the phoenix girl flew out of the small island and transformed into a phoenix body after a long distance. After a flash of brilliance, she appeared on the phoenix's nest and said with a light smile, "Aren't the two little ones convinced?" The voice was crisp and sweet, extremely pleasant to hear, but to the ears of the two little beasts it undoubtedly sounded like a devil's smile. They nodded in unison hastily, not daring to lose their temper anymore. "That's good, hee hee." The colorful lights flickered, and Kiki and the little stubborn dragon were swept up by the rays of light and returned to the ground. The phoenix girl discovered the egg, and the life wave emitted by it was strong and powerful, which exceeded her expectations. She looked at the two little beasts on the ground and said, "I almost lost my sight." "Well, you are more extraordinary than I imagined. Could it be?" The two little beasts ignored them, wishing to escape from here immediately, but Xiao Chen listened quietly. He wanted to know the true identities of KK and the little stubborn dragon. I saw the Phoenix Saintess frowned, as if she was not sure, and did not draw any conclusions, but noticed the dim little tree above Kiki's head. The colorful light flashed, the little tree flew into the air, the Phoenix Maiden spread her divine wings lightly, and a piece of divine light shrouded forward. The small tree instantly burst into the sky with colorful divine light, and the black jade leaves, white jade leaves, jasper leaves, and golden jade leaves were even more radiant. "Ah!" the first Phoenix Saintess exclaimed, "Is this the legendary holy tree reborn?" Obviously she was very shocked. When KK was about to be anxious, she quickly sent the little holy tree back, as if she had deep scruples, and the little snow-white beast was confused, thinking that the big robber who was more powerful than it was going to rob its treasure tree, but she didn't expect to be sent back again. "Let's go." Phoenix Girl didn't seem to want to keep them any longer. Xiao Chen opened his mouth and said, "Please ask the Phoenix Saintess to point out a bright road. We wanted to go to Tiandi City, but we got lost in the southern wilderness." "Okay, I'll send you to that ancient road." But at this moment, the Phoenix Saintess frowned slightly again, and said to herself, "I really underestimated you this time." While speaking, she ignored the two little beasts on the ground, turned to face Xiao Chen instead, and said, "Show me the holy cloth on your body." The shroud didn't have any life fluctuations, but the Phoenix Saintess could still sense it, and it really was a spiritual power. Xiao Chen took it out, shook his hand lightly, and the shroud turned into a beam of light and flew into the sky. Phoenix Girl took it in her hand and looked at it again and again, then returned it to Xiao Chen without saying anything. Suddenly, there were thousands of auspicious colors in the world. Xiao Chen and the others were shrouded in it, and then the whistling wind sounded in their ears, and they landed on a dilapidated ancient road half an hour later. An extremely beautiful phoenix divine feather floated down from the sky and landed in Xiao Chen's hands, flowing with a soft luster as if alive, and there were faint bursts of fragrance rippling. "I delayed your time, and I will give you a feather as compensation." A voice like the sounds of heaven came down from the air, and the moment the Phoenix Saintess turned around, she turned into a dreamlike girl, with a back that was so extraordinary, she floated away. Kiki stared eagerly at the back of the Phoenix Saintess, and was extremely disappointed that she didn't see her heaven and earth spirits returned. Finally, she looked at the five-colored divine feather in Xiao Chen's hand and muttered a few times, as if saying it was unfair. Xiao Chen was thoughtful. 3 days later, Xiao Chen and the others were already hundreds of miles away, which was not too fast considering their speed. The main reason was that they were not in a hurry. "Along the way, we have to take care of the little stubborn dragon to fight the fierce beasts in the wild forest, and wait for the little beast Kiki to run from time to find the spirit grass." However, such a leisurely journey was broken after a few days, and it was already 800 miles away from Tiandi City. The little stubborn dragon let out an angry roar in the dense forest ahead, as if it had encountered great danger. Xiao Chen hurried forward, guessing that it might have encountered a powerful strange beast. Just when he approached the dense forest, he overturned his conjecture just now. He saw 5 young cultivators surrounding the little stubborn dragon and attacking it. This is definitely a group of masters. 3 of the women are spirit warriors, each of them floated in the air, and shot down 3 great divine lights to cover the little stubborn dragon, trying to freeze its body and make its movements extremely slow, while there were 2 other people on the ground who had no scruples to attack the little stubborn dragon, leaving it covered with scars. The second heaven of shedding mortals. Transcendence to the 6th heaven. Xiao Chen was slightly startled. Among the 5 young people, the lowest cultivation was in the 2nd level of the mortal state, and one of them had reached the 6th level of the mortal state. This is an absolute master among young people. Otherwise, how could it be possible to hold the little stubborn dragon, and let the blood flow from its invulnerable body? Xiao Chen rushed over like lightning, leaving an afterimage in the dense forest, and blasted out with a palm knife. As if a violent thunder swept across the forest collapsed in the dazzling light, and the wind was strong. There is no doubt about the cultivation base of the peak of the 8th heaven in the realm of metamorphosis. The light curtain shattered in an instant, and the bloody little stubborn dragon was rescued from a dangerous situation. Xiao Chen stood in the field, protecting the little stubborn dragon. His tall and straight body remained motionless, staring at the few people. Seeing this uninvited guest appearing in the field like wind and electricity, several people on the scene were also taken aback. "Who? Mind your own business." One of the men seemed very unhappy and stared at Xiao Chen angrily. Xiao Chen was also looking at him. Judging from the expressions of several people, this person seemed to be the leader among the 5, but in terms of cultivation, he was definitely not, because he was only a 3rd-level mortal, and beside him was a master of the 6th level. "I think we have misunderstood." Xiao Chen pondered for a while, and said, "This fighting beast is my partner, not a fierce beast in the wild forest. I hope you can raise your hand." It was the young man who was the leader who said, "Joke, your partner." "Huh." He looked so arrogant that he didn't see Xiao Chen in his eyes, and said coldly, "This is the fighting beast that I value, and it is an ownerless beast in the wild forest. It belongs to me." Xiao Chen didn't say anything immediately, but he had already started to calculate in his heart whether they could be completely wiped out if there was a conflict. Because these people are so arrogant, they seem to have a lot of status, and they are a bit overbearing, and reconciliation seems hopeless. Advertise for someone. The title of the book is Forbidden to Read This Book. Very strange name. Friends who are interested can go and see it.